Okay, boom. A colossal blast of energy just leveled some random patch of wilderness. In the middle of the smoking crater, a ridiculously shiny sword. And then, a voice echoes, Leon. The kid, Leon, is practically vibrating with nerves. The voice booms again. So, tell me, do you think you've got what it takes? He stares, heart pounding. For a guy who's always just rolled with whatever crazy thing fate threw at him, he reaches out, his hand crackling as it touches the blade's aura. A holy sword just pops up and starts talking to me. Sure, why not? The sword wasn't done. Everyone deserves a fair shot, it declared. He grabs the hilt, and zap, a wave of power surges through him. Am I wrong, Leon? The sword asks, as the kid struggles to stay on his feet, looking like he just licked a power socket. Flashback to a picture-perfect day at a gorgeous castle. This world. I think to myself, as the sharp clang of two wooden swords rings out. Two guys are going at it, sparring hard. And yeah, my first thought is completely and utterly unfair. The blonde dude flicks his wrist, sending his opponent's sword flying. It lands with a thwomp in the dirt. On the ground, Leon grips his throbbing hand. Damn it, Leon. Could you at least pretend to try? You saying I'm not even a decent warm-up. Leon grumbles. The other guy just smiles. Of course not. There isn't a single person at the Royal Academy who would spar with him if not for Leon. Leon, fuming, retorts. That's because he just toys with everyone, exactly like he's doing to me right now. Leon just says, I was going easy on you. But hey, you've definitely gotten better. Leon looks like he just swallowed a lemon. That does it. Leon scrambles up, grabs his sword, and lunges like a man possessed. It's that patronizing smirk. That's what I can't stand about you. Deflecting the blows effortlessly, a bystander remarks, Lion isn't even breaking a sweat. Man, he's incredible. Lion's just completely outmatched. He took down everyone else in a single hit. Another person chimes in. You think it's cause they have the same name. Yeah, our guy is clearly having a rough time. A spectator whispers, I mean, Leon is definitely the better-looking one. But yeah, they're both named Lian. Just then, another sword goes sailing through the air, almost catching the sun. And that's another loss for Leon, someone announces. Leon slumps against a low wall, panting. 3 years, he thinks, catching his breath. It's been 3 whole years since that guy transferred here, and I still can't touch him. No matter how hard I train, he sighs. We might spell our names the same, but that's where the similarities end. That guy and I are from different planets. His face, his personality. Everything about him screams main character in a fairy tale. That whole humble commoner story has to be a load of crap. He belongs in the noble class. Does he get some sick thrill out of constantly getting in my way? Speak of the devil. Leon appears out of nowhere, offering a hand. You all right? He asks, with that perfect smile. Leon just glares. If you were just a total jerk, this would be so much easier, he thinks, letting out a defeated sigh, grumbling. He takes the offered hand. But just then, a sharp voice calls out, Leon. Our hero's face immediately sours. The click-clack of high heels announces her arrival. She smacks Leon's hand away from his. Get away from him. The blonde guy looks completely baffled as the girl turns to Leon. Wait a second. She looks ticked off. You're hurt. Did you pick another fight with Leon? She scolds. Why do you keep doing this when you know you're just going to lose? Leon looks a little uneasy. Chloe, he starts, but she cuts him off. Her eyes fix on something. She snatches Leon's hand. Is that blood? Let me see. I'm taking care of this right now. He yanks his hand away. It's fine. He snaps. No, it's not. We need to clean it first. Look, it's not your problem. Okay, he says, his voice laced with irritation. Stop worrying about me. Chloe just stares, taken aback. With that, he spins on his heel and stalks off, leaving the other two standing there in awkward silence. Hours pass, and dusk starts to settle over the sprawling academy grounds. From a secluded grove, you can hear the steady thwack. Thwack. Thwack of wood hitting wood. Night has fallen completely, but Leon is still out there, relentlessly whacking a tree trunk. Thwack. He slams the wooden sword into the tree. If I just had blonde hair, or a powerful family backing me up, or a teacher half as good as his, or even a drop of noble blood, would any of this be different? He puts everything into one last swing, and crack, his practice sword shatters. He just stares at the splintered wood in his hand, fuming. In the end, all I have is my own hard work, he scoffs. And what good is that? In a world this unfair, there are some walls you just can't break down by trying harder. Then it hits him. Today is Leon's birthday. Of course, they're throwing a massive party for the golden boy of the Royal Academy. He chucks the broken hilt away and slumps down against the tree. Maybe I'll just try my best again tomorrow. I've already wasted 3 years of my life here, he thinks bitterly. What's one more day? He curls up on the ground, burying his face in his hands. Hot tears start to fall. But why? Why do I have to be the one to give up? If it's all rigged from the start, then what's the point of trying so damn hard? He sits up, the enormous moon hanging overhead like a spotlight. Oh, goddess. What's the point of all this? He screams into the night. What's the meaning of my life? Then nothing. Just him, the silence, and the bright, indifferent moon. He instantly feels like an idiot. Yeah, like she's actually going to answer. But then, a brilliant light tears across the sky. It's huge, blazing like a falling star, and it's getting closer. Meanwhile, back at the party, someone asks, "Hey, has anyone seen Leon?" Leon shakes his head. "I haven't." Chloe sighs, annoyed. "No one's seen him in the dorms. I figured he'd show up here eventually." She frowns. "Where could he be?" Thinking about him again, "I see," Leon comments quietly. She completely ignores him, gathers her skirts, and declares, "That's it. I'm going to find him." An older gentleman steps up beside Lion. "It seems your highness has been rebuffed." "Gilbert, don't call me that," Lion warns, keeping his voice low. "Not even when we're alone. If anyone heard you, my cover would be blown. Besides, I haven't earned that title." The man, Gilbert, just smiles warmly. A true royal only shines brighter when faced with adversity. "Happy 17th birthday, my lord. There is only 1 year left," Gilbert continues, "before the royal prophecy comes to pass. On the day a royal of the Clyde Empire turns 18, the reign of the regent who fears the prophecy and props up the current emperor will end. The people will then witness the return of Rodri, the first sacred king." Leon's eyes widen. "You mean, the legendary hero, dating back 300 years ago, and let's just say his expectations for the kid are through the roof." The man mused, "We'll see for sure next year. Until then, we just have to wait." There's Chloe, a prodigy who's already mastering 4th level magic, and then there's Leon, a grinder whose mental fortitude is second to none. He'd love to have both of them on his side. The old man then spoke of a prophecy. "On the day a man bearing the name of a lion comes of age, a sword that vanquishes evil shall descend from the heavens." Right in the center of a massive crater, a sword was pulsing with an incredible light. Leon stared, his whole body tense, thinking, "That's a sword." As he gazed at the stunning weapon, he couldn't help but wonder if it really did fall from the sky. Just then, a voice echoed, "Rise," which, understandably, put our hero on edge. He nervously glanced around and called out, Who's there?" The sword's voice replied, "Am I not right here in front of you?" This confirmed his wildest fear, and he stared intently at the blade. This whole situation was just plain bizarre, he thought. A sword was glowing like the sun and talking like a person. Could it be a holy sword? And as if reading his mind, the sword answered, "That's right." It then added that Leon was the one who had called it to this place. Startled, he blurted out, "Wait, I summoned you?" The sword explained, "Just as you've always felt, the world is fundamentally unfair. The rich get richer, while the poor lose what little they have. However," it continued, "some opportunities must be given to everyone equally. Those who refuse to put in the work have no right to complain about life's unfairness. Only those who burn with a fierce determination are truly worthy." The sword then posed a question. "Are you, Leon, the one who railed against the whims of fate, actually worthy of me?" Our hero shut his eyes, took a deep breath to center himself, and then opened them with a sharp focus. He finally answered with a simple, "Yes." Thumping his chest with a fist full of conviction, he declared, "I am absolutely worthy." The sword seemed satisfied. "In that case, take me. I will grant you the chance to prove it." He thought to himself that he had a pretty good idea of what wielding a holy sword entailed, but with a weapon like this, he might just be able to change his entire destiny. He recalled the man who had helped him when he was at his lowest, thinking about how deeply unfair his reality had always been. Remembering the day's earlier events, he thought about all the relentless training he'd endured, never skipping a single day. Lost in thought, he began to slide down the side of the crater. As he slid closer, he could feel the sword's immense power washing over him. "It's all just unfair," he muttered, realizing that his efforts had never been what people judged him on. He worked himself to the bone to fight against a world he couldn't stand. He refused to let all that grit and determination be for nothing. The weapon's voice rang out again. "Then why are you standing before me?" Leon shot back, "You asked if I was worthy. I'm here to prove that my hard work and resolve have earned me this chance, and it ought to be a fair one." When our hero finally said, "All right, I'm ready," the sword replied, "Good." As a colossal wave of energy exploded from behind him, the sword began to glow intensely and declared, "You have proven your character, hero." Shining even brighter, it commanded, "Now, pull me free." Leon was a bit confused. "Hero? You mean like the one from the oracle's prophecy?" But the sword clarified, "This has nothing to do with any oracle. It is my will alone. Your spirit refuses to bend to noble birth, to family, or even to fate itself. You seek to prove your own worth, not chase after gold or glory. You are the one who meets every condition, the one truly worthy of the title hero. Now draw me, she urged, her light growing almost blinding. This is the right you have earned. This is the opportunity that was granted fairly. With a renewed sense of purpose, he wrapped his hands around the hilt. The weapon introduced herself. My name is Elsid, a clone of the Holy King, Rodri Callas el Vivar. I am the blade that will guide the light of this new age. Now, my master, Leon, let us destroy evil together. A voice from afar mused. So, they've been summoned, have they? A holy sword and a commoner. This is starting to get interesting. He anticipated the question. Wondering why I decided to mess with a prophecy? Well, the name Leon also means lion. It was never exclusive to the royal family. Besides, he continued, the other lion just doesn't cut it for me. He has the talent and the destiny, sure, but he's got no grit. The kid hasn't grown up yet. And seeing as Elsid isn't putting up a fight, I'm guessing she's taken a liking to our Leon, too. Am I right? He chuckled to himself. You don't see that kind of thing happen too often these days. Don't you worry, he said to her. With my inheritance, Leon will be even greater than the last hero. It's high time those scoundrels paid their dues. Now, keep a close eye on the sky. Isn't that your job? Suddenly, our hero's eyes fluttered open. He seemed to be somewhere else entirely. He quickly realized he was in his own bed and thought, wow, was that all just a crazy dream? Still wiping a bit of drool from his chin, he sat up and glanced to the side, and there it was. The beautiful, glowing sword was leaning against his wall. He shook his head, trying to clear it, realizing it wasn't a dream at all. The sword spoke. Allow me to repeat myself. This was the opportunity you were given. He stared nervously at the weapon as it added, and don't get any funny ideas. You won't become stronger just by possessing me. You are now facing challenges far greater than the opportunity I've given you, she warned. Those with great destinies must also endure great hardships. You might have to sacrifice the woman you love or the friends you hold dear. She explained that he had chosen this thorny path himself for the chance to live an extraordinary life. Our hero just blinked. Thorny path? Wait a minute. I thought this was supposed to be an opportunity. The sword seemed taken aback for a split second, but she quickly composed herself, closing her small, single eye on the hilt and said, very well. Then prepare yourself. We head to the training grounds immediately. You will show me your swordsmanship. I need to assess your current skill level before I can properly instruct you. Consider this a test, she stated, making our hero gulp nervously. Looking up at the sky, the sword noted, it's still dark. The sun has yet to rise. Later that morning, Elsid asked, why have you been so fidgety? Leon replied in a hushed tone, because it's morning, we're at school, and I'm carrying a giant glowing sword. I kind of stand out. Elsid seemed genuinely confused by his logic. Leon continued, seriously, what am I supposed to say if someone bumps into me? Oh, don't mind me. Just my talking legendary weapon. His master conceded the point. I see. Even in this form, it may present difficulties. Fret not, I have a solution. Our hero perked up. A solution? Without warning, the sword began to shine brilliantly in his hand. In a flash, it dissolved into pure energy and flowed into the back of Leon's hand. He looked down to see a new, intricate mark where the holy sword now resided. Elsid's voice echoed in his mind. I have done this so you may use your hand as a scabbard. In this state, the mark is visible only to you, allowing me to instruct you at any time. Leon wonders, does that count for when I'm asleep, too? And his master is like, well, sometimes I doze off, sometimes I don't. But either way, she can't do a thing while Leon's out cold. The kid suggests, in that case, I could totally stand guard all night. But Elsid just calls that idea blasphemous. Getting a little fed up, the master tells him, all right, knock it off with the nonsense and just show me what you've got. Our hero admits, you'll probably be disappointed, but the sword reassures him, no, I won't be. That unexpected reply catches our hero completely off guard. Elsid explains that given his circumstances, he did the absolute best he possibly could, acknowledging all the hard work the boy has put in his entire life. She asks, seriously, what kind of teacher would blame a student for something they were never taught? That little pep talk lights a fire under Leon. He focuses, braces himself for the demonstration, and unleashes a massive swing right in front of him, followed by a series of energy-filled blows until he notices something feels different. He's gone through these motions hundreds of thousands of times before, but as he keeps swinging, it dawns on him that this power is only flowing into his hands because someone actually put their trust in him. Then, out of nowhere, Elsid yells for him to stop, making our tense and surprised hero jump. A little flustered, he asks, what's wrong? I was just, but Elsid cuts him off, warning, your sword isn't going to hold up like that. And just like that, his sword explodes into pieces, startling him. The fragments clatter to the ground as something else materializes before him, and Elsid asks, "Have you been using this the whole time without even realizing it?" She explains that grinding out the basics is a huge help in mastering it, but she never imagined it would be possible for someone who can't even use aura. Leon just asks, "What? What just happened?" Elsid, however, says he doesn't need to know that just yet, and that his skills won't get any better if he just has blind faith in them. She tells him she'll teach him all about it when he's ready. Crouching down, he realizes there's no way he can use that power right now. Elsid notes that he's trained his fundamentals really well, and she thinks just teaching him how to move his body will be enough for now. Leon asks, "Move my body? Isn't that just swordsmanship?" She retorts, "Oh, so you think you can swing a sword without using your hands?" Which leaves the poor guy feeling pretty dumb. She explains that learning how to properly move your body is the foundation of all martial arts, and even though he's trained hard, this is a whole other league. She announces she's going to test his physical abilities and tells him to start running. When Leon asks for how long, Elsid just says, "Until I tell you to stop," and adds that he needs to follow her commands the instant she gives them. He's going to be running on one leg and even doing handstands. A little intimidated, he thinks to himself that he's a pretty confident runner, but he's definitely never tried to run across the training grounds on one leg or while doing a handstand. And even if he has no earthly idea what the point of all this is, if it'll make him stronger, he's all in. Meanwhile, an observer notes that he's an incredible canvas, one absolutely worth painting on. He'd heard an old saying from the East that described Leon perfectly: a complete vessel, just waiting to be filled to the very brim. And even if he only inherits a small piece of the swordsmanship and experience of the past heroes, he'll, at the very least, become a master swordsman. But after 300 years, he would never let his successor stop at just being a master. Leon should be able to take down a dragon with ease. He figures he doesn't know how tough this era's demon king is, but maybe half of Leon's power will be more than enough. Then she pipes up, hey, what's with that surprised look? I've already made up my mind, so you better pay close attention." For Leon, however, it's going to feel like the gates of hell are creaking open. Back at the academy, Leon is dozing off, his head resting on his hand, when Elsid's sharp tone calls out his name. He jolts awake, sputtering, "I'm listening." I definitely did not fall asleep. Back in the classroom, he's trying with all his might to pay attention, but he's just so drained from Elsid's test. Besides, he thinks, making sure he doesn't miss a single one of Elsid's lessons is way more important. Just then, the sword says, "I've figured out where to begin your training," and asks, "From your point of view, what do you think you're lacking?" Leon guesses, "My swordsmanship, maybe, or aura," but Elsid tells him he's wrong. "It's your eyes," she says. Stunned, our hero just repeats, "My eyes." She then explains an old proverb: eyes, feet, courage, strength. She lays it out that observation is the most crucial skill, followed by footwork, and then bravery. And as Leon listens in utter disbelief, the sword finishes by saying that pure strength actually comes last. But she quickly adds that, of course, it doesn't mean she thinks it's unimportant. It just means the others are a higher priority, she says. There are a few things in that saying I disagree with, but the eyes being the most important, that part is 100% true. This leaves our hero deep in thought about his eyes. He starts wondering if maybe rolling them around would improve his vision, and begins making a bunch of bizarre faces. And Elsid just says, "Now, you're going to learn how to truly see. I'm going to show you just how useless your eyes have been until now." Leon is surprised and clearly confused. On a beautiful day at the academy, the lecture continues to torture our hero while he mulls over how to see. Is this really it? Elsid tells him to look straight ahead, and our hero does just that. She tells him to use the professor at the blackboard as a focal point and to memorize everything for just 10 seconds. So, he tries to focus, noticing the dark blue blackboard, a middle-aged man with gray hair and green eyes, among all the other little details in the scene. "Time's up," Elsid says. "Close your eyes." Our hero obeys, squeezing his eyes shut with concentration. And then the sword asks how many lines were written on the blackboard, leaving our hero absolutely crushed. Leon protests, "You told me to look at the teacher." But Elsid corrects him, "I said he was the focal point, not that you should only times look at him." He realizes he was just staring at the teacher and has absolutely no clue what was written on the blackboard. "You don't remember?" Elsid asks. "I'm positive the board was in your field of vision, but you can't remember anything about it other than the teacher." And after looking for 10 full seconds, "Two," she presses. "Why can't you remember anything about the board?" Totally defeated, our hero says he doesn't know, but the sword says it's simple. She explains, "It's because you only tried to look at what you thought was important." She says that our eyes are wasted far more than he can imagine. Maybe it's a way to filter out unnecessary information, but most people don't use their full field of vision at all. She tells him to focus on his entire field of view and to memorize every single shape reflected in his eyes as if he were looking at a drawing. Just relax your eyes, she says, and that's how you'll discover how to see more broadly. All right, the next part is doing that all the time, not just for a measly 10 seconds. He figured this would be impossible, but he never expected this training to be a cakewalk, so he couldn't exactly start whining now. Okay, look above the blackboard this time, she tells him. You get another 10 seconds. Leon nods. Right, but as he starts to focus, he can feel other people's eyes on him. The blonde-haired Leon looks over, calling his name with a hint of concern. By the time late afternoon rolls around, our guy looks more like a zombie than an aspiring hero. He's pretty sure his eyes are about to pop out and his skull is ready to split in two. Meanwhile, Elsid is chipper as ever. Excellent. Things are going perfectly. She explains that the strain in his eyes is just because they're dry or he's tensing up too much. But that killer headache he's feeling, that's something else entirely. The pain was coming from his dormant attribute finally waking up and unfreezing itself. She explains that it's basically the same thing as muscle soreness. So, you're saying it's like my brain is sore from a workout? Leon asks. The sword replies, that's the gist of it. A bit different, since brains don't technically feel pain. But yeah, think of it that way. Besides, she continues, suddenly getting a crazy look in her eye, we're going to keep training. He just says he understands. Now, look at that chandelier up there. How many candles does it have? Our hero squints and guesses. 2. But the sword snaps back. It's 3. You moron. What about that guy who walked past 3 seconds ago? Was he wearing glasses or not? Leon replies, he was, and she immediately fires back. Was he wearing a tie? A bit later she asks, the 12th room on the left, was the light on? Our hero says it was. And the one right above it? Leon just stammers out a mix of yes and no. They keep this up all over campus until they finally get back to the safety of Leon's room, where he lets out a massive internal scream. He clutches his face, practically writhing in agony. Elsid comments, pretty decent for the first day. You even get bonus points for not begging me to stop or take a break. Leon groans. And you would have let me rest if I'd asked? The sword replies with a simple, nope. He couldn't remember the last time he'd been pushed this far. His mind felt like absolute jelly. Elsid then lectures, getting too comfortable is just another way of saying you stopped improving. You can only get so far by doing the same old thing. And even though there are benefits to repetitive drills, it's a huge problem once your body finds the easy way out. The easy way out? Leon asks. She explains, your body gets used to the routine and finds shortcuts. That's why switching things up is absolutely crucial. It clicks for our hero. Is that why we did those weird running exercises? The sword confirms it. Yep, I needed you to start noticing things you're not used to. The kid looked thoughtful after that. She continues, explaining that how people train and live actually shapes their bodies, their bones, muscles, and even their nervous systems develop in different ways. Sailors develop an incredible sense of balance, hunters have an internal compass, and nomads develop eyesight that's off the charts. Leon feels like he gets it now. This training was all about playing to his strengths while fixing his weaknesses, and Elsa decided this was the best place to start. The sword lays it out for him. Your strengths are the stamina you've built up, your positive attitude, and your solid grasp of basic sword techniques. And your biggest weakness is that you're too stiff, both mentally and physically, because you've done nothing but the same drills over and over. Leon then asks about aura and swordsmanship, but Elsie just seems to get annoyed. Look, she huffs, swordsmanship is just a fancy word for how you swing a sword. If you can use the fundamentals and adapt them to any situation, that's all it is. Sure, there are some crazy powerful sword styles out there, she explains, then bonks her hilt against his head. But who in their right mind would teach a legendary technique to some kid who's only offering a pinky promise of loyalty? After thinking about it, our hero has to admit, you're right. The sword just watches him, sizing him up. She goes on. And when it comes to aura, there's not much to talk about yet. The other Liam beat you with his aura, right? Imagine the questions people would ask if a nobody like you started using it. It would raise way too many red flags. So, I'll teach you about aura after you've left the academy. For now, you need to master the art of seeing. Feeling determined, Leon pumps a fist. Right, I'm getting totally hyped, but the sword just says, that's not going to be enough. What? The boy asks, confused. She sighs, didn't we just go over this? You'll get used to any repetitive training, no matter how focused you are. She reminds him that he's bound to get bored with the same old methods eventually. Leon starts to get a really bad feeling about this. He stammers, so, what are we going to do? The sword casually replies, oh, nothing major. I'm just going to give you a little punishment every time you get an answer wrong. You won't have the luxury of getting comfortable, and we're starting tomorrow. Leon is filled with absolute dread at the thought. Asterisk punishment. Asterisk Elsid adds, I'm not just bullying you. It's a very effective method called operant conditioning. Your willpower and gung-ho attitude are great, she says, but you still need a little nudge. Our hero stammers a bit, but he knows she's right. If punishment is coming one way or another, he might as well brace himself and just get on with it. Besides, this will build some resilience, right? He thinks. Elsid asks if he's absolutely sure he wants to do this. He gives a shaky thumbs up and says, yeah, bring it on. A second later, a massive scream rips through the room as he's hit with intense pain. Huh, was that really just 5 seconds? The sword wonders aloud as our hero collapses onto the bed, out cold. My bad, Elsid says. First time. So I couldn't get the calibration right. I'll take it easier next time, she says with a grin. Then again, if you keep getting things wrong, I'll just have to crank it up. All you have to do is get it right, and everything will be fine and dandy. Let's give it our all tomorrow, she cheers. Our hero, currently a fried heap on the floor, can only think that this freaking sword is a demon. The sun rises over the academy, and our hero is already out there, pushing himself to the limit again, all with that chatty sword, or maybe it's his spirit, perched on his shoulder. During class, the professor is getting visibly uncomfortable with the weird, intense staring coming from one of his students. He's back in his room, going all out with his training and pushing himself to his absolute breaking point. Outside, Elsid starts quizzing him. How many pigeons are on the dorm roof? And our guy answers, 10. All right, which one flies away first? She asks. He calls back, the 6th one. She then asks, how many pigeons are on the open windowsill? To which Leon replies, there aren't any. That's a crow. Elsid remarks, not half bad, especially since it's only been a month. That crow was tough to spot, but you still barely scraped by. Full of wishful thinking, Leon asks, so, does this mean we can take a break? He's desperately hoping for some downtime after a solid month of this. Out of nowhere, the blonde Leon appears, calling out his name, which completely catches him by surprise and leaves him a bit flustered. A few seconds of awkward silence hang between them. Then, our hero turns to face him with a defiant look and says, well, it's been a minute, Leon. He thinks to himself that he hasn't laid eyes on the guy since his training with Elsid began. Come to think of it, it's probably been 2 weeks since they last spoke. The blonde boy notes, training right after lunch? That's so you. I actually came by because I was a little concerned, he admits. But I see I didn't need to be. Our hero just asks, concerned about what? It's been a whole month since my challenge, he explains. I figured you'd given up like the rest of them. But judging by the look on your face, you seem pretty eager. Leon smirks. Is it that obvious? The other boy smiles back. Yep. The expression on the faces of people who think they can actually beat me is totally different from yours. Pleased with that answer, Leon grins. Huh, good for you. So that's why you hunted me down during lunch, then. In that case, why don't you get going now that you said your piece? The blonde boy sighs. Ouch, so cold. It's been a while since we've gotten a chance to talk like this. Why not chat for a little longer? He suggests. Our hero retorts, what is there to even talk about? The other boy just smiles. 10 minutes is all I need. Leon scratches his head, not quite sure how to reply. In the end, he caves and sits down beside him. They sit quietly for a few moments, just taking in the view. Eventually, the blonde Leon breaks the silence. I'm guessing you've heard the rumor. The one about me not being a commoner. Finding the whole thing ridiculous. Our Leon asks, rumor? Huh? Did you really need to bring that up? It wasn't like you were trying to hide it. Should I start addressing you more formally now? That's not why I started this conversation, he clarifies. Think of this as me, the Leon who's hiding his identity, talking to you not as your upperclassman. Our hero is a little taken aback by his words, but he relaxes and says, sure thing. Do you know why I accepted those duels in the first place? The other guy asks. Thinking back, our Leon replies, yeah. He knew the guy could have just said no, without any real blowback. He could have easily avoided every fight without blowing his cover. The duels only continued out of his own goodwill. Annoyed, he thinks. Asterisk. This is just the victor being generous. Asterisk. Just as he's thinking that, the blonde says, we should just end this already, which catches our hero completely off guard and makes him tense up. The disbelieving boy asks, you mean, end it for real? There's no point in dragging this out, the other one says. The next duel will be our last. Pure swordsmanship, no aura, and we'll use real blades instead of wooden ones. The gravity of the proposal hits our hero hard, and he tries to process it one step at a time. With a challenging look, the blonde adds, and if I win the fight, you become my subordinate. Feeling a surge of anxiety, the boy wonders if this is some kind of play to establish a pecking order. He says to the other, this is basically a wager. Then, what kind of guarantee do I have? He asks. This isn't some magic contract, it's just your word. It could be broken anytime. The blonde agrees. If it were anyone else, that would be true. But you, he continues, are an unbending man whose pride got him here, and you'll take me at my word. you're the type to keep a promise, no matter what. Leon confirms the terms. So if I lose, I become your subordinate. The other boy nods, and Leon looks like he's about to say something else. A flash of excitement crosses his face as he asks, "And what happens if I beat you?" That single thought seems to completely reignite his motivation. The other Leon, however, doesn't even flinch at the idea. He simply says, "I'll give you anything you want, so long as it doesn't bring shame to my honor or my family." Grinning, Leon says, "All right, I'll decide on the day of the duel." "Deal." As he's walking off, the blonde calls out, "Let me know when you're ready. The location needs prep, so I need to know 3 days in advance." They each turn and walk away with a new sense of purpose. A narrator notes that their moment has finally come. Leon, chosen by the whims of the sacred sword, and Leon, the prince scheming to take the throne. This is where their true battle will finally begin. But something seems off with our hero. He looks a little rattled by all this. Not getting it, the being asks, "What's going on? Are you getting nervous and scared now, after coming all this way? You were doing just fine a second ago," Leon answers. "It's not really that. I just honestly want to know if I've actually gotten any stronger." Elsid seems a bit puzzled by his response. Looking down at his calloused hand, the boy says, "This past month of training was incredibly tough, but I just don't feel like I'm any stronger for it," he adds anxiously. The sword listens quietly, wearing a thoughtful expression. The talking weapon explains, "You might not realize it yet, but you're much stronger now. Because of that, you don't need to worry." Elsid adds that his enhanced perception is a different kind of strength, and that's why he can't feel it. He hasn't had a chance to use it properly yet. "But," she says, "I've taken a few other measures besides that." Cutting in, the entity asks, "You have that physical assessment later, right?" The boy agrees. "Just wait," it says, pulling its arm back dramatically, "because something beyond your wildest dreams is about to happen." The entity smiles. "I'll bet you can't even live up to that big talk." A little concerned, Leon has no idea what to expect. A man shouts to a group of boys, "All right, line up according to your numbers. If anyone isn't feeling well, step out now. The rest of you, start warming up." Miserably nervous, our hero remembers that in the last assessment, he was the 9th one called. Even when they test physical skills without any mana, the top spots are always snagged by the nobles. Considering that, hitting 9th place was pretty much the ceiling. When Leon asks what the other Leon ranked, the kid just casually says he's number 1. The sword chimes in that it makes sense, since the blondie obviously puts in the work, though not nearly as much as our hero. Plus, he's in a whole different league than the pampered brats from the other noble families. So, for the short-distance race, they have to do 2 full laps around the field, which comes out to about 800 meters. And in that race, the other guy clocked in at 1 minute and 20 seconds. Our Leon, on the other hand, finished in 1 minute and 40 seconds. That 20-second gap is exactly why the other kid is considered untouchable. But the sword, brimming with confidence, tells him not to psych himself out before he even starts. After all, our boy's got her on his team now. As he lets that sink in, he agrees to put his faith in Elsid. The two of them get ready to race. "Ready, set, go," the evaluator shouts, waving the flag. All the students blast off the starting line, each one determined to be the fastest. But one of them is clearly not messing around and goes all out, leaving everyone else completely stunned. Even the blonde Leon is just standing there with his jaw on the floor as our guy rockets past the entire group. He's pushing himself to the absolute limit, holding on to first place. The kid is moving like that famous blue hedgehog. A girl with a stopwatch starts yelling for him. She shouts out that Leon finished in 1 minute and 29 seconds. He's absolutely ecstatic, while his biggest rival is suddenly looking a little rattled. The evaluator walks over and asks if he's learned how to use aura, but he says no. The man presses him, wanting to confirm that he really didn't use any. He takes the boy's arm, and it feels like he's scanning his mana flow. Leon figures the guy is pouring mana into him to check for something, knowing full well that if he was times using aura, a test like this would snuff it out immediately. The man looks shocked, realizing our hero really hasn't learned it yet. He still can't wrap his head around how much he's improved in just a few weeks and asks what kind of training he's been doing. Leon just sheepishly says he's been sticking to the basics and actually taking more rest days. The instructor thoughtfully flips through his records, noting that the boy's training regimen used to be borderline insane. He wonders aloud if maybe his body just got stronger from all the rest after years of overworking it, but then quickly dismisses the thought as ridiculous, while the other students just stare with pure envy. Even blonde Leon looks pretty uneasy with how things are playing out. Our hero quietly whispers to Elsid, "Okay, what on earth just happened?" The sword coolly replies that things went exactly as she said they would. Leon, practically pleading, begs the sacred sword for some answers. But before getting to that, she asks him a question. Biologically speaking, where do you think real strength comes from? The young man answers, "From your muscles, right?" Elsie explains that in this world, most physical training is all about bulking up, but that's only half the story. She continues, saying that your muscles are all connected to your nervous system, and the amount of power they can unleash depends on how well developed those neural pathways are. Because of those neural connections, pure strength isn't just about how ripped you look. Leon is struggling to process this, thinking to himself that he's never heard anything like it in his entire life. Muscle density is determined by genetics, and there's a natural limit to how big your muscles can get. A limit our boy had already hit thanks to his brutal training. In short, Elsid concludes, I focused on training your nervous system. He replies that he sort of gets it. Still baffled, he asks how she even did that, saying he never did any training like that and wondering if she did something to him in his sleep. The weapon reveals that it was all part of his punishment, and he's just left completely floored by her answer. For a second, he retreats into that private mental space where only he and the sword can interact, standing stock still while everyone else just wonders what's wrong with him. So that's why his muscles ached so much. It was because something dormant inside him had been unleashed. And the excruciating pain he felt every time he failed the vision training, that was all part of the process of developing his nervous system. The hero asks why Elsid didn't just tell him this from the start, and the sword bluntly replies, because you would have gotten all depressed about it. Leon just makes a weird, unreadable face. As he listens to the sword explain that mastering the vision training was his only escape from the pain, he suddenly remembers a conversation with one of his teachers. Then he flashes back to another moment with a fellow student, realizing that hearing the reason for his punishment made him understand why he had to go through with it. Elsid adds that if he hadn't gone through all that, he never would have been so laser-focused. Finally, she drops a heavy hint for him to say thank you. I just did what needed to be done, and I feel fantastic now that everything is going so swimmingly. Leon starts to wonder if she isn't more of a demon sword than a sacred one. He even questions if the sword truly holds the soul of the great hero Rodri, and if so, maybe Rodri was actually the villain all along. As if snapping out of a daze, the boy hears the other students erupt in cheers. And yep, just as you'd expect, the blonde kid just broke his own record. The boy shoots a smug, triumphant look straight at our hero, who glares back with pure annoyance. And hey, you can't blame him. He came in second place and still couldn't beat his biggest rival. It would have been a miracle to surpass him in just 1 month, and he knows he shouldn't be too down about it. But deep down, it still stings a little. Even so, Leon, who used to be stuck somewhere between 1st and 9th, had just skyrocketed to the number 2 spot. He feels a rush of excitement, thinking to himself, I can win. No, I will times win. Back in the dorms that night, all ready for bed, the boy asks what kind of training they'll start tomorrow. Elsid tells him that the vision training was about way more than just memorization. She says there's not much more they can do for his physical stats right now, so it's probably better to get some real-world experience. The boy agrees, adding that it's tough to do that in a real fight. And for that very reason, the sword suggests they should sneak out of the academy. Leon's eyes light up. Wait, you can teach me swordsmanship. But the sacred object is quick to shoot that down, saying, in your dreams. She explains that to even begin learning swordsmanship, he has to master aura first. Once he does that, the fundamentals will be more than enough to get by. Without aura, martial arts are just a bunch of cheap parlor tricks. Look, secret techniques are only a problem the first time you lay eyes on them. Once someone figures out your moves, you're easy pickings. And honestly, do you really think the other Leon would fall for such amateur hour tricks? So what am I supposed to do then? He asked, completely frustrated. Elsa just calmly replied, you have to channel your emotions. Thinking back on blonde Leon's victory and his own record-breaking time, the sacred object mused, a blade forged through countless hours of hard work holds true power. Your physical prowess is now on a similar level. At this rate, not even your main rival will be a match for you. After a dramatic pause, the sword added, eat my shorts. She stated that what he really needed was actual combat experience and then asked if there was anyone around who was just dying to pick a fight with him. He immediately shut that line of thinking down, convinced there was no one like that at the academy. The next day, however, his talk with Elsid was still bouncing around in his head. Out of nowhere, a voice called out, hey, are you the commoner named Leon? A group of boys was watching him from the top of a staircase. As he focused on them, he noticed a crest on one of their uniforms and realized they were nobles. How in the world did a commoner take second place? One demanded angrily. They were positive he had used some kind of cheap trick that even duped the instructor, but they insisted that they wouldn't be so easily deceived. Leon thought to himself how incredible it was that you could find jerks like this absolutely anywhere before he addressed their issue with the rankings. Our hero suggested that the group should take their complaints to the instructor if they were that unhappy, which left the trio sputtering in disbelief, wondering how a guy like him had the nerve to speak to them that way. The guys shot back, asking how they were supposed to know what kind of stunt he pulled, pointing out that he hadn't even sworn loyalty, and that him getting ninth place to begin with was already suspicious. They claimed his true nature was finally showing and demanded to know which family was secretly sponsoring him. Leon noticed they weren't paying the slightest bit of attention to what he was saying. The hero figured they never had any intention of actually talking things out. In their view, he was just an annoying weed that they wanted to pull. Another person emerged from behind the group on the stairs. The newcomer advised them not to get upset, adding that even if the boy was a commoner, they were all fellow students at the same academy. The crowd that had gathered to watch the confrontation showed clear signs of admiration. Lord Elman explained that nobles refer to the punishment they dish out as maintaining their dignity. After finishing his speech, he asked the others for their opinion, and they eagerly agreed, remarking that it was exactly what one would expect from the pride of the Bourbon family. Elsid mentally asked if this was their leader, and if he was from a prominent family, to which our hero replied that he was the second son of the Bourbon house. This was the guy who had always placed second in the physical exam. He was probably just salty that Leon had taken his spot. The old story of nobles picking on the weak and the weak pushing back against them never changes. Elman said it was a pity that his first meeting with Leon had to be under such circumstances. The young man said our hero might feel this was unfair, but that nobles couldn't simply let such matters slide. He held out his hand and said, "I hope you'll accept our proposition." The boy replied that he'd like to hear the proposition first. The other nobles seethed at his response, but Lord Elman quieted them with a single gesture. Elman proposed that they hold a series of matches, all properly supervised by an instructor. With a defiant look in his eyes, Leon realized this was how it was going to play out. The two of them exchanged deceptively calm smiles. It might have seemed like the noble was making a generous offer by involving an instructor, but our hero knew he was at a massive disadvantage. Since Elman never added a condition banning the use of aura, it was obvious he planned to use it to his full advantage. He understood that if he tried to object, they would just twist it to make him look like he was trying to deceive the instructor. He also knew that even if he refused the duel, they would find some other way to drag his name through the mud. Leon turned his head, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. His eyes met those of the blonde Leon in the midst of the onlookers. Our hero knew that the other boy could probably get him out of this mess. A moment later, the young man clenched his jaw. He knew, thoughtfully, that depending on his rival for help would be no different from begging. And picturing that humiliation, which would be far more intense than their current taunts, Leon accepted the challenge. Raising his eyebrows, Elman seemed mildly surprised that the boy took his offer. In response, our hero demanded that instructor Helmet supervise that they only fight one person per day, and that they promise to never doubt his abilities again if he won. He then looked the noble square in the eye and asked if he could accept the counter-offer. Leon suggested this because the Academy's infamous demon instructor could spot a trick a mile away. Coincidentally, as his name was mentioned, the man himself felt his ears start to burn. In the end, the Lord agreed to his terms. Our boy didn't really care who supervised the fight, but he did think it was a shame he wouldn't get to beat them all to a pulp. Back in his dorm, the boy complained that the jerk had such a smug look on his face, and that he never thought this was how he'd get his real battle experience. Elsid noted that, purely from a results standpoint, it was a great outcome. After a bit of hesitation, Leon asked if the sword thought he could win without being able to use aura. The sword bluntly said probably not, since he'd never fought an aura user before. Then the sacred object seemed to have a stroke of genius and asked if she should show him a way to make things a little easier. Not really following, the boy just asked. What? Incredibly excited, Elsid snapped her fingers, saying that this particular method should be the simplest way. A screen then materialized in front of our hero, showing his name, his level of -18, a couple of skills, and a class listed as Hero, no aura for you addition. A little stunned, he asked the sword what it was, and she replied, "What else would it be? It's a snapshot of your current abilities." Then she switched the screen and announced, "And these are the stats for that brat, Elman." She then explained that she put them together using his own standards, so the numbers weren't exactly objective. Shocked, our hero asked if that Elman kid was actually that pathetic. He argued that as the second son of a count, Elman should have been downing every elixir under the sun and getting all kinds of special training. But Elsid explained that even if you take a ton of elixirs, if you can't properly absorb them, you just end up average. And his training regimen, she continued, is nothing compared to yours. Most people would assume that without aura, you'd hit a ceiling at E rank with just 99 points. However, she said, her tone full of admiration, because of your insane training and your ridiculously fast growth, you can shatter that limit completely. Elsid added that with her support and his own grit, he could totally take on those goons even without aura, which honestly caught our hero by surprise. He asked, "You mean I won't lose on a purely physical level?" And figured if that was the case, then things were fine, just like Elsid said. The sword just sat there, quietly waiting for him to figure things out. Our hero decided then and there he was aiming for the very top, not just settling. There was no way he'd ever lose to a chump like Elman again, his face set with fierce determination. But he couldn't help but wonder why the terminal displayed his title as the hero who still can't use aura. To that, Elsa just said, "If you don't like it, then get stronger." It was a beautiful day, just outside one of the gates to the academy. Our hero was just walking through the halls when someone called his name. Looking over, he saw his instructor watching him. The man commented, "You seem to have changed a lot in just 1 month." He added, "I was prepared to step in if you were acting foolishly, but it looks like you have things under control, wouldn't you say?" Our hero just played it cool and replied, "I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, sir." With a smile, the man said, "Playing dumb, are we? Well, just do your best," leaving Leon more confused than ever. Elsid, totally pumped, told him to go teach those idiots a real lesson, then asked if he understood what she meant. And this time, it finally clicked for Leon. As he stepped into the hall, he saw it was already packed with students. He walked forward with a look that meant business. The moment he entered, a scowling kid yelled at him, "How dare a commoner like you make me wait? You act like the rules don't even apply to you." Completely ignoring the outburst, he looked at the instructor and said, "I'm ready to begin." To which the man simply replied, "Very well." The instructor then announced, "Both of you will be staking your names and your honor on this match, with myself as the witness. Jeff Heinrich, what do you wish to gain from this contest?" Fuming, the boy spat out, "I want this peasant to confess to his crimes," while our hero just stared back at him with a dead serious expression. Helmuth then turned to Leon, asking, "And what do you want from this match?" The boy simply stated, "I want this to be the last time he ever bothers me." The instructor clapped his hands together and said, "All right," he instructed them, "both of you, take 2 steps forward and get into your stances." Chloe and Leon watched the match start, thinking he was at a major disadvantage since he couldn't use aura. Even a wooden practice sword can cut you if it's infused. Elsid asked our hero if he wanted to look at the other guy's stats, but he said no. He explained, "It's fine. No matter how strong he thinks he is, he's just one of Elmon's cronies. There's no need for me to rely on your power for someone at his level." But then, out of the blue, the other kid just bolted across the arena, screaming as he charged at our hero with his wooden sword raised. Leon analyzed the attack, thinking, he's coming in with a diagonal slash from top right to bottom left. It was such an obvious move that he figured it had to be a feint and decided to wait. So, he held his position, watching the blade descend toward his head, and a single thought crossed his mind. Man, why is this guy so slow? With a lightning-fast counter, he dodged the strike and cleanly bopped the kid on the head. The move made the instructor's jaw drop and sent a wave of fear through the other boy's friends. Even Chloe and the blonde Leon were completely stunned. Heinrich just stood there, frozen solid with a red mark on his forehead, drooling and shaking a little. Feeling a bit uneasy, our hero glanced back, wondering what that kid's problem was. To his complete astonishment, the boy then toppled over and hit the floor like a sack of bricks. As Leon wondered if it was really over that quickly, the boy on the ground groaned in pain, struggling to get a word out. Pushing himself up with immense difficulty. He snarled, "Don't think you won with that lucky shot. I just messed up." Getting angrier by the second, he yelled, "Let's go again. You're gonna fight me one more time." The instructor stepped in. "Jeff Heinrich lost. I will not permit any more of this disgraceful behavior." Our hero just smiled and said, "All right then." That simple response seemed to shock both the boy and Helmuth. Heinrich let out a harsh laugh. "For a commoner, you sure know your place." Leon's smile just grew wider. "Fine. I won't go easy on you this time." Something inside the sword spoke to him, saying, "Try not to end it in one hit this round." As the two of them faced off again, the instructor gave the command to begin. Elsid commented, "This is your first time using vision in a real battle, you know. Considering I volunteered to be your training dummy, you should know that one-hit knockout was just you being merciful." So, our hero replied, "Got it." At that moment, the other boy charged recklessly at Leon again with another over-the-top swing. Our hero parried the attack effortlessly. Focusing, he put his vision training to use and realized the guy was practically moving in slow motion. He could see the movement of his arms, his legs, even the darting of his pupils, allowing him to predict his every move. Elsid explained, "Because you've figured out his tells, you can anticipate exactly what he's going to do next." Heinrich kept on attacking, and our boy continued to defend with ease. But this time, something was different. He noticed the wooden sword actually sliced off a tiny bit of his hair. He realized Heinrich had started using aura, but even with that power-up, he could still read his movements perfectly. The boy screamed maniacally, "Try your best to dodge these attacks," Elsid commented. To think he'd go on such a reckless offensive against someone who just wiped the floor with him. What an amateur. He doesn't even know how to manage his stamina during a fight. While defending, Leon thought to himself that even enhancing your physical skills with aura has its limits. After blocking another strike, our hero saw it. He realized he found a clear opening and attacked without mercy, landing a solid hit on the boy's leg. The kid definitely felt that one and became even more enraged. Heinrich then leaped back, putting some distance between himself and Leon. Clutching his injured leg, he screamed that his opponent was an idiot for not finishing him off when he had the chance. He boasted that an attack like that would never be enough to take him down, but a split second later, something felt off, and he was pummeled by a relentless barrage of hits. Elsid asked our hero what he thought, and Leon replied, "It's just like you said. If you want to train vision, a moving target is the best way to do it." As Heinrich struggled to get up again, he desperately yelled, "I give up." Instructor Helmuth announced, "The winner is Leon," and the spectators erupted in cheers. Well, everyone except for Heinrich's cronies, who looked both scared and nervous. Later that night, people were buzzing about whether they'd seen the duel between Leon and Elmond's whole crew. One guy said, "I had no idea Leon could fight that well. He took on every single one of them, starting with Jeff, and they all lost so badly they had to be sent to the infirmary right after the fight. So, it all came down to Elmond, and everyone was wondering if he was really about to lose to this guy." Elsid scoffed that the other opponents were a total cakewalk, all fancy fencing with no real substance. She couldn't believe they passed for high-level fighters, even with aura. But our hero had a feeling this match was going to be different, and the sword agreed, reminding him that he couldn't let his guard down against Elmond. When Leon walked into the arena, Elmond was already there, radiating a serious aura. Elsid noted, "Well, look who decided to drop the arrogant act," and our boy had to agree. Leon knew that with his aura fired up, Elmond was physically stronger, and he remembered a detail the sword had brought up on the status window earlier. It was a skill called Sword Vision, but since it was only at level 1, he figured it wasn't going to be a massive game-changer. He knew that the scariest moves are the ones you don't see coming, and he worried his special vision might not be enough to read Elmond's playbook. Looking pretty pleased with himself, Elmond commented, "I didn't actually expect to get a turn." Our hero just calmly shot back, "Oh, really? I knew we'd end up here." That comment clearly got under the guy's skin. He figured this Leon would be the perfect practice dummy to warm up for his duel with the other Leon. And even with his impressive physical skills, he knew he was at a disadvantage once aura entered the equation. If Elmond could channel aura into his very sword, trying to block with a wooden practice sword would be just plain stupid. Realizing this, Leon wondered if he should just bait him instead of fighting head-on, right as Helmond yelled for the match to start. The second he did, a blast of energy zipped right past our hero's face, catching him completely off guard. A small nick appeared on his cheek, making him wonder if that was sword energy. Across the arena, Elmond pointed his glowing, aura-infused sword right at our guy. Leon began to think he might be in over his head. The speed gap between them was just massive. His opponent settled into a stance, his aura practically crackling with menace. Our hero thought to himself, "Okay, so he's a total scumbag, but he's also a direct heir to a count's family." With a smirk, Elmond said, "No wonder the others lost to you. If you were just some cocky commoner, I'd have flattened you by now. But," he continued, "it's another thing entirely if you're someone worth recruiting. Consider joining my side, and we can forget this whole silly feud." Just then, something came speeding toward him. Dodging by a razor's edge, our hero's sword grazed Elmond's face. As they reset their positions, a matching cut appeared on Elmond's cheek as he growled. "You, absolutely furious now," he shouted. "You're the arrogant one, just because you picked up a few useless skills." Our hero just smiled. "Is that so?" In his mind, an offended Elsid screeched, "Useless skills." She then called out to Leon, who replied, "Yeah. Did that little weakling just call my technique useless?" She fumed. A bit startled, Leon tried to calm her down, but she just said, "They say mountains and rivers can change in 10 years, and yet, after 300 years, I'm getting dissed by some bedwetting brat." Leon felt a threatening aura suddenly surge from his sword. "You see that kid with the shiny white teeth?" she demanded. He stammered that he did. "Let me tell you, there is no greater insult to a teacher than getting lectured by a student, so if that boy still has all his teeth by the end of this fight, you're the one who'll be punished," our hero thought. "Well, 1 or 2 won't be enough. Then, guess I'll have to take out as many as I can." Elmond looked taken aback by Leon's sudden surge of fighting spirit. What's with this sudden vigor? And with incredible agility, our hero launched himself forward. He unleashed a storm of attacks, forcing the other guy to defend for his life. Helmond himself was shocked by the sheer power of the blows. In the crowd, people murmured that Elmond was being pushed back, but the blonde Leon shook his head. "No. He's on the offensive, but Elmond hasn't been forced out of the ring." Back in the arena, our hero was thinking this was rough. He was pushing himself to the limit, all because of his opponent's blasted aura. Up in the stands, blonde Leon observed that if this kept up, it would just become a battle of stamina. Full of rage, his opponent complained, "You're just so persistent. You should have stayed on the ground." Ready for another round, our boy shot back. Look who's talking. He prepared to use his vision to compensate for what he lacked in raw strength and speed. This power let him anticipate his opponent's moves, and Lion figured if he could just see the attack a split second sooner, he could overcome his disadvantage. He needed to read the movements more precisely, more quickly, and with a wider perspective, until suddenly everything around him seemed to slow. "This is nuts," someone yelled. "It's like they're fighting underwater." Our hero seemed to block an attack moving at the speed of light and then settled into a stance that perfectly mirrored his opponent's. Thrilled, our boy knew his plan was working. Elmont, even angrier, cursed at him. "You're telling me you really can't use aura?" The examiner couldn't detect any aura from the hero, either, and was stunned he'd managed to push his opponent so far. With a wicked smile, Elmont said, "I can't believe you're forcing me to use this against you." A really bad feeling crept over Leon as he wondered what was coming next. Elmont activated a new power around his body and his sword, and our boy recognized it as arcane fencing. He was seriously annoyed, as if this guy wasn't enough of a handful with regular thrusts, stabs, and slashes. Focusing his own power, our hero knew he couldn't waste a single moment. As the other man moved in to strike, Leon's vision screamed thrust, and he knew he could dodge it. Elmont came at him with full force, and our hero sidestepped it perfectly. But then something happened after the strike that he never saw coming. That attack was a feint, a technique designed to work only if the opponent dodges. Morbin's secret technique followed up with a direct blow to the torso that was guaranteed to hit the ribs on a dodge, and you can't exactly fight with broken ribs. Even though his vision showed him the true path of the sword, he had no way to escape it. "I'm going to get hit, and I'm going to lose," Leon thought. In that instant, his eyes blazed, and his hair stood on end, making him look like a certain famous legendary warrior. As he internally screamed, "Move!" our hero seemed to plant his feet so hard into the ground that his clothes ripped from an intense surge of power. But that power was just to launch himself straight up and over his opponent. Elmont looked up, completely stunned and disbelieving what he just saw. From above, our hero brought his sword down hard, landing a blow that Elmont definitely felt. Leon zips behind Elmont, who just stands there, completely dumbfounded that he actually got tagged. He shoots daggers at Leon, absolutely fuming. From the crowd, someone pipes up, "He only got his left arm, though. Is fighting one-handed against two really gonna work out for Elmont?" But another spectator chimes in, "Who cares about the arm?" The real shocker is that the Bourbon family's famous arcane fencing actually got beaten. Meanwhile, Elmont thinks to himself, "This isn't over. I can still use both my hands for a frontal assault, and that's where I'll have him. And when I do, all these aura-powered strikes are going to push that flimsy wooden sword right past its breaking point." So his new game plan is simple: break Leon's sword. He charges forward, yelling, "You've been dancing right in the palm of my hand, you commoner." With a clean upward swing, Leon connects perfectly, sending Elmont's sword flying out of his grasp. The kid just stares blankly, like his brain hasn't caught up yet. The very next second, he catches a brutal blow right to the mouth. The impact sends his head snapping back, and a couple of his teeth go flying. The audience erupts in cheers. Chloe is absolutely beaming, so happy for her friend. Looking quite satisfied himself, Helmut officially declares Leon the winner. A bit later, Elsid comments, "Great work out there. He got taken down by a supposedly useless technique. I bet he'll be a little more careful with his words from now on." Leon muses, "You think getting beat just one time is really going to fix his attitude? Still, we made an oath about whoever won the duel, so it should be fine." But Elsid says that's not it at all. She was actually stunned by something else, which leaves Leon totally lost. She explains, "You just unlocked the gateway to acceleration. You're improving at a rate that's way beyond my expectations." Not getting it at all, Leon just repeats, "Acceleration?" Elsewhere, Helmut is picking up teeth off the ground, thinking, "Man, he definitely knocked out a fair few of these." A little while later, Leon is walking through the halls, massaging a sore shoulder. He asks Elsid, "Hey, so that acceleration thing you mentioned, was that what happened when I was dodging Elmont's arcane fencing?" She explains, "You know how sometimes your mind works faster than your body can react? Well, in a state of acceleration, your reflexes kick in before you even make a conscious decision. It has nothing to do with how fast you're actually moving." So, she asks, "How do you think highly trained swordsmen are able to move so incredibly fast?" Leon replies, "It's because they've learned to use their aura, right?" Elsid tells him, "That's only part of the answer. Without aura to reinforce you, your own body wouldn't be able to handle the power. That's why, typically, only a handful of people ever manage to learn acceleration, and it's always after they've mastered aura. But you," she continues, "you managed to use acceleration before you even started using aura. Sure, you only used it in your legs, and it was an incomplete version, but that's still incredibly impressive. It means," she says, "that you instinctively broke through your own limits using nothing but sheer force of will. A smile slowly creeps onto Leon's face as he says, "Huh, wait a minute," he asks. "But didn't you just say my body shouldn't have been able to handle that power? I feel perfectly fine. Is that just because the execution was incomplete?" "Something like that," the sword confirms. "If you had used it with your entire body, your insides would be soup right now." Leon, suddenly looking worried, asks, "Doesn't that seem a little dangerous?" Elsid then says, "Well, it should be about time. For now, you should probably take care of your body." A confused Leon asks, "What are you talking about? What time?" he questions again. Then, out of the blue, he's hit with a crippling wave of pain from the after effects of acceleration. The sword deadpans, "What do you think?" "Delayed muscle agony, of course," she says. "And you should count yourself lucky that it's only hitting you now. Don't you dare use it again until you've learned to use aura, or you will actually die." Clutching his body in pain, our hero grits out, Okay, I get it. Just another day here at the academy." Leon is walking through the campus, and it seems like he's the center of attention. Some girls start murmuring as he passes, and pretty soon, it feels like everyone is whispering about him. One person whispers they heard he was some kind of experiment, force-fed elixirs. Another one claims he's secretly a living weapon from the royal palace, hiding his true identity. Just then, he bumps into the same group of guys he defeated, and it all clicks. "So, you're the one spreading all these crazy stories." Elsid adds, "They'll invent any excuse to justify losing. So much for the famous pride of the nobility." Leon retorts, "If they had any real pride, they wouldn't have ganged up on me to begin with." "That's a fair point," the sword replies, just as Leon seems to spot someone. Standing right in front of him is Chloe, looking at him with a gentle smile. "Hi, Leon," she says. A little taken aback, Leon just says, "Chloe." A little later, they're outside. Leon smiles and asks, "So, how have you been? Wait, aren't you supposed to be in alchemy class right now? Are you cutting?" Chloe just calls him an idiot and asks, "Why on earth would I be skipping?" She explains that the teacher was sick, so class got canceled. "Did you really think I'd skip just to come see you?" she teases. She goes quiet for a second, then smiles. Leaning back on a bench, she says, "Something's changed," leaving Leon looking puzzled. Then she asks, "Have you been avoiding me lately?" And then, completely out of the blue, you start getting into fights with a bunch of nobles. "Do you have any idea how worried I've been?" Leon is taken aback by her concern. He lowers his gaze, thinking. Even as she's gently scolding him, he's struck by how much time has passed and how natural it feels to be talking with her so openly. He thinks to himself, that's it. Now I think I finally understand how my past self felt about her. How envious he was that I got to be the one standing here with her. He was completely overwhelmed by an inferiority complex, always believing there was nothing special about him at all. He remembers how much he hated this world, where all his hard work got him nowhere, and how he turned all that frustration inward on himself. Then he recalls the day the sword appeared, telling him it would give him the chance to prove he was right. Chloe continues, "After all those fights, you're the talk of the entire school. There are even rumors that you only got so strong because you found some kind of magic sword by chance." The girl looks over at him for a moment, and her eyes widen when she realizes he's crying. She looks a little surprised and flustered by the sudden tears. She tries to smooth things over, asking, "Hey, what's wrong? Why are you suddenly crying?" "Those are just stupid rumors, and I guess mentioning the sword was going too far." Leon manages to say, "It's not a magic sword or anything." Chloe just continues to look at him, her face etched with worry. He thinks to himself that even though Elsa can be incredibly rude and has a pretty terrible personality, she was the one who pulled him up when he was at his lowest point. Meanwhile, Elsa wonders to herself, when did he suddenly mature, even if it's just a little? Leon thinks, if a hero is someone who saves the world, then Elsa is my hero. He resolves then and there, I'm going to become a hero every bit as capable as the one who wields the sacred sword, and I'm going to shatter every expectation Elsa has for me. Chloe just stared, completely baffled. The guy admitted that he really didn't get what was happening. All he did was have a conversation with a girl, and somehow he matured a little. He wondered, is this something a guy who's been perfect since birth is even supposed to understand? The sword chimed in that she couldn't care less about the reason, only that Liam was finally starting to look like someone worth training. Then, completely out of the blue, our hero was hit with a wave of chills and goosebumps, causing his friend to call his name in concern. Later that night, back in his dorm, he was just lying there, lost in thought. He mused that he really had changed. He recalled Chloe telling him he seemed so much better now, which had left him confused. She'd explained that he wasn't so on edge anymore and seemed to be looking forward. She mentioned he was starting to look like Leon, but with a key difference. It was like one was always looking up, while the other was looking ahead. Her words caught Liam by surprise, and he found himself wishing he could just talk to Leon every now and then. He didn't have anyone in his circle he could be truly open with, who would just stand by him. So, he just mumbled, "All right, I'll see what I can do," before curling up in bed and whispering an apology to Chloe. Sorry, he thought, I just don't think I can pull this off. He was convinced their next duel would be their last. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the blonde-haired Leon stared out into the night, thoughtfully murmuring, Liam. The following day, a loud crash echoed as someone slammed into a training dummy. It was our hero, standing over the splinters of yet another broken wooden sword. Elsid marveled that even a brand-new practice sword couldn't hold up. It wasn't just his skill. His training was so intense that it was putting way too much stress on the blades. A practice sword is naturally flimsier than a real one. After all, Liam explained that he'd pushed himself to master a move because a trump card is something you can only play once. He knew that a genius like Leon would figure out a counter in no time if he tried the same trick again. His plan was to master Leon's techniques, get inside his head, and completely overwhelm him. Elsid asked if seeing Leon's status window a few days back had really gotten under his skin that much. The terminal had displayed Leon's stats, level 25, a long list of skills, and the Exalted Swordsman class, a true prodigy with both natural talent and a noble background. He asked aloud if an intermediate aura user could even form an energy blade. He pointed out that Leon could already reinforce his entire body with aura, putting him above the instructors and at a level most elite knights don't reach until their 30s. Liam analyzed the stats, noting that while he was outmatched in strength and agility, he had a slight edge in stamina. He thought to himself that Leon was definitely a formidable challenge, and a grin spread across his face. He declared that Leon wasn't some unbeatable monster. That's the right attitude, Elsid said, promising to help him out with as much advice as she could. She told him to build on that confidence and get ready to win, which made our hero look totally pumped. But then he called out to Elsid and asked, Hey, just suppose. What if I lose to Leon? What are you going to do then? The sword was taken aback and flatly refused to answer. When Liam asked why not, she simply said it was part of his test. Didn't I tell you from the start? She reminded him. The trials you'll face will be far tougher than any opportunities you're given. Feeling a bit overwhelmed, he asked if this wasn't a little steep for a first trial. Elsid replied that this single fight could be the defining moment of his entire life. She promised that if he managed to beat Leon, she would explain everything, and once he heard it all, he'd finally understand why. The day wore on with our hero training relentlessly, right up until the sky darkened and a heavy downpour began. In another part of the academy, someone remarked that the results were better than expected. A man commented that he always knew the others weren't half bad. Leon stood at a window, watching the rain and admitting to himself he never thought he'd actually defeat Elmont. Leon turned to Sir Gilbert and said, It seems you're finally acknowledging the outcome, reminding the older man how skeptical he'd been of his earlier assessments. The old man chuckled, saying that was 3 years ago, which isn't long for the truly gifted, especially since he'd just bested the second son of a count. He then shared that he'd received a message from Liam earlier that day, simply stating that he was ready. The old man's eyes lit up. At last, he breathed. The young man then said, Sir Gilbert. He wanted to ask for a favor, thinking, I'm going to crush Liam and make him my knight, without a doubt. As the rain hammered against the academy, his thoughts drifted to Chloe. Our hero was walking down a hallway when a massive bolt of lightning lit up the sky. A bit nervously, he muttered that it felt like the heavens themselves were gearing up for his fight. Elsid replied dramatically, A hero is about to bet his entire future. Of course, the heavens are paying attention. The instructor announced Leon's timely arrival, and our hero couldn't help but notice how eerily quiet it was. The instructor explained that Leon had specifically requested it. It seemed he wanted zero distractions for this fight, a far cry from the usual public matches. Elsid scoffed that the show-off Elmont had wanted to embarrass him in front of a crowd, making our hero chuckle nervously. The man added that with no audience, there would be only a single observer present besides the official witness. Our hero immediately asked who it would be. Ah, I see, the sword said, seemingly figuring it out. When our hero asked if she knew who it was, she guessed it was probably Chloe, a revelation that sent his anxiety through the roof. Why would it be her? He asked, his voice tight with tension. Elsid sighed, saying Liam really didn't have a clue what was going on. She explained that since Leon believes Liam has a crush on Chloe, he's using this duel as a way to push her towards him, noting it's a classic tale of a king and his loyal knight vying for the same woman. That's when it clicked. He remembered Leon's condition that if Liam lost, he'd become his subordinate. The realization infuriated him as he thought back on his interactions with Leon sitting under that tree, the terms of their duel, especially the part about him having to serve Leon if he lost. It all made sense now. Having Chloe watch was the perfect psychological play. Leon was drawing a bold line in the sand, establishing who would lead and who would follow. It was a cunning and meticulous plan, exactly the kind of thing Leon would do. And naturally, This whole scheme completely ignored how he or Chloe might actually feel about it. He'd had his suspicions before, but now he was certain Leon was a top-tier noble, through and through, model. So, this guy is the type who plays mind games and messes with people's emotions. It's a classic power move, one that makes it clear he sees everyone else as beneath him. He's getting pretty ticked off, wondering if this is really what it means to be a noble. If so, it leaves a seriously bad taste in his mouth. Elsa notices our hero's fists are clenched tight, points out that he's angry, and Leon's just like, "You bet I am. I never should have done this," he thinks. "Now I'm going to have to teach that fool a lesson." Over in the combat arena, the two Leons face off before their judge. The blonde one, with a grin, says, "You're late." With a look of pure determination, our Leon replies, "No, you're just early." Looking around, he asks, "So, where's the observer? I heard you called someone." The man smiles and says he's somewhere they can't see, adding that it wouldn't be fair if he got distracted and made a mistake, as that would just become an excuse. Our hero, smirking, asks, "Oh, is that really how it is?" All fired up, he says they should get started right away. But the blonde Leon holds up a hand, pulling out a small jar and taking out a pill. And just like that, he swallows it. Our hero, completely baffled, asks, "What in the world did you just eat?" He explains it's an aura-suppressing pill, because even though he promised not to use his aura, it might activate on its own, which would be a problem. Our Leon looks a little on edge about that. The instructor hands him his weapon, and he asks if they're ready to begin. The two opponents square off, ready for action, and our hero thinks to himself that the other Leon is completely serious, a huge change from his usual laid-back self. But when it comes to pure focus, he's not about to lose either. Helmet gives the signal to begin, and the swords clash in the arena, with the noble Leon attacking and our hero on the defensive. He seems a bit tense, maybe even a little nervous. Meanwhile, the other guy charges right at him. He then unleashes a volley of quick strikes, all of which are skillfully deflected by our hero. Our boy thinks, "Okay, I definitely overestimated my own strength. I won't last 30 seconds if I keep taking these hits head-on." Without a moment's rest, the noble rushes him again with full force. Still tense, our hero just manages to block the blow. A little shaken by the situation, he thinks the noble's sword moves like a whip. He's quickly realizing that this Leon is in a completely different league compared to Elmont, and on top of that, there's something else going on. Our Leon is using Rodri's vision, but the noble's image is blurrier than any opponent he has ever faced. He knows he needs to get a grip. The gaps in the image will have to be filled in by his memories of their many past fights. As the boy continues his relentless attack, an impressed Gilbert wonders aloud if this is really just a duel between students. Helmet, equally amazed, thinks that even without using aura, their fencing skills might actually be better than most knights. Our hero has a simpler thought. He's strong. A total monster. While the noble Leon is wondering when this guy got so strong, Gilbert continues to watch the fight, completely mesmerized by what he's seeing. He thinks to himself that he always knew his lord was a genius, but he never dreamed Leon would be able to keep pace with him. The noble keeps hammering our hero with attacks, who suspects this next one is a double feint. There's something more to it. Pushing his vision to its limits, he finally gets a read on the pattern and lunges forward at the exact same time he's being attacked. A moment later, there's a fresh gash across our boy's chest plate, but it's the noble Leon who's in shock, watching a lock of his own hair float through the air, sliced clean off by his opponent's sword. Our hero resets his fighting stance as strands of blonde hair drift down onto the arena floor. The noble seems slightly annoyed as he checks his new haircut. Our hero catches his breath, wondering why Leon's attacks after that first one didn't have the same power behind them. Then, a look of worry crosses the noble's face as he realizes our hero intended to drag this out into a battle of stamina from the very beginning. He watches him calmly control his breathing. In the next moment, our hero cracks a smile, just as the blonde Leon wonders if he's walked right into a trap. The two opponents lock eyes across the arena. Our Leon's plan is simple: get in close, drain his opponent's stamina, and then slowly turn the tables in his favor. It's a tactic that leaves absolutely no room for error, a strategy with nothing flashy about it at all. The noble thinks he can feel an incredible will to win coming from him, and he knows he has to break that spirit first. If he can't do that, he'll never be able to make him submit. The noble suddenly starts using one of his techniques. Gilbert, at the table, is stunned, thinking, he's using quick steps. That's a secret technique from the imperial family he's using right there. Our hero, feeling the pressure, recognizes it as a technique that uses muscles and blood flow to let the user push beyond their physical limitations. The noble thinks that even though it's not the complete technique since he can't use his aura, half of its power should be more than enough. Our Leon digs deep too, cranking his perception up to the absolute maximum. His opponent then charges at him with a devastating strike, but our hero manages to fend it off. The noble thinks, that cut was too shallow. Did he actually dodge that? Clutching his injured arm, our hero wonders if that was really the quick steps technique and if he's truly not using any aura. Elsid whispers in his ear. He didn't use aura. Our hero jumps, startled, but quickly calms down and asks, "Are you serious?" And the sword explains that the human body is much stronger and faster than he imagines. It adds that while there are techniques for strengthening the body like quick steps, there are also others that boost pure strength and endurance, so he shouldn't be so quick to judge. But in the next second, his opponent is already on top of him, ready to strike again. Annoyed, he shouts, "How dare you get distracted? And why do you look so calm?" Sensing the attack, our hero shoots back, "I could say the same to you. Are you only just now using your secret swordsmanship?" Our Liam thinks, "Calm? Are you kidding me?" He knows his rhythm was completely thrown off by Elsid's sudden interruption. He remembers Elsid's words about not judging things by common sense, right as he feels a sharp sting on his cheek. And in the next moment, it hits him. No, he thinks. Elsid didn't interrupt me at all. He then plants his feet firmly on the ground. While his opponent is focused but visibly tense, our Leon realizes he's only 5 or 6 steps from the edge of the ring. He's been getting pushed back this entire time. In that moment, our hero's entire demeanor changes, becoming far more intimidating. Gilbert, who is still in a state of shock, thinks the whole atmosphere has shifted, but that there shouldn't be any way to break through Leon's level of quick steps. Our boy had always thought there was only one way to win this, and that was by weathering the storm of attacks. To protect his small stamina advantage, his entire strategy was to wait for his opponent to wear himself out using quick steps, since what the other guy had was explosive acceleration, not lasting power. With a smirk, he scoffs and says, "This isn't fun." The noble boy looks tense and completely confused. And so, our hero begins to truly focus. All he could rely on was the strength he built with his own 2 hands. And from where the young noble stood, Leon had never looked so massive. A huge grin spread across his face as he thought, "That's right, this is the real me." Deciding then and there to make him his subordinate no matter what, he launched himself forward with quickstep one more time. The man figured that spamming an ability like that without aura should have pushed him to his absolute limit by now. Elsid, however, looked like he was thoroughly enjoying the show. The noble Leon steeled himself, thinking that if he was a true hero, then a little pressure like this was nothing. Our hero's mind flashed through all the moments they had shared. "Leon," he thought, "you have no idea what the fundamental difference between us really is. Is it the boy born with natural talent, or is it me, the guy who swings his sword every single day?" Outside, the storm continued to rage, with angry bolts of lightning splitting the sky. Undeterred, our hero charged his opponent, who met his advance with equal determination. With a tremendous crack of metal, a sword shattered and went flying through the air. In the next instant, our hero was still holding his blade, perfectly intact, while the noble Leon stared in shock at the splintered hilt in his hand. The broken piece of the sword skittered across the arena floor, and the boy looked down at the ruined weapon in disbelief, wondering how that was even possible. A satisfied smirk on his face, Elsid noted that the boy's hard work had finally paid off. He explained that the duel was decided by the trick he'd learned from Elmont's rising strike. It was a totally unorthodox technique, designed to mess with an opponent's timing. He said this while fondly recalling the moment he used that very move to defeat the boy. He continued, saying that the most crucial part was that they had broken a very different number of swords in their lifetimes. Looking down at the devastated young man on the ground, he said that because the boy was so gifted, his body could push beyond its physical limits. He, on the other hand, knew the limits of a sword. He then added that if they had been using real blades, the outcome might have been completely different. Just then, our hero walked up and pointed his sword at his defeated rival. He smiled and said, "I won, Leon." Gilbert began to clap enthusiastically, announcing that it was confirmed and that the victory belonged to the boy. Elsid noted that he just had a realization of his own. If he had lost, he would have become the noble Leon's subordinate. That led him to ask what the boy's request would be if he were the one to win. He recalled the boy's promise to grant whatever he desired, so long as it didn't hurt his reputation or his family. Everything else was fair game. He thought with satisfaction that, come to think of it, there wasn't really anything he needed. The boy spoke up, saying that he lost fair and square, and since he was the one who started this, he would accept the consequences. He declared that a promise is a promise and asked what our hero wanted from him. But Leon just smiled at him, completely unbothered, and casually said he'd tell him later, leaving the noble stunned. He explained that he didn't have anything in mind right now, but would let him know once he thought of something, asking if that was all right. The boy and Gilbert looked utterly baffled, but he just smiled and said it was fine. Wincing from a dull ache, our hero thought that even though he finished the fight without using acceleration, he still felt like he pushed himself way too hard since his opponent was Leon. After all, a gentle voice suddenly called out, "Oh, light of healing. Please grant rest to the wounded." And just like that, Chloe appeared, casting her healing magic on our hero. His eyes lit up. Wow, I feel lighter already. This is exactly what I'd expect from a rank 4 healing spell, he said, thanking her for being the match observer. The girl looked more hurt than anything, her eyes welling up with tears. I just don't understand you or Leon, she cried. So what if you lost? Our hero recoiled a bit as she wiped her tears and added, You've gotten so much stronger. Then she asked if he was planning to leave the academy, which caught our hero completely off guard. He asked how she could have possibly known that. Chloe sighed, saying she knew him like the back of her hand and that he was such a fool. Leon looked relieved and happy, but he mentioned that he thought she would try to stop him. Annoyed, she shot back that she couldn't believe he'd say that when he had no intention of listening to her anyway. She said he had always been that way, constantly pushing past limits people thought were unbreakable, and in the end, he always succeeded, even if it took a bit longer this time around. Leon countered that he thought it was pretty quick, considering how tough it was, but Chloe insisted he took a long time, way too long. She seemed lost in thought while our hero chuckled at the situation, and soon they were both laughing uncontrollably. He told her he was fine for now and that she should go give Leon a piece of her mind for him. The girl asked if she wasn't supposed to heal him. He explained that the stubborn guy might not let on, but he was probably incredibly depressed and in shock. So, he figured, a little tough love from his girlfriend would help turn this loss into fuel for his future growth. And with that, he was leaving Leon in her hands. Chloe was left speechless as she watched her friend walk away. Suddenly, she yelled his name, asking what he was going to do after leaving the academy. Waving goodbye without turning back, he called out that for now, it was still a secret. The girl looked a little surprised by his answer, then clasped her hands together and seemed to offer a prayer for her friend. Elsid commented that he never thought he'd see a mage who doesn't believe in gods praying for someone, and our hero added that she really was a good person. The sword asked if he had tied up all his loose ends, and the boy confirmed that he had. He said he guessed he had always longed to become someone special, and Elsid repeated, someone special. He had thrown himself desperately into everything he did. He wanted to become someone who wouldn't lose to either of those two. He felt like he could never overcome barriers like social standing or natural talent, and eventually, he lost his way in the shadow of those special people, feeling like he wasn't good enough. But when he met Elsid, so many things in his life started to change for the better. He freed him from the inferiority complex buried deep in his soul and allowed him to escape their shadows. But now the time had come to become a hero, and who in this world could be more special than that? Elsid observed the boy and said he was quite a materialistic person. Leon asked if he was a little disappointed, and the sword replied, Of course not. What's wrong with wanting a bit of wealth and honor? What's wrong with wanting to be famous? He explained. Ambitions are a core part of human life and give them dreams that push them forward. And unless a person goes down the wrong path, ambitions are what make humans human, and that was precisely why he chose him. The person who was originally supposed to be the hero wasn't him, but the other guy, the other Leon. Stunned, our hero could only ask, What? So, get this. Elsid drops a bombshell. He's actually the true heir to the imperial throne, the sword meant to save this messed up empire. Full name? Leon Callum Gladius von Clyde. And apparently, he was the hero prophesied 150 years ago. Leon's just completely floored by all this. He just mutters, Wow, talk about a perfect main character. He can't help but think, wait, if he was supposed to be the hero, does that mean I'm not anymore? Is that how this works? Hold on, Leon says. Didn't you say that whole fight was a test for me? Elsa just nods. Yep, and you passed with flying colors. Besides, there's no handbook that says a hero has to be handpicked by some dusty old prophecy. Forging your own destiny with nothing but grit and determination, that's the real mark of a hero. The other Leons got that part all wrong. As Leon mulls this over, Elsid chimes in. So, are you feeling a little guilty? You know, for snatching my destiny? But Leon's response is immediate. Heck no. It's not like Elsid is exactly hard up for anything. Why would I feel bad for a guy who was basically born with a platinum spoon in his mouth? No way. The sword seems genuinely taken aback. Then Leon doubles down. If anything, it's his own fault for losing to a nobody like me. He had every advantage, and I had squat. Elsid is even more stunned. He adds, plus, the great soul of Rodri chose times me asterisk. The sacred sword chose times me asterisk. So really, I'm just living up to what's expected of me. Hearing this, Elsid lets out a sound of pure satisfaction. The very next day, our hero put in his papers to drop out of the academy. His instructor was pretty bummed to see him leave for the adventurer life but promised to write him a glowing letter of recommendation. And get this, apparently, his throwdown with Elmond's crew lit a fire under everyone, commoners and nobles alike. The whole academy's got a new vibe now. With all that settled, he figured he was finally, truly done with that place for good. Fired up for a fresh start, he declares. All right, next stop, the free city of Blaine, the hub for adventurers. High above, a majestic eagle circles, its sharp eyes scanning the vast green forest below. Under a perfect blue sky, a figure comes crashing out of a bush, running like his hair is on fire. It's our hero, of course. He finally skids to a halt, gasping for air. Free. I'm finally free from that nightmare forest, he wheezes, collapsing to his knees in sheer, exhausted relief. Then, his eyes light up. He can see Blaine from here. A real bed, he whispers reverently. I'm finally going to sleep in a real bed. It had been 15 long days since he'd left the academy. Elsid's voice chimes in. Nightmare Forest. You should be thanking it. It was excellent training. Leon scoffs. Oh, I'm grateful. All right. So grateful I could just about cry now that I'm leaving it behind. They've been trekking through that wilderness for 15 days straight on the road to Blaine. It was his first time ever camping out. Goblin ambushes were a regular occurrence, and since the situation was less than ideal, Elsid finally gave him the green light to use the real sacred sword instead of the dinky wooden one he packed. So, for 15 days, our hero tackled every challenge thrown his way, using the time to get the hang of fighting with a legendary weapon. You took a week longer than I anticipated, Elsid noted dryly. Yeah, thanks for the training, Leon retorted. Those goblins were a real pain from day one. So, did you finally manage to take down 10 of them in under 10 seconds? Even if you did, you can thank me for all that footwork training. Leon knew he was way stronger now than when he first stepped into these woods. A thought sparked in his mind. You know what? I'm gonna wipe out every single monster I see from now on. Someone's feeling ambitious, the sword remarked. But you might want to bottle up that enthusiasm for now. That got Leon's attention. Think of yourself as a vessel that's still being crafted, Elsid explained. Getting stronger by killing monsters is like pouring water into it. If you try to fill it before it's complete, all that power will just leak out, and your efforts will be for nothing. Got it, Leon said, nodding. I'll keep that in mind. Sometime later, the magnificent walls of Blaine came into view. After a quick check by the two guards at the gate, our hero was in, weaving his way through bustling streets lined with market stalls. Whew, glad I made it through the gates without any trouble, Leon sighed in relief. Guess that Academy student ID is worth its weight in gold. About this city, Elsid began. It's basically a bandit town. Leon froze. Wait, a what now? A bandit town. For the last 300 years or so, towns like this have been popping up, the sword explained. It's not tiny, but it's no metropolis either. For a city this size, it's surprisingly chaotic, and security looks pretty lax. Feeling a knot in his stomach, our hero mumbled, Man, I really am a rookie at this. So, first stop, an inn? Elsid asked. Nope, Leon replied. First, we find the guild. Might as well get registered while we have the time. Good call, Elsid agreed. You did say you wanted to be an adventurer. Mercenary work is an option, but it doesn't offer nearly as much freedom. Plus, Leon had zero interest in getting tangled up in noble politics. More importantly, he wanted to cash in on those sweet hero perks, and hunting monsters seemed like the fastest way to do it. It'll still be a while before my seal is broken, you know, the sword reminded him. Leon thought back on their forest training. He'd learned a lot about Elsid, like how the sword had shown up a year ahead of the prophecy, which meant most of its power as a sacred sword was still locked away. Normally, its wielder would get an insane healing factor, making them nearly unkillable, plus a huge power boost and the ability to use aura and holy energy. But for a guy like him, who couldn't use aura to save his life, he'd have to get a whole lot stronger to unleash the sword's true potential. Later that afternoon, at the Adventurers Guild, a receptionist smiled at him. All right, Mr. Leon, you're all set. I've confirmed your academy enrollment and the recommendation from Helmut, so you'll be starting out as a rank D. Rank D? Is that good? Leon asked, confused. What does that even mean? It just determines the types of quests you can accept, she explained cheerfully. You should rank up in no time. You'll need to hit rank B to prove you can use an aura weapon, though. Getting to A or S will take a bit longer. Leon was floored. Wait, aura is a requirement. An aura weapon is more than just channeling aura through your body. It's about projecting and controlling that power externally. It's a blade that shatters boulders and slices through solid steel. This is where a mere warrior becomes a true superhuman. He's thinking, wait, that level of power is only B rank? Just how insane are the A and S rank guys? Elsid remarks that this whole organization is way more fascinating than he'd imagined, especially with all the different humanoid races milling about. Right then, our hero feels a bunch of people staring at him. He spots a few cat-like people and some others who definitely give off an elven vibe. The sword chimes in, werewolves, elves, even high elves. I can't believe it. These groups were tearing each other apart 300 years ago. Whoever founded this place is a genius. Rise gives him a warm smile and asks, Is everything all right? And our hero stammers, Oh, it's nothing. She just replies, Okay then. Well, your registration is all finished, she says cheerfully. To make it official, you just need to complete one mission for us, totally pro bono. Our hero's brain just came to a screeching halt. Pro bono? As in, for free, he asks. You mean, with absolutely no reward? And she confirms, that's right. You've got to earn the guild's official recognition to become a true adventurer. And of course, she adds, earning that trust has its price. Elsid pipes up, that's how the world works, kid. It's not always a cakewalk. Our hero tells him to can it. It was a beautiful, sunny day in the city, and our scene shifts to the charming entrance of the municipal sewers, where inside, we see a maze of dark, dripping tunnels. Someone is splashing through the murky water, clashing with all sorts of monsters. It's our hero, getting his hands dirty on the job. He mutters, this is a first. Fighting giant rats with a legendary sword. Your sword style is built for dueling, Elsid points out. Against a horde like this, you're just going to have to keep swinging and carve your way through. There's no better training than slicing up a wide variety of enemies, the sword continued, whether they crawl on the ground or fly through the air. Leon thinks to himself, asterisk, my sword really shouldn't be giving me this kind of advice. Asterisk. The sword retorts, hey, you're the one who signed up for sewer cleaning duty. This is part of the package. Though clearly a bit irked by the comment, our hero gets back to battling the grotesque creatures. He finally wipes them all out, but then something catches his eye. Hey Elsid, he says, get a load of that one in the back of the nest. Why does that ratman have a horn? The sword explains, that's an evolved specimen. Our hero gives a confused look. It's a monster that's either lived for a very long time or absorbed a massive amount of resources, giving it a special trait. Kinda like a hobgoblin. So, Leon asks, I should probably be a little careful with this guy. The horn is a dead giveaway that it has a special ability, the sword explains. And the bigger the horn, or the more of them it has, the more dangerous that power is going to be. The enraged creature starts channeling energy into the tip of its horn. Panicked, he asks, is there any way to tell what kind of ability it has? It might be a good learning experience for you to find out yourself, Elsid says. Fortunately, this particular fella's special trick is completely useless on you. Leon asks, what are you talking about? The sword explains. Its ability is a curse. As our hero silently absorbs this, he readies his sacred sword. The monster lets out a furious roar, unleashing an ability called Plague Curse right at our hero. The attack collides with his sacred sword and instantly fizzles into nothing. With a satisfied grin, our hero says, whoops, looks like that didn't work. You really picked the wrong guy to mess with today, Ratface. With a greedy look in his eye, he demands, now, hand over that horn. A short time later, back at the Adventurers Guild, our hero walks in carrying a bulging sack. The receptionist nearly jumps out of her skin when he slams the bag onto the counter. In total shock, she stammers, Are these all Ratman tails? This weighs 23 kilograms. He does some quick math in his head and realizes that means he killed a grand total of 230 Ratman. Yep, he tells the girl, that's the one. He then places a smaller pouch on the counter, which contains a few horns. These are Ratman horns, he explains. I must have hunted about 200 of them, and maybe 3 or 4 had these. So, can you buy these too? He asks. The girl seems completely stunned. When Leon calls out her name, she finally snaps out of it, stammers, yes, and places his payment on the counter. That comes to 13 silver and 50 copper, she says. Our hero's eyes widen. Whoa, that's way more than I thought I'd get. Rise explains, horns are actually quite valuable and in high demand. No one has ever brought in this much on their very first mission. I'm incredibly impressed with you. Getting a little flustered, he asks. Is that so? She continues, I would have been impressed if you just managed to hunt a single Ratman. But to think you took down 4 of the evolved ones. You must be incredibly skilled for someone so young. You're just amazing. Our hero is thrilled but also incredibly shy about the compliment. Finally, she says, congratulations, Mr. Leon. From this moment on, she announces, you are officially registered as a D-rank adventurer in this guild. The seal on this emblem represents the free city of Blaine. Can I use this anywhere? Leon asks. Rise nods. Yes, but adventurers ranked B or lower have secondary priority if they decide to take jobs at other branches. He gazes at the emblem, looking completely satisfied. It's a rule to keep people from only picking the quests they like, she explains. Our hero replies, I understand. Looking at the emblem, he thinks, asterisk, this is the proof. I'm not just an academy student anymore, I'm a real adventurer. Asterisk, Rise then adds, Mr. Leon, if there are any requests you'd like to take, please just let me know. I might be able to help you out, she offers, even if I don't have that much authority. He clutches his new emblem, smiling with pure satisfaction. As he's walking out of the Adventurers Guild late that afternoon, Elsid sounds amused. I think the receptionists there have you mistaken for a holy knight. Shocked, our hero asks, why would they think that? Elsid explains, well, you did just take on a difficult, low-paying mission, didn't you? In the old days, knights in training would go on secret journeys just like this before being officially knighted, and since you kind of are a holy knight, the sword adds, she's not entirely wrong. Leon just says, for real? Elsid continues, she'd probably faint on the spot if she ever found out the truth. Leon replies, well, I can't exactly tell her. The sword chimes in, and who would do something like that? A receptionist who personally handled a legendary hero. In a few decades, she could become a legend within the Adventurers Guild herself. She could probably live comfortably just by writing and selling her autobiography, Elsid muses. Leon quickly says, hey, she's the one who got it mixed up. I didn't lie about anything. He thinks for a moment. When I really consider it, this isn't that different from a journey to help people. On top of the training, I'm actually doing some good. The young man says, since I'll be living in Blaine for a while, this is definitely a better situation than being treated with suspicion. He then tells Elsid, I'm thinking I'll only leave after I manage to reach B rank. That actually seemed to surprise the sword, while Leon just asked, so, how long do you think it'll take to get to B rank? Elsid shot back instantly. 100 days ought to do it, which made our hero's eyebrows shoot up. The sword then added, I was originally planning to go easy on you for about 6 months, but it looks like that plan is out the window. Still, even if this is for training, he grumbled, I can't believe my successor is leveling up by cleaning out sewers. It's utterly disgraceful, he declared. Our hero, however, thought, hey, at least we made some cash, wondering what was so wrong with that. You need to become as powerful as possible. Fast, Elsid insisted. Strong enough to take down at least one dragon. Looking desperate, our hero stammered, don't you think the difficulty level just jumped a little? Dramatically, not at all, Elsid countered. Now that you've got the basics of vision and footwork, we'll just level you up through more real-world combat. Besides, the Wonder Hero's privilege lets you absorb the power of any monster you defeat. In short, he racks up experience points. Is this that connection between monsters and aura you told me about? Leon wondered, remembering the jolt of energy he felt after wiping out those creatures. He'd always assumed elixirs and fancy training methods from noble families were the only real way to build up aura. Elsid explained. Honestly, anyone can absorb a monster's power and convert it to aura, but the nobles and royals of old buried that truth so they could keep the secret for themselves. Leon realized that with most of those gatekeepers now dead, only Elsid knew the real method. Just knowing this made him feel stronger, like he could take on 1,000 ratmen and not even break a sweat. The sword added, once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to hunt much stronger prey, and eventually, a dragon. Wait, hold on, Leon said in disbelief. You weren't joking about that? Annoyed, Elsid snapped. Of course not. I'm a sacred sword, not some fancy cleaning tool. Does it really make sense for you to be using my power to purify the air? Our hero winced, remembering how he'd asked Elsid for a magical deep clean after crawling out of the sewers. And while Elsid's incredible powers had left him sparkling clean, it was pretty clear the sword was still holding a grudge about it. So, Leon asked his master, why are you so obsessed with me hunting dragons? Because, Elsid explained, sooner or later, we have to go to the Titan Mountain range. Terrified, our hero whispered, Titan Mountain? That's dragon territory. I wouldn't go near that place. It's a land ruled by giant kings. Why would we ever set foot in the demon realm? Countless kingdoms have failed to conquer it, and I, Elsid said calmly, will definitely be able to help you. My body was left somewhere in that area, but my memories are gone, so I don't remember much, he explained. We'll make it our goal to get there in 6 months. Leon thought about it, then asked, so you want to go there to find something you don't even know what it is? Everything will work out, the sword said reassuringly. It's not like we'll be slacking off between now and then. You just need to get strong enough to protect yourself. Just trust me, he said with a smile in his voice. I'm the sacred sword, after all. Our hero couldn't help but smile back, feeling satisfied. All right, he said, especially since trusting you hasn't led me astray yet. Elsid replied, excellent. Now, let the hellish training commence, which immediately wiped the smile off our hero's face. Sometime later at the Adventurers Guild, 2 guys were snickering. Well, is the cat going to take out the ratman again today? Did that jerk just call me a cat? The man wondered, calling him an idiot under his breath. The other guy said, I heard he's been stacking up a mountain of them every single day. Maybe it's because I got famous for hunting ratmen, Leon thought, but my nickname in the guild is now officially Cat. Reaching the counter, he tossed the full pouch on top of it. Rai smiled. The haul's a little smaller than usual. Our hero nodded. Yeah, I couldn't find very many this time, and the ones that did attack were few and far between. He figured they were finally starting to get a little wary of him. Even though ratmen seem pretty dumb, she said, they do have a little bit of intelligence. That's why I was hoping you could line up some other missions for me, Leon said. She then slid a few papers across the counter. Beaming, she said, I knew this day would come, so I handpicked these 4 missions just for you. Our hero and Elsid looked them over, wondering which one to pick. And suddenly, one of them caught his eye. Looking closer, he could see the documents for that particular mission looked incredibly old. That means the mission is really unpopular, Elsid pointed out, and it also means it was never updated. Leon grinned. That's the one. I'll take that mission. A bit later, walking through the city, he reviewed the quest. It's a hunt for a rocky slime. Their habitat is in the ground near the wall because they eat rocks, so if they're left unchecked, the walls won't hold up for long. The request is from Blaine's defense captain, he mused. There's no way a guy like that would try to take advantage of me. Arriving at a small gate in the wall, our hero showed the paper to the guard, who looked startled. For the subjugation of stone slimes, I never requested that. How is that possible? Leon asked. This is an official document from the guild, but the defense captain just insisted it must be some kind of mistake. Then, out of nowhere, someone approached them. Are you the guy? He asked. The adventurer who cleaned out all those sewer rats. Leon confirmed that yes, that was him. You're amazing, the man gushed. We need more adventurers like you. I can't believe those other guys who only take easy jobs still have the nerve to call themselves adventurers. It's ridiculous, don't you think? He asked Leon. A little later, our hero was walking through the interior of the city wall. He remembered the man saying that depending on how good he was, he might give him a bonus, so he had to work hard. Feeling a bit worried, he commented, that guy made it sound like this was going to be a real pain to deal with. Wasn't it a good thing that he said he'd give you a bigger reward? Elsid asked. Leon replied, this whole place is damp and slippery. Without some serious technique, it'll be tough just to stay on my feet in here. In other words, the sword said cheerfully, it's a perfect place for footwork training. But our hero cut him off. Hang on a second. Looking down the corridor, he saw 3 slimes bouncing toward him. Are there only 3 of them? Our hero asked. Elsid told him impatiently. Use your vision. He explained, if they were just like regular slimes, adventurers wouldn't be avoiding them. So, the boy agreed, and suddenly, a stone whizzed right past his face, giving him barely enough time to dodge. That stone, thrown with incredible force, embedded itself in the wall. He wondered if it was a rock. Frightened, he asked where it came from, and Elsid told him to look right in front of him. Just then, a slime lunged at him. Defending almost instinctively, he blocked the slime with his sword but felt his weapon being pushed back with serious power. He blinked. Huh. So I guess that's why they call them rocky slimes. You've probably pieced this together, Elsid said, but their weak spot is the core. Shatter that thing in the center, and the whole slime will fall apart, no matter what other abilities it's packing. But it was more complicated than that. He could see it was filled with countless stone fragments, forming layers of armor around the core. This monster was cleverly designed. No wonder adventurers try to steer clear of these things, Elsid remarked. Blunt weapons are your best bet for getting past a slime's defenses. Swords and arrows can slice or pierce them easily enough, but they use those stone bits to cover their weak points. That's what makes them such a nightmare to handle with typical gear. Just then, the slimes unleashed a volley of rocks straight at our hero. A storm of stones zeroed in on Lion, forcing him to block with his sacred sword as the slimes oozed relentlessly closer. It looked like he was having a tough time. They know you can't block everything, Elsid noted, so they're aiming for your vital spots. What's your take on that last attack? The boy analyzed. They're launching those stone shards from over 5 meters out, which leaves a small opening before they can fire again. If I can just close that gap, he thought, I could probably land 1 or 2 hits. But there's a catch. Since I can't just brute force my way through its armor, I've got to find a way to dodge the fragments and hit the core directly. Wait, I need to times it. Elsid sounded surprised by his thought process. If Lion used his vision, he could spot the exact moment the fragments separate, creating a path for the sacred sword to slip through. The only issue was that the rock fragments were in constant motion, making it incredibly difficult to find that opening. Despite the odds, our hero cracked a smile. Isn't a crisis just another name for an opportunity? Exactly, Elsid said. The moment a rocky slime opens up to shoot its stones, the flow of its mucus has to pause for a split second. Given your skills, that's the absolute perfect time to strike the core with precision. Lion raised an eyebrow. Did you think this all through when you picked the stone slime? The sword smugly replied, Of course I did. With newfound determination, our hero said, All right then, let's give it a whirl. He gripped his sacred weapon and charged headfirst toward the creatures. As he got closer, he activated his trained vision. In a flash, he carved straight through one of the slimes, completely shattering its core. He realized in that instant that if his timing was off by even a fraction of a second, he'd be the one taking the hit. They sense their surroundings through vibrations, Elsid advised, so you need to lighten your footsteps as you move. The slimes continued to pelt our boy with rocks. Your footwork technique is perfect for this, the sword added. Closing the distance, our hero gracefully weaved through the monster's assault. He felt a rush of excitement, thinking, I can totally do this. And just as Elsid said, using his movement technique made it possible. But then, the unexpected happened. He felt his foot slip and thought, what the? Glancing to his side, he saw a huge clump of rocks hurtling toward him. He focused, channeling his skills, and, with a huge effort, regained his footing. He managed to twist away just as the barrage of rocks whistled past. His trained vision locked onto another creature's core, and he shattered it without a hint of mercy. A little while later, the entire hallway was littered with slime guts. I highly doubt you did that last move on purpose, the sword commented dryly. But hey, it all worked out in the end. Lion shot back. What are you even talking about? Elsid replied, that little maneuver just now. That was level 2 of the footwork technique. Our hero was stunned. Level times what asterisk? Elsid explained, finding your balance on uneven ground and minimizing vibrations are the fundamentals of level 2. If the floor has other stuff on it, you have to learn to use it. Doesn't matter if it's an icy patch or a scorching hot surface. The whole point of the movement technique is to use the environment to your advantage. It's about being so adaptable you can turn a bad situation into a good one. So, even if it was an accident, you shifted into a stance, spread your legs to lower your center of gravity, and ditched your upright posture to be more flexible. If the terrain changes, he said, your posture has to change with it. Up until now, the way you've been standing and moving was really only good for perfectly flat ground. In a place with a low ceiling and a slick floor like this, you need a style of movement that fits the environment. A lower stance definitely feels a lot more stable, Lion admitted. See, isn't your training going so much smoother with some real-world application? Elsid asked proudly. Lion muttered. For a demonic sword. Elsid sounded genuinely confused. What the hell was that? This is only level 2? Lion thought to himself. I can't believe this is considered the beginner standard. You know, come to think of it, his sword piped up. Even though you're getting the hang of the footwork, you really shouldn't be dodging all their attacks. Our hero was not thrilled to hear that. Is a little pebble going to kill you? Elsid taunted. It's better to practice taking minimal damage now so you'll be ready for a real fight. You need to learn how to absorb the hits you can't block instead of just relying on your burst skills, he explained. If you can find the perfect opening, you can slice right through them. And you can't use your burst skill if there are only 2 or fewer enemies left. Lion sighed, exasperated. You demonic sword, why don't you just ask me to drop dead while you're at it? It's for your own good, it retorted. If you get too comfortable in your battles now, things will only get tougher down the road. I'm not even comfortable yet, Lion protested. So why are you piling all this on me? The sword replied, by my standards, you're practically lounging. Why, back in my day. Meanwhile, a couple of people were watching the entrance to the inner part of the city walls. That's the 3rd week now, one guard said. What time did he head in today? Before 10 in the morning, the other answered. Just before the 2nd shift change. The first guard shook his head. That kid sure works hard for someone so young. At first, it looked like he was having a rough time with those stone slimes, he added, but these days he comes back with a full sack every time, even though the pay for them isn't great. Speak of the devil, he's coming out now. Someone at a nearby post shouted. Our hero emerged, looking grimly determined and hauling 2 heavy bags of slime remains, leaving the onlookers thoroughly impressed. Today's the last day, Lion said to the soldier, who just offered an awkward smile. I've cleared out the areas closest to the wall, and since slimes are super slow breeders, it's not like they'll have to worry about a population explosion anytime soon. Gesturing towards the bags, he declared, that's the last of the rock slime fragments. Go ahead and let the guild know the mission's a success. The soldiers just exchanged glances, staring at the sacks bulging with slime chunks. As they strolled along, our hero asked, so, does this mean I'm finally ready? Elsid replied, it sure does. We're going to use all that power you soaked up from crushing those stone slimes. It's time for you to take your first real step into learning about aura. A little while later at an inn, Elsid noted, well, that was a lot faster than I anticipated. He mentioned that he'd only expected him to absorb a decent chunk of power, given that slimes are basically mana-filled organisms. He mused that because no one had taken that job for ages, it ended up being a huge bonus, speeding up the training so he could start on aura right away. You know, Elsid mentioned, you're starting on aura pretty late in the game compared to most folks. You ready for this? Brimming with confidence, our hero shot back. You bet I am. Kids from noble houses like Layans get a baptism at birth that opens up their circulatory systems, and from then on, they're basically spoon-fed mana through elixirs. This is a major reason why your social rank makes such a huge difference in ability. Trying to develop aura without that initial baptism was practically impossible for him before. There's one more thing, the sword added. If someone who already had the baptism tries to force open a system that's clogged with impurities, their body might not handle the shock. They could just die. That piece of information certainly got our hero's attention. But you've been absorbing mana this entire time, Elsie countered. And more importantly, Leon, you have me, the sacred sword. My power will shield your circulatory system and heal your wounds simultaneously. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is going to hurt like you wouldn't believe. You'll have to endure it. He laid it out clearly. If you black out, the baptism is a bust. Whether you pull this off or not comes down to your own mental fortitude. Then, Elcid began to unleash his power right in front of our hero. He watched with concern as shimmering lights began to form, suddenly sharpening into blades of pure light. All of a sudden, one of them dove from the air and slammed into Leon's back. He let out a raw scream, coughing up blood. As he sat there in agony with a sword sticking out of his back, several more blades of light started moving in his direction. Then, they all pierced him at once. Leon fought hard to stay conscious, his immense suffering plain to see. Elcid, watching our hero take the punishment, said with genuine surprise, "I'll be damned. To think you could actually withstand 10 swords of light." The kid was still on the floor, doing everything he could to hang on, though he was obviously in rough shape. The sword gazed out the window, thinking, asterisk, as Leon's aura awakens, the presence of those who've been hiding in this city is becoming much more distinct. Asterisk. Later on, well into the night at the inn, our hero whispered, "So this is aura." He thought about how he could feel a flow of energy circling outside his body, and he could see that refined power circulating around his heart. It felt like he'd just been handed a whole new power set, completely different from his physical strength. He felt like he could do absolutely anything. "Whoa there, you're getting ahead of yourself," Elcid said, snapping him out of it. Our hero was a bit confused. "I mean, you're truly incredible," Elcid clarified. "And even knowing that the awakening process is all about willpower, you still managed to completely surpass my expectations." He grew a bit pensive and asked, "Then why do you look so bummed out? I thought you were in charge of training me. Everything worked out, didn't it? The stronger I am, the better for you, right? The issue is how times I'm managing both. I even took a shortcut by binding myself to this sacred sword. Leon, do you have any idea that I am King Roderick?" He continued, "You're my successor. Let's just say I'm keeping my options open through you, and making sure I'm watching everything unfold from the heavens." Pointing a finger directly at Leon, Elcid said, "There's something else." "Frankly," he said, "I figured you'd be able to handle 5 swords at most. What we just did was to unblock your main energy channels. To use aura properly, you still need to open up all the smaller ones. You're just a kid who's swimming in a little bit of power right now. You've got a long journey ahead of you." Scratching his head, our hero replied, I know. But still, he thought, even if my physical stats are the same, I can feel this energy." Elcid explained, "That's your aura sense. And if you focus on using that flow, you'll be able to analyze everything around you." Our hero's eyes lit up at the news, thinking, asterisk, "That is way too cool, asterisk." The sword chimed in, "Look, I know you're excited now that you have aura, but first I need to give you the rundown. Are you aware that aura has attributes? There are 5 common attributes typically found in humans: metal, beast, wood, fire, and water, but yours isn't one of them. I have to admit, I'm a little stunned that you acquire the same aura as me," he said, which made our hero curious. "Wait, the same as yours?" he asked, surprised. "So, does that mean?" Elcid cut him off. "Yep, your aura is the sun attribute, representing light and heat. It's a high-class attribute that signifies splendor." Overjoyed, Lion started celebrating on the bed, thinking, asterisk, "I have the same attribute as the legendary hero." Asterisk, Elcid said, "All right, let me give you the summary before we get to the main point." With a snap of his fingers, he brought up the information terminal. It showed that he was a hero who had finally learned aura. He was level 22 with a growing list of skills. He was shocked. Asterisk, "This looks totally different from before." Asterisk, he thought. Asterisk, "Not only that, how did I just learn aura and I'm already at level 3? Asterisk, Elcid explained, "You were able to use accelerate even before you knew how to use aura, and you can already use aura sense. Just think back to those moments when you used that power. You're already way past levels 1 and 2, he added. Our hero asked, "Is that for real?" Elcid continued, "Your martial body also leveled up to 2 after we opened your meridians. Now, I think it's time to teach you some of that swordsmanship you've been missing." That news made Lion light up, and he celebrated. He thought, asterisk, "I can finally learn the swordsmanship of the great hero Roderick." Asterisk, with his eyes sparkling, he asked, "Should we start right away?" Elcid chuckled, "My goodness, You're really fired up, aren't you? In my opinion, that's 100 times better than having no motivation. But there's something you need to be aware of first. This city is where your enemies are hiding. Lian didn't seem to get it and just asked, "What?" He clarified. "Somewhere, in this city, I can feel their presence. They're the hero's ultimate nemesis traitors aiming to sacrifice this world to beings from another dimension. Basically, they're just parasites that fester in the shadow of every hero of every age." Looking a little stressed, Leon asks what they're called. Elsid scoffs, saying he doesn't bother naming that kind of trash. He tells him if he needs a label, just call them Malice, a seriously nasty group. Leon clenches his fists, annoyed. The hero's mortal enemies, he thinks, but the sword warns him that trying to face them head-on right now would be pure suicide. Our hero comes to a firm conclusion. "So, I just need to get stronger. That's the answer, right?" he declares. "I've already decided I'm going to be a hero." Elsa just stares at him for a moment. He explains, "They'll probably lay low for a while, but don't think you have all the time in the world. You'll have to make your move within 2 months, maximum. Think of monster hunting as just your warm-up, a way to power up. But Malice, they're an enemy no hero can run from. From this point on, you're going to have to dive into the muck, crawling your way through blood and pure hatred." Leon takes all this in, his expression tight. The next day at the Adventurers Guild, Rise tells him the guards had contacted her and that she was getting worried since he hadn't checked in for 4 straight days. "Sorry, did I make you wait?" Leon asks. She looks him over and says, "You seem different, somehow." "You could say I had a bit of a breakthrough while I was out hunting," Leon replies. Her eyes light up. "I knew it. That's great. And actually, it gives me one more reason to congratulate you." Leon just looks confused. "Huh? What do you mean, one more?" With a gentle smile, she holds out a new emblem and says, "Yep, congratulations on your promotion to C rank," she announces. Staring at the beautiful emblem, Leon asks, "Wait, don't C ranks usually need a separate evaluation for a promotion?" "Normally, yes," Rise confirms. "But your performance reports for taking down the Ratmen and the Rocky Slimes were outstanding. So, thanks to the letters of appreciation from both the Lord and the Captain, you got to skip it." Leon looks at the emblem with pride, thinking, "I got promoted after only 2 quests. Not too shabby," Elsid remarks. "Now that you're promoted, you can take on better jobs. It'll make searching for Malice a lot easier." The boy then asks, "So I can take on C rank requests now?" Rise confirms he can start right away and hands him a few documents. Rise thinks to herself, he's already looking for a new job right after a promotion. Holy Knights really are on another level. She's totally buying that Holy Knight act, huh? Elsid muses. "I guess Holy Power and Sonora are pretty similar after all." Leon asks, "What do you think?" The sword replies, "There are a few decent ones, but nothing connected to Malice." So Leon murmurs to himself, should we just focus on training until a clue pops up, while the girl watches him, puzzled by him talking to himself. "Do you want me to show you requests from a different category?" she asks. It's a bit strange to only look through the rejected ones, but our hero cuts her off, saying, "No, that's not it." He thinks for a few seconds before asking, "Could you show me any requests related to the slums or jobs that have a bad reputation?" The girl seems a bit tense. "The slums?" she asks. "Most slums are just places where poor people gather, but the slums in Blaine are a whole different beast. It's a haven for thieves, informants, fugitive convicts, smugglers, assassins, all those types. The entire district is controlled by criminals. So it's basically a massive, lawless zone, almost like its own independent city," Leon thinks. Then Rise adds, "But we don't have any requests related to the slums. That's mercenary work, not something for adventurers." She says it a bit nervously. Damn it, our hero thinks. Right, adventurers aren't supposed to get involved in human conflicts. Trouble in the slums is almost always just fights between people. I can't become a mercenary with all those restrictions, not at this point. And if I start snooping around without a good reason, I'll definitely draw their attention. Finally, Rise pulls out a single request form and asks, "What about this one?" Sir Leon, our hero, takes it and gives it a quick look. It's a job to clear out some ghost armors in an abandoned mansion. Some decorative suits of armor left in a deserted mansion have come to life, making it impossible to sell the property, Rise explains. Not only is the pay pretty low, but there also aren't many D ranks who can even damage the armors. Our hero thinks, "My sacred sword shouldn't have any trouble with that." She adds, "And since the mansion is right next to the slums, I figured it would be a helpful excuse for you to get near the area." Having a good excuse is exactly what I need, Leon thinks. And no matter how powerful the factions in the slums are, they wouldn't dare start trouble with the Adventurers Guild. If they mess with the guild, they could end up having to deal with a high-rank adventurer. A rank and above are basically national-level assets. Rise gives our hero a gentle smile as he scratches his head, looking a bit embarrassed. He smiles back and says, "Thanks, I owe you one." She replies, "Don't worry about it, it's my job." The girl tells Leon to also pick up his reward for the rocky slimes, adding that the guard captain included a generous bonus for him. Our hero looks at the sack of coins, extremely pleased, but he suddenly remembers something and asks the girl, "Hey, can I ask you one more thing?" She says, "Yes, of course." With a more serious look, he asks, "Could you tell me where the Church of Blaine is?" Rise looks completely shocked by the question and stammers, The church?" Then the boy says, "Yeah, I have some business to take care of there." Rise gets incredibly tense at his request. I knew she'd react like this, Leon thinks. If she believes I'm a holy knight like Elsid said, she knows that we in our order aren't allowed to ask the church for help, unless, of course, enemies of the church show up. In other words, heretics. People who denounce the goddess. Regardless of what group they belong to, the church musters all its strength to fight them. That's why they dispatch the ruthless Iron Knights. Then the girl says, "It's at the end of the Primate District in the northeast. It's the 13th building." Our hero thanks her and says he's heading over. The girl is left standing there, staring, practically drooling. A moment later, it hits her. If a holy knight is looking for the church, it can only mean an enemy of the church has appeared. She collapses to the floor, thinking, "This is something the guild can't ignore. I need to report this immediately." With a satisfied smirk, Elsid says, "Now that's cunning." He notes, "It's the most effective way to get the guild to act without revealing your identity. A simple D or C rank report would never be enough to make them take things seriously." Leon chimes in that it's not quite that simple, asking if he was absolutely sure he kept his identity under wraps. After all, once a report gets filed, the guild just takes over from there. He figures he could always reveal Elsid to the church if things got really desperate, but he's keeping that card as an absolute last resort. Besides, Elsid's seal isn't even fully broken yet. On top of that, he still needs to level up his skills quite a bit before he goes around announcing to the church that he's the official wielder of the sacred sword. But putting all that aside for a moment, Leon asks about these living armors, wondering if they're literally just empty suits of armor clanking around like monsters. To his surprise, the sword says, "Nope." That catches our hero off guard too. The sword explains that living armors are a pretty rare natural phenomenon. They can be animated by magic or sorcery, or someone just pumps them full of power. It clarifies that they don't have a mind of their own, they're basically just metal puppets with a single directive: keep intruders out. Leon then asks if a mage couldn't just cast a dispel spell and call it a day. Elsid immediately shoots that idea down, explaining that since they weren't created with magic, it just wouldn't work. The way dispelling works is like taking out the support beams of a building. Sure, it collapses, but you're still left with a huge pile of rubble. That's why a mage is pretty much useless in a situation like this. After thinking it over for a second, our hero says, "Well, the ones we're up against don't seem like that big of a deal." He's looking over a blueprint on the table and notes, "Their armor is just a mix of iron with a silver coating." The sword pipes up, asking, "So, if they're such a cakewalk, why hasn't anyone taken them out yet?" The report mentions this would have been sorted out ages ago if it were assigned as an official disciplinary mission, a detail that gives our hero a bad feeling. Just then, he spots something in the report and asks if the armor's regeneration speed is insanely fast. Apparently, even if you smash them to bits, they pull themselves back together in under 10 minutes. Because of that, people's weapons just can't hold up, so they end up having to bail on the fight. Elsid finally gets it, saying that's the kind of power you'd expect from an iron alloy living armor. Rolling up the document, our hero just says, "Well, we'll find out when we get there. Let's go." As night blankets the city, they make their way into the slum district. He's taken aback by how crowded it is, way more packed with people than he anticipated. He checks in with Elsid, who says it's been getting a weird, uncomfortable vibe ever since they entered the area. He asks if they're being followed, but the sword says it would have given him a heads up immediately if that were the case. It does, however, have a hunch about what's going on. Naturally, our hero wants to know what's up. The sword explains it's all about his aura sensing ability. His sun aura is super sensitive to outside vibes, and all the locals are giving him the side eye, figuring he's an easy mark because of his age. All that negative energy is setting off his aura like a tripwire. Frowning, Leon says that knowing the reason just makes him feel even creepier. He can't believe that prickly feeling on his skin is literally the sensation of people wanting to jump him. Elsid warns him to stay on his toes anyway. While most of the bad vibes are just small-time threats, some of that intent feels seriously dangerous. Our hero just nods and says, "Got it." The sword adds that no matter where you are, people always have to be wary of strangers, so he needs to keep his guard up while on this job. Feeling a bit on edge, our hero presses on. Above them, a gorgeous full moon hangs in the night sky. When our hero finally arrives at his destination, he's greeted by a huge, spooky-looking mansion. The place looks like it's been derelict for ages. Elsa jokes that even without the haunted armor, nobody would buy this dump, and our hero has to agree. Scattered around the property are several suits of armor draped in thin sheets, and right on cue, they begin to stir. Leon pushes deeper into the mansion, entering a massive, cobweb-infested room. Drawing his holy sword, he says, "All right, I think I'm ready," and uses the glowing blade as a makeshift flashlight to see. He can't help but grin. Man, this thing is so convenient. Elsa dryly reminds him to pack some candles next time, since he can't exactly go around using a magical glow stick when there are other people around. Still buzzing with excitement, our hero replies, "Okay, candles next time." Just then, the sword directs his attention straight ahead. From down the corridor, an armored figure trudges toward them, its eyes glowing with an eerie magical light. It slams its weapon into the ground, cracking the stone floor. From the end of the hall, the armor just stares them down. Getting pumped up, our hero says, "Whoa, this is the first time I'm fighting an opponent with a halberd. You can slash with it, thrust to pierce with it, and even use it to crush things. Not only that, but with a reach of about 2 meters, that weapon alone can close the distance it takes him 2 steps to cover." The armor winds up for a big swing. As he braces for it, he thinks to himself that a reach advantage only really counts when there's an actual person wielding the weapon. With a precise move, our hero strikes the weapon. He figures that no matter how powerful the halberd is, there's no way an empty suit of armor weighing only 20 to 30 kilograms can possibly overpower him. With a look of determination, he says, "That's the price you pay for closing the distance yourself." His next blow starts to break the armor apart, but Leon knows that's nowhere near enough. In the next instant, he unleashes a rapid-fire series of attacks on the enchanted suit. Shattered pieces of it go flying, clattering across the floor. Elsa asks if he just used acceleration, noting that aside from some minor blade deflections from the speed burst, it wasn't a bad move. Leon admits he can only maintain it for a few seconds, though it feels much more natural to use without his aura active. But still, the report claimed these things regenerate even after being smashed by a warhammer. Our hero stands there, looking at the pile of broken armor, and asks, "Didn't the report mention some crazy regeneration? Because I'm not really seeing it." Elsid suggests that maybe the report was fake. Leon agrees it's possible but points out that filing a false report is a Class 2 crime with the guild. And if someone actually died because of a phony report, the guild would put a massive bounty on whoever submitted it. Something about this whole thing is bothering him. He's wondering who would take such a huge risk just to dodge a disciplinary mission. Now that he thinks about it, the whole situation has felt off from the very beginning. No matter how tough these armors are, someone like Gru could have handled them without any issues. Elsid admits it's stumped and wonders if maybe there are differences between each suit of armor. Our hero says that could be it. He thinks he should be a bit more cautious, but the sword chimes in, "I don't think that'll be necessary. It looks like they're coming to us." Peering down the long corridor, our hero saw a handful of glowing eyes pop open in the darkness, right before a whole squad of enchanted armor began clanking his way. He squinted at the approaching silhouettes and commented, "You know, it's a bit hard to make them out," before turning to his companion. "Hey, Elsid, any chance you could dial up the lighting a bit?" "Okay, I'm not sure if I'm a holy sword or a glorified torch anymore," Elsid quipped as he cranked up the blade's brightness, flooding the entire room with a brilliant, sacred light. "Whoa, that's bright," Leon thought, impressed. It was blinding, yet somehow, it didn't hurt his eyes. It actually felt kind of pleasant. Suddenly, a series of piercing shrieks erupted from up ahead. The suits of armor were actually screaming, covering their visors as if they just stared into the sun. Completely baffled, Leon blurted out, "What in the world is wrong with them?" One suit of armor glared at him, smoke billowing from its eye slits, and then the entire group charged straight for Leon. He reacted in a flash, expertly parrying the flurry of attacks. He mused to himself that these guys were definitely coordinated. While their individual attacks were painfully obvious, their teamwork was practically flawless. Still, something felt off. That level of coordination would be a real headache if they were actual knights, but he wondered how long they thought they could keep up these same old repetitive moves. "Leon!" Elsid's voice cut through his thoughts, just as a sword whistled past his ear. Distracted for a split second, he'd almost lost his head, ducking just in the nick of time. He leaped back, putting some distance between them. "What is it?" he snapped, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "Those things are not living armors," Elsid shouted back, to which an even more irritated Leon replied. "Then what are they?" "Just use your special sight," Elsid urged. "Your eyes will show you what they really are." Leon activated his vision, and his jaw dropped. It was like something was swirling around times inside times the armor. "Why is there smoke?" he asked. Elsid explained. "That black mist is a form of pure evil energy. The second it touches you, it'll start draining your life force. Your solar aura will help you resist it," the sword added, "but seriously, try not to make contact. Nothing good will come from it." "Is that why they freaked out when you lit up?" Leon asked. Kind of, Elsid replied. If they were just clumps of evil energy, my light would have vaporized them instantly. Besides, real living armors are mindless puppets. They can't scream. There's absolutely no reason for a simple enchanted armor to tremble before the light of a holy sword. The only things that have such a strong reaction to purification light are evil spirits, Elsid concluded grimly. And that's exactly what we're up against. They're called phantom armors, he explained. They're created when a restless spirit possesses a suit of armor, and over time, its confusion festers into a deep-seated hatred for all living things. Thinking back to the first one he fought, Leon realized. So that's why it didn't piece itself back together after I cut it down. Armor controlled by an evil spirit can't be truly destroyed until you've burned away all of its hatred. Otherwise, they'll just keep getting back up, no matter what you do to them. And the only ways to put down a phantom armor for good are to either blast the spirit out with powerful magic, sever its connection to the armor, or purify it with holy power. A confident smile spread across Leon's face. Thankfully, I've got this sacred sword, the cream of the crop when it comes to holy weapons. But there was one little snag. There were just too many of them. If they were all phantom armors, his best move was probably to make a tactical retreat and come back at sunrise. This number is strange, though, Elsid commented. There's no way this many appeared here by coincidence. Leon raised an eyebrow. So it's not a coincidence? The successful creation of a phantom armor is an extremely rare event, Elsid explained. Even under perfect conditions, whether by chance or by design, for this many to show up here means hundreds, maybe even thousands of spirits have drifted into this mansion. Leon was floored. That's impossible. There's no way that many people are dying in this city. Elsid clarified. Well, an evil spirit's range of activity isn't very large, so they can't wander too far or remain in this world for very long. They likely couldn't even cross from one district to another within the city. A grim realization dawned on Leon. Then there's only one place they could have come from. The slums. It's the only lawless part of the city, the one place that fits the bill, where you can get anything with enough money or violence. Leon's expression hardened with resolve. He couldn't just let this go. At the same time, he knew he was still green as a hero, and this was something way beyond his current skill level. And even his ace in the hole, using the sacred sword to get the church involved, would be useless if he couldn't figure out who this secret group was and what they were after. And with that, he threw the option of returning in the morning out the window. He was pushing forward, right here and now, fighting stronger opponents in the dark. This is exactly the kind of trial that'll forge me into something greater, he thought with a grin. With renewed purpose, he dove back into the fight, cleaving through the malevolent armors. Sometime later, the floor was littered with the shattered remains of his enemies. Peeking through a grimy window, he could see the first light of dawn breaking. Well, that seems to be the last of them, Elsid noted. Leon nodded as sunlight began to stream in. You know, fighting while completely surrounded wasn't so bad after all. Was it because you were working on your blind spots? The sword asked. You bet, he confirmed. My senses are almost second to none, but there's a hard limit to my field of view, and no matter which way I turn, I still don't have eyes in the back of my head. It's not like I can just fight with my back against a wall forever. That is certainly true, Elsid agreed. A third-rate fighter is controlled by their circumstances. A second-rate fighter adapts to them, but a first-rate fighter uses those circumstances to their advantage. Leon took a deep, satisfied breath. As he walked out of the mansion, he said, Well, it's a weakness I have to overcome if I'm serious about fighting for the slums. The slums were far more dangerous than this place, filled with traps set with truly malicious intent. Leon was certain that people who were used to killing from the shadows would aim for his blind spots. If he kept relying solely on his eyesight, he'd eventually stumble into a trap he couldn't escape. On what should have been a beautiful day, a small child was crying in another part of the city. Whatever had happened, the little boy was clearly upset. That's when a cloaked man approached him. Wiping his tears away, the boy looked up to see who it was. The next instant, he slapped both hands over his mouth in sheer terror as a massive, cruel-looking man towered over him. A palpable tension fell over everyone nearby at the man's arrival. As he walked by, followed by his goons, someone whispered, It's Khan. He's the boss of the most powerful gang in Blaine. One of his men reported, We kept an eye on districts 23 and 25 like you ordered. None of the slaves who went into that area ever came back out. The man continued, The people around that mansion looked dangerous, so we didn't get any closer than we were. Should we try to find out more? He asked. The boss shook his head. No. Just watch from a distance. Getting close already drew unwanted attention. Then, settling onto a large chair that looked like a makeshift throne, he called out, Next. Another lackey stepped up, saying, We were inspecting the water drainage in districts 23 and 25. We found human remains mixed in with the waste. There were so many. We estimate at least 30 people were disposed of just today. So, what was the mage's verdict? Khan asked. His subordinate shifted nervously. He said something strange. Sir, claimed that not even a full-blown black magic ritual could have caused this. The boss's expression soured. Gather up all the evidence I asked for, he ordered. I want a detailed report written up, with everything attached. We're going to force the church and the guild to finally make a move. But boss, the man protested, getting flustered. If they solve this, our commission from the slave merchants gets cut in half. We don't even know what's happening yet. In a flash, a spray of crimson mist hit the other henchman squarely in the face. The man who'd just been whining about his pay suddenly went stiff and dropped to the ground, his life gone. A man who doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut ends up dead. Just like that fool, Khan said calmly. The surviving henchman was stunned. Asterisk. His technique is unbelievable. I didn't even see him move. Asterisk. Asterisk. It was like he just waved his arm. Asterisk. Those guys are a different breed. Khan continued. You can't use them, and you should never even try. Hell, just being associated with them is a risk. I don't care if they're lunatics, part of some bizarre cult, or even spies from another kingdom, there is absolutely no good reason to get mixed up with them. If the church decides to get directly involved, it's game over for us, the boss stated flatly. If they find out we've been doing business with that crew, they'll hunt us to the ends of the earth. And that crew is the church's personal execution squad, the Holy Knights of the Iron Chain. All right, let's drop it, Khan said, waving a hand dismissively. Any other news worth hearing? Yes, actually. It's about that abandoned mansion in this district. The rumor is some adventurer has been visiting the place regularly for a request. Khan leaned forward, intrigued. The man added, it's been going on for over a week. He's even picked up a nickname from all the Ratmen and Stone Slime quests he's been taking. The henchman went on. At first, they called him Cat, but these days everyone's calling him the janitor. I figure it's because he's taking all the dirty jobs that nobody else wants, the henchman explained. How interesting, Khan mused aloud. The janitor, huh? He chuckled. An adventurer who isn't afraid to take on the shittiest requests. Now that might be someone I can actually put to good use. As night fell over the vibrant city, our hero wasn't exactly relaxing back at the inn. He was completely focused, pushing himself until he finally finished, looking utterly drained from the effort. So, how did it go? Elsid's voice echoed. Could you feel the aura moving inside you? Yeah. Leon breathed out. It felt absolutely mystical. A determined average guy will always surpass a lazy genius, the sword declared. I'm genuinely impressed you're keeping up with this training regimen. It feels like I die and come back to life every single time I pass a trial, Leon confessed. But I don't feel like I'm getting stronger. Just relieved that it's finally over. Why don't you see for yourself, then? Elsid replied. With a flick of his spectral wrist, the status terminal materialized in front of Leon again. Wait, my aura user level is low. Wasn't it beginner before? But my sword mastery is already at intermediate, Leon exclaimed. The sword scoffed. That's just a testament to your growth speed. It's to be expected, since I am the one teaching you. You're learning things in days that take most people hundreds to figure out, Elsid explained. Yeah, but, our hero said, the 7-star sword style isn't even listed here. You can't even comprehend the first technique, and you expect to have learned a sword style? Elsid said, his tone sharp with annoyance. You should know better than that. The 7-star sword, also known by the name Chariot, is the legendary sword style that was invented by Rodri back in his era. It is said that a swordsman can only be called a true master when they are able to perform all 7 forms of the arcane style consecutively without a single flaw. I just want to learn one of the forms before I have to fight Malice, our hero said. If I could just combine the 2 swords, wouldn't I have an advantage over pretty much anyone? Anyone who isn't master rank would die instantly, the sword stated bluntly. Okay, enough, Leon retorted. It's impossible for me to get strong enough to beat anyone in the slums in just 2 months, so I need a trump card. And there's no point in having an aura weapon if I can't use it right. Elsid seemed to be pondering the point. Let's start right now. I'll train until I collapse, he declared. I admire your enthusiasm, the sword replied, but today's session is over. Our hero's face fell. What? Why? Because, Elsid said, his gaze fixed on the window, we have some uninvited guests. Uninvited guests? Leon echoed, walking over to take a look himself. They're definitely not residents of this inn, Elsid noted dryly. Are they here for me? Our hero asked. I'm not sensing any monsters or malice, Elsid reported. None of them feel particularly powerful, either, but based on their appearance, I'd say they're common thugs. Do you think they're from the slums? Leon asked. Well, their expressions aren't exactly friendly, the sword observed, but I don't get the feeling they're here for a fight. I guess I should go meet them, our hero resolved, heading downstairs. Outside, one of them stepped forward gruffly. You, the janitor, Leon confirmed that he was. Another man spoke up, a little more politely. Sorry to show up unannounced, but we're acting on our superior's orders. We'd appreciate your cooperation. Superiors? Leon questioned. That's right, the bandaged man said. We're members of a little group called the Bastards. On cue, the entire group struck a series of poses like they were a new boy band. Asterisk. I think I remember hearing about them when I was gathering information. Asterisk, he thought. Asterisk. They're run by Khan, the Fang, and are one of the three major gangs that have the slums carved up. Asterisk. Pointing a thumb at our hero, the man said. The boss is looking for you. He told us to leave you alone if you didn't want to come. Then he leaned in a little closer. But I'd really suggest you just come along quietly. Without any hesitation, our guy simply said, lead the way. The goons all looked at each other, surprised by how willing he was. Asterisk. He wouldn't summon me like this if he just wanted to hurt me. Asterisk, Leon reasoned. Asterisk. And if I can mention Khan's name, most people will get out of my way. This is my chance to get into the heart of the slums. Asterisk. Elsid materialized next to him. It's incredibly obvious what you're planning, he said. Yup, our hero replied. Walking under the bright, full moon. Asterisk. He probably wants to offer me a job. Asterisk, he thought as he followed the group. Asterisk. The kind of job you can't request from the guild. Well, if he plans to use me, I'll just have to use him right back. Asterisk. Once they were inside a tavern, one of the men pointed. This way. At that exact moment, someone ran by and slammed right into the goon. The man hit the floor, and a pile of apples scattered everywhere. I am so sorry, the person stammered. The goon glared down, his face twisted in anger. You little bastard. He then began kicking the man on the ground viciously. You piece of garbage. Why the hell don't you watch where you're going? Our hero flinched, clearly disturbed by the scene. Endure it. Elsa's voice warned in his mind. What? Leon shot back, outraged. You need to be more careful with your emotions, the sword insisted. Leon knew that if he let his rage show in front of Khan, he wouldn't accomplish a thing, so he managed to get himself under control. A few moments later, he says he's all right now and promises to be more careful. That night, once they get to the meeting spot, Leon looks around and says, So, this is the scumbag's headquarters. Elsid sarcastically adds, Well, they certainly know a thing or two about tidiness. He takes a good look around the place, wondering if all the marks were from past battles. He notes that it looks like they avoid cleaning on purpose, and the sword chimes in that it's a classic tactic to assert dominance. Out of nowhere, a massive man appears behind our hero, asking if he's the one they call the janitor. Acting on pure instinct, our hero whips his weapon out and lunges at the guy, who just blocks it with his wrist. The man flashes a wicked smile as he effortlessly holds back the hero's sword. Seeming to relish the moment, he says, Janitor is a pretty lame nickname for you. Our hero looks a little rattled by the man's presence. The big fella then winds up for a punch while our hero, frozen in shock, thinks his life is about to end. The man throws a massive strike toward Leon, but stops his fist just an inch from our hero's face. Even without a direct hit, the sheer force of the punch cuts Leon's cheek. The dust kicked up by the blow slowly starts to settle. Standing there stunned, he thinks to himself that he couldn't have dodged it. The wind pressure alone was overwhelming. If that punch had connected, his head would have popped. He wonders if this is what it feels like to be prey. The man just says he has guts, mentioning he heard Leon was only C rank and figured he'd be a total weakling. He adds that the test is over, gives him a light pat on the chest, and says, That's it. You're the one I've chosen. Wiping his nose, our hero asks what exactly he's been chosen for. Khan explains it's for his job offer, asking if he hadn't guessed that much after coming all this way. He promises to give him what he desires. Our hero shoots back, What I desire? And what might that be? With a smirk, Khan says he's sorry, but he's already done a full background check on him. The man explains that back at the Royal Academy, he was consistently the runner-up among the commoners and that he mopped the floor with those arrogant nobles through pure hard work. And after he left school, he signed up with the Adventurers Guild, making a name for himself among the heavy hitters of the sea. Leon watches him, thinking this guy is the king of the slums, Khan the prey, and wonders if he has informants tucked away in every alley. Khan proudly declares he's pretty sure he knows why Leon left the academy. It's because you never planned on becoming a knight, so you had no intention of ever kissing up to the nobles. Elsid and Leon exchange a look of surprise at the guy's logic. He lays it all out, saying that since that was the plan, he roughed up those noble jerks and decided to become an adventurer. Unlike those other guys who only care about money, you saw the bigger picture and positioned yourself as an adventurer who could be valuable to the real players. He says that's how he managed to hit C rank after just 2 jobs. Leon has a flashback to his fights with the Ratmen and Slimes before getting his emblem, just as Khan asks, That's how it went down, right? In total disbelief, the two of them just stand there listening while our hero thinks to himself that the guy has it completely wrong. Khan continues, saying that if money were his goal, he wouldn't have done any of that, and that he's had a single objective from the start. He claims he figured it out right away. Excitedly, he declares, it's fame. That one thing the nobles can sway, the one thing that can raise your status, no matter what your background is. He says he's certain that's why Liam came running to his call, even though it was deep in the dangerous slums, and asked if he's not right about that too. Giddy with his own theory, he says that if the boy takes his request, that wish will come true. Looking a bit more serious, our hero says he gets it, all while thinking, what on earth is wrong with this guy? He's spinning this whole narrative all by himself. Alcid whispers that it's a whole lot of crazy talk, but it weirdly makes a certain kind of sense. Considering his history and the quests he's taken, anyone might assume he's chasing recognition. Leon thinks he's being misunderstood in a totally different way than he was with Rise, but sees no reason to correct a man who might be his enemy one day. So, if Khan is going to get everything backward, Leon figures he might as well take advantage of it. With that, he says he'll at least hear what the man has to offer. Khan gives him a seriously intimidating stare as the meeting continues under the beautiful night sky. The boss explains that while the slum dwellers are wary of outsiders, they don't turn them away. He describes the place as a survival of the fittest environment where lots of overconfident people show up trying to grab power. That's why, when this new group started making moves 4 months back, he didn't even bat an eye. That all changed when they stormed Districts 23 and 25, leaving a pile of around 200 bodies in a single day. Our hero recalls the armors filled with evil spirits, wondering if this malice is tied to the abandoned mansion and those armors. Khan carries on, explaining that power in the slums is split between 3 people. There's a lone shark they call the Golden Pig, a guy named Simon, a mysterious assassin whose face no one has ever seen called the Guardian of the Coffin, and, of course, himself, Khan, who sits at the very top. Leon thinks that maybe it's just because he met this guy first, but he can't even imagine what the other 2 are like based on those nicknames. He adds that Districts 23 and 25 belong to Simon, but with roughly 200 deaths and all the money he loaned out now gone, he's absolutely furious over the losses. So, in the end, Simon hired mercenaries ranging from rank D all the way up to B to take care of the problem, but every last one of them got wiped out. This revelation leaves our hero speechless. Agitated, he asks who in the world these people are, and Khan just says he has no idea. Leon thinks they must be incredibly powerful to slaughter that many mercenaries. A group like that should be on the Empire's watch list because this is way beyond a simple turf war. When he considers Khan's story, the massive number of phantom armors in that mansion starts to make sense. Khan says that everyone who tried to dig up information is now dead, except for him. He claims the damn pig is so terrified he's not making a move, and the coffin keeper is likely just watching from the sidelines with his own people to avoid a major conflict. He adds that the others would surely complain if he hadn't stepped in himself, and that he understands their position. But Leon asks if the situation has essentially turned into a Cold War, and Khan admits that, as frustrating as it is, that's the truth. That's precisely why I called you, he says, the adventurer who only craves fame. After our little test, I was convinced. You have a habit of running towards danger instead of away from it. With that kind of courage, I was sure you wouldn't say no. Leon replies that, from the sound of it, Khan wants him to act as a hired gun, betray the guild, and let him use him. Looking pleased, Khan says he's a sharp one and that it would be fantastic to have a subordinate like him instead of his usual idiots. Sorry, gangs aren't really my scene, Leon said. Internally, however, he was thinking, asterisk. Yeah, right. This guy is just scared of losing his turf to those other psychos and wants to use me as his personal attack dog. Asterisk. Leon figured Malice was the much bigger fish to fry right now, but he had a nagging feeling this guy could become a massive pain in the neck later on. All right, I'll bite, our hero said, but how exactly do you plan on getting the guild to move on this? In response, the man simply slid a hefty file across the table. Leon started reading, and his eyebrows shot up. A few pages deeper, his jaw hit the floor. He couldn't believe it. The file Khan gave him was packed with evidence of people in the slums being used as sacrifices for Malice. Elsid was just as shocked, saying, this must be hundreds. And in the worst-case scenario, it could easily be thousands. A wave of sickness washed over our hero as he thought, asterisk, these people are in the zone without walls. There's no official record of who even lives there, so who would notice, they're gone. Asterisk. Noticing his expression, Elsid spoke up. Should we take this to the guild immediately? But Khan cut in. Don't bother. The higher-ups in the guild are more thick-headed than you can imagine. They would never believe a report from a less than reputable source, he continued. Leon's eyes lit up. And that's where I come in, isn't it? Khan grinned. You catch on quick. I'm going to make you my proof, a living, breathing witness so compelling the guild won't have a choice but to believe it. That is unbelievably shameless. Our hero shot back. So whether I report back alive or end up dead as proof, it's a win for you either way." At that, Khan just leaned back and roared with laughter. Wiping a tear from his eye, he asked, "So, are we doing this?" The young man just shook his head. "You're a real piece of work, you know that? It doesn't matter to you if I'm a living witness or a corpse for your cause. Either outcome suits me just fine," the boss admitted. "So, are you game?" Leon slammed his hand on the table. "Fine, I'm in." He thought to himself, I hate this, but getting info in the slums is a nightmare. And if I do this, I could potentially save hundreds of people. Khan tossed 2 items onto the table. "Take these." Leon asked, "What are they?" The man replied, "It's a dagger, engraved with my seal. Show that to anyone giving you a hard time, and they'll back down instantly." "Well, anyone except the coffin keepers," the boss said. Leon pushed the weapon back. "Yeah, this thing gives me the creeps. No thanks." The man's smile faltered for a second. The leader pointed to the other item. "Inside that bag, you'll find some magic scrolls. Use them if you get in a jam, or sell them for cash. Your call. Just think of it as a little something up front," he finished. As Khan got up, the young man was about to ask something. He had a flashback to the fight they had, specifically to a punch that never landed. "Hey, back there. Did you mean to stop that punch from the very beginning?" Khan just stared at him, his face a complete blank. Then, a slow, knowing smile crept across his face. "Yes." As night settled over the city, Leon was back in his inn room, unable to quiet his thoughts. The reason for his unease was that gang leader. The young man replayed the encounter in his head. Khan the Fang. That guy's strength is just completely off the charts. He knew he had to get way stronger. The young man turned to Elsid. "Hey, did you notice anything in those documents that stuck out to you?" "As a matter of fact, yes," the sword replied. "However," he continued, "I'll need to do some more in-depth analysis first. With the way malice operates, if even one thing is out of place, it could lead to a total disaster. So you're saying you need to check things out with your own eyes?" Leon asked. The sacred sword confirmed that was exactly what it meant. "You know, sneaking into a place where 500 mercenaries got their butts handed to them isn't exactly a walk in the park," he told the sword. "I'm going to need a partner for this one. It has to be someone who can't be bought, and someone I can trust to watch my back without a second thought." Elsid sounded worried. "Aren't your standards a little high?" Leon ignored him and added one last condition. "And they have to absolutely, positively hate malice." "There's only one place you'll find a person like that," the sword said. The boy immediately knew. "You're talking about the 30th building in the Prima district, aren't you?" And so, another day began for our adventuring pair. Standing in front of a building, Leon asked, "This is the sacred church? It seems like a strange spot for a branch, being in such a poor district," he mused. Elsid explained, "The church always sends its clerics to places where the forgotten and marginalized live." The sword went on. "Those driven by greed can be bribed, and the ambitious can be manipulated. But clerics are different. They're honorable, and they walk a straight path. Clerics answer only to their faith and the goddess's teachings. They can't be pushed off course. In other words," Elsid added with a bit of a jab, "they won't fall for your usual tricks." Leon knew he had no other option. He really didn't want to make a big scene as a rookie hero, but it looked like he was going to have to tell the whole truth. But then again, he thought, if I'm spilling my guts to a cleric, all I have to do is ask them to keep it a secret, and they'll be honor-bound to do it. He also noticed that while everyone's clothes were pretty worn out, their eyes were full of life. No one was even trying to swipe things from each other, which showed a deep level of trust. Is this all thanks to the church branch? The boy wondered. What kind of person is the bishop in charge here? He walked up to the entrance and knocked. A voice from inside asked, "Who's there?" Leon replied, "I'm an adventurer. I have something I need to discuss with the bishop." A strange energy suddenly started to course through him. It was as if his own aura was humming in response to the person on the other side of the door. The door opened to reveal a figure with long hair and pointed ears. "I am Bishop Stesser, and I am in charge of this branch," the man said. Both of them were stunned, thinking, "Is this guy an elf?" With bruised knuckles, the bishop took a sip of something warm. He smiled kindly. "I'm guessing you're surprised to see that I'm an elf." Leon was a bit too shocked to reply right away. The man chuckled. "I know. It's not every day you see an elf in my line of work, but the goddess loves all her children equally, and I serve her with my entire heart." Now looking genuinely surprised, Leon listened as Stesser told him he was already aware of his recent good deeds. "The water quality here has improved dramatically thanks to you, and the number of people suffering from stomach problems has practically vanished. I'm quite sure the goddess is very pleased," the elf said. Feeling a bit awkward, the boy replied, "Oh, Well, I'm honored. The bishop's expression turned more serious. You said you had something to discuss with me. The boy nodded and presented the documents to him. The man took them and started to carefully review the pages. His initially gentle face slowly twisted into an expression of pure, cold rage. Stezer looked up and said, "This is an issue the church must handle directly." Leon felt a surge of excitement at his response. The elf noted that the info came from a questionable source, which meant the central parish would probably just send their own trusted investigator to look into it all over again. Leon agreed, realizing that if they did things by the book, it would take way too long to handle the situation. The kid was hoping to find someone to check out Districts 23 and 25 with him, so he asked the bishop if he could recommend anyone for the job. Looking a bit apologetic, Caesar admitted that nobody at his branch was really a fighter. He explained that while some knew healing and support arts, he doubted they'd be much help on a mission like this. The boy's spirits sank as he thought to himself that this had been his very last resort. His frustration flaring up again, the bishop declared that if it couldn't be helped, he would go along with the boy himself. This left the adventurer and Elcid completely stunned and speechless. Caesar was adamant, stating that he couldn't just pass off matters related to his business, and being a bishop didn't mean he couldn't do some of the heavy lifting. Leon, who was expecting some paladins or other reinforcements, nervously asked if that was really a good idea. The elf's expression soured with a hint of disappointment as he asked, "Do I really seem that untrustworthy to you, son?" As the boy glanced at all the old battle scars, he started connecting the dots. The bishop held out his arm and began to summon some kind of power, causing a brilliant red aura to materialize in his hand. He unleashed his fire aura, which was so incredibly dense it was leaking out and scorching the very air around him, a technique rumored to be powerful enough to shred mithril as if it were paper. Elcid observed that for him to manifest it so quickly, he must have honed that skill through countless battles, putting him on the same level as Khan. Our hero realized there was a good reason they called him Bishop. Caesar then asked what he thought, adding that he wouldn't slow him down. Leon, feeling awkward, replied that he was pretty sure he'd be the one slowing things down. The bishop just smiled and said, "Please, you're making me blush." He mentioned that 50 years ago he served with the Iron Chain Holy Knights, but now he was just a retired old soldier. Leo's mind reeled at the name, asterisk. The Iron Chain Holy Knights, the most powerful force on the continent, asterisk. Filled with excitement, our hero declared he'd be in his care, to which the elf replied that the sentiment was mutual. Caesar asked for a quick moment, saying he needed to grab his weapon and asking if they could wait for him in the front garden. So, Leon happily agreed. He was still processing the fact that he was teaming up with someone from the legendary Iron Chain Holy Knights. It felt like having an entire army on his side. On top of that, he figured a weapon from a knight of the forest elf tribe had to be some kind of awesome, legendary bow. Elcid even had to ask if he hadn't noticed the heavy calluses on Caesar's hands, which just left our hero confused. Suddenly, a massive spiked iron ball slammed into the ground, and a smiling Caesar appeared, casually wielding a flail, which left our hero and his companion a little shocked. They hung out in the garden for a moment while Caesar decided he'd give them a little demonstration of his favorite tool. He swung the weapon back and forth a few times before letting it fly, smashing straight into some nearby rocks and shattering them into 1,000 pieces. With a gentle smile, he sighed, "Ah, that's nice. It's been too long since I've felt this. You never really forget what it's like to crush a few skulls with this baby." This new revelation also left our hero and Elcid a little rattled. Caesar carried on, saying it was to destroy evil and his own sins as well. He added cheerfully that he was certain the goddess would be watching over their holy battle and asked what our hero thought. Stuttering, he managed to probably, yeah, while the elf declared that she absolutely would be. A short time later, as the afternoon was drawing to a close, our hero found himself walking through the city's dark and narrow streets. He asked Elcid if his excellency was keeping up all right, and he got a confirmation. Leon added that they'd told him to wear something a bit more appropriate for a stroll through the slums, since you can't just wander into a den of criminals dressed like a high-ranking cleric. But he felt something was off. He could sense the bishop's presence through his aura, but couldn't pick him up with any of his other senses. Elcid explained that it was an aura ability, a special technique that lets you completely erase your presence by manipulating your aura. He noted that it's a tough skill to use on the move, but the bishop was a true master. Just then, a man who looked wasted on his feet bumped right into the elf. Annoyed, he slurred, "Hey, watch where you're going." Another man pulled him back, asking what the hell he was looking at, since there was nobody there. Elcid remarked that he must have a lot of experience with infiltration missions. So, Leon commented that he was being treated like he was totally invisible, even though he could still sense him through his aura. Elcid clarified that he shouldn't be able to sense him at all, since he was actively erasing his presence with his aura. However, he went on to explain that those kinds of restrictions can sometimes be bypassed, depending on one's attribute. Since Leon was a sun attribute, the bishop was likely a moon attribute. He explained that he could sense the elf's presence because his own attribute made stealth abilities less effective against him, since he possessed the sun attribute. Our hero thought to himself, asterisk sun and moon. Is that just a coincidence? Or is this fate, too? Asterisk, a little later, Leon stopped and announced they had arrived and that this was District 23. Elsid commented that the gangster's dagger definitely came in handy, and our hero confirmed it did. He remembered how a few shady-looking characters had been staring them down, but as soon as he showed them the gang's dagger, every single member they ran into on the way respectfully moved out of their path. Caesar remarked that he couldn't believe they had waltzed through the slums so easily, adding that the boy was every bit as incredible as he heard. He said that thanks to him, he could now deliver swift judgment to the insolent heretics who insulted life itself, without even knowing how to be thankful for the goddess's grace. Our boy and Elsid both felt a little uneasy with the elf's intense vibe. Pushing a path open, Leon said that from this point forward, they were in enemy territory, and that it was too dangerous to travel above ground, so they would take the sewer path that Khan had told him about. They descended into the darkness as the elf lit the way with his magic. They moved forward together through the sewers until, all of a sudden, the elf snuffed out the light and signaled for them to be quiet. Through a nearby passage, they could overhear someone saying, "That's it for tonight. We didn't make our quota because the sacrifices started putting up a fight. But honestly, 70 people a day is a bit much. Even if they keep getting rid of them non-stop, it won't be over until tonight when the ritual is finally done." Then they heard complaints that those bastards were making them do all the cleanup. Our hero thought, asterisk, a ritual, 70 people in one day, asterisk, they had been killing that many people every day for a whole month. As he seethed with an unforgivable rage, he saw the elf drawing his weapon and whispering that he would go on ahead. He practically explodes up through the floorboards, landing right behind the two guys mid-sentence. Before either of them can even react, he's got his blade right up to one dude's nose. In a blur of motion, the elf drops them both without breaking a sweat. Our hero scrambles out of the hole, sputtering a bit, and the elf just sighs, reminding him, "Dude, the plan was to be sneaky." Then another dude shows up, complete with a spooky mask and some kind of dramatic smoke effect. The elf doesn't even give him time to monologue, just zips in for the attack. The bishop's eyes widen in shock for a second. He realizes his blade never made contact. It was blocked by some sort of shimmering magic shield. The masked guy just chuckles and boasts, "Yeah, good luck with that. Nothing gets through this little number." He gets all worked up, yelling about how they must be insane to sneak in here. But hey, perfect timing since they were fresh out of sacrifices. And then, mid-rant, he's neatly sliced in two. Our hero lands the final, perfect blow. He glares over at the other cultist, who starts stuttering, "Who the hell are you guys? Do you have any idea who you're messing with?" Just then, the elf materializes behind the guy and grabs him by the noggin. After that, the two of them just start cleaning house, taking out one cultist after another. They both stand there for a moment, looking over the pile of bodies on the floor. The elf gives a satisfied nod and says, "Looks like Brother Leon handled his end of the business." He shuffles his feet a bit and mumbles that maybe His Excellency shouldn't announce that so loudly. Our hero chimes in, "Man, these creeps were using some top-notch blades," and Caesar adds, "Yep, I swiped one. Pretty sure that's how I could just shrug off their weird magic stuff." Leaning in, he quietly asks Elsid, "So, we good?" and gets a calm, "Yep, everything is proceeding exactly as planned. I put a little glamour spell on myself," he explains. "So to everyone else, I should just look like any other sword, just like the ones you guys have." Our hero thinks to himself, "Yeah, no kidding. A glowing holy sword isn't exactly low profile." He figures if someone really knows their stuff about the church or Rodri, they might still be able to spot it, though. He muses internally, "Well, I wouldn't call this a successful infiltration by any stretch, but at least we found out what these guys are really up to. And their little confession was all the proof we need." The elf just deadpans. "That's a fair point, but it's not really an infiltration if you fail. Look at it this way," he says, with a shrug. "It's not murder if there are no witnesses. So, if we take out everyone here, I say we can call it a successful infiltration." Elsid and our hero just trade slightly strained smiles. The kid suggests they should look around a bit more, and Caesar tells Brother Leon he's on board. They heave open this massive metal door and are hit with an absolutely gruesome scene: bodies, weird tools, and human bones everywhere. Leon slaps a hand over his mouth, thinking, this is straight out of a horror movie. He can't even imagine how many people died here, or how awful it must have been. Elsid tells him to tough it out. He says the kid probably isn't used to this kind of gore, but he needs to look. "Don't you dare look away from this. Even if the world forgets, a hero has to remember." The sword speaks up. "This right here. This is the real face of the evil I've sworn to fight." Leon's confused. "Wait, you don't mean the Demon King?" Elsid just scoffs, please, as if some demon king could ever be my true enemy. The world's not some fairy tale where beating one bad guy solves everything. Our hero is just completely floored. Elsid continues, to a starving person, the real monster is poverty. To someone dying of plague, the monster is their sickness. Do you really see any simple cause and effect in a tragedy like this? Tell me, he challenges. Can you slice away poverty with a holy blade? Can you destroy a plague with a sword? Compared to problems like that, a demon king I can actually cut is just easy mode. A true hero is someone who brings about a better future. That's the job. That's why you have to keep fighting, no matter what. No matter how ugly it gets, you can't ever turn away. It's only by facing these horrors head-on that you'll ever be able to rip out the evil at its source. Our hero finally catches his breath, his eyes now filled with resolve. He replays Elsid's words in his head and snaps himself out of it in an instant. Man, he thinks, that elf has some serious mental fortitude. Leon calls out to his excellency, and the elf replies, looks like we've found the main facility. Everything we saw before was just their garbage disposal area. From here on out, we're looking at double-digit enemies, at least. Going in blind would be a really, really bad idea. He suddenly remembers what Khan told him. Consider it a down payment. Use it however you see fit. Leon thinks to himself that he really hoped he wouldn't have to use this, but he pulls a scroll from his pouch anyway and unfurls it. Caesar immediately asks, Brother Leon, what's that scroll for? As our hero concentrates on the scroll, he suddenly activates a clairvoyance spell. Elsid explains, it's magic that lets you see beyond your normal limits for a short time. It should be linked to your own sight now. And just like that, our hero's vision punches right through the walls and floors of the entire complex. The scroll flutters to the floor as the kid suddenly flinches in pain. He presses a hand to his face and the elf rushes over, calling his name. I'm fine, Leon insists. It's nothing. The place isn't that big, he reports. Maybe 24 people inside. He quickly gives them a rough layout of where everyone is, but adds, there's a room right in the middle that's completely blacked out to me. All I know is the entrance is on the east side. Leon looks up and says, I bet that's the key to this whole operation. Could be, Elsid replies. Or it could be a trap designed for people who think exactly that. Classic misdirection is the oldest trick in the book. He points out, there's nothing more classic than making the place you'd expect to be the most vulnerable into your biggest stronghold. For all we know, this whole place could just be a decoy for burying bodies, while the real action is happening back in District 2. Our hero tenses up, hearing that. Leon nods and says, you're probably right, but I don't want to make a move until we're 100% certain. Besides, he adds, it's not like their security is going to get any weaker if we wait. Tonight is our best shot. Caesar chimes in. All right, now that we have a primary target, shall we proceed with taking them out as fast and as quietly as we can? In a nearby room, a couple of guards are chatting when a chain suddenly snakes around both of them, and just like that, they're gone. Down the hall, another cultist gets snagged by the elf's chains. That makes 12, the elf says with a grin. He cracks his knuckles. All right, I'm just getting warmed up now. I'm getting too old to just go all out from the start, like I used to. Caesar points and asks, is that the wall you couldn't see past? Leon nods. Yeah. Now, how the heck do we open it? He gives it a good shoulder check, but no dice. No handle, and it won't budge whether I push or pull, he reports. It's got these weird glowing red symbols all over it that almost look like open wounds. With a quick flourish of his weapon, the elf turned to Leon. Brother Leon, could you give me a little space? He then charged headfirst at the solid wall, but his weapon just clanged uselessly against it. Leon was floored. He thought, did that thing really just bounce right off? The elf, for his part, looked every bit as stunned by the outcome. Leon recalled seeing the guy smash boulders back at the church. That weapon had enough oomph to turn solid rock into nothing but fine powder. He thought back to the goons he'd fought and wondered how an attack that powerful didn't even put a dent in this wall. Elsid piped up, it's not made of normal stuff. That's a door crafted from an extra-dimensional substance. It's a material that follows rules that don't even exist in our world, the sword continued. If I remember correctly, it freezes when you heat it up and burns when you get it cold. Totally backwards. So this door just ignores any outside interference. But that can't be all, Leon thought, since I can't even see through it with my scroll's power. That meant magic was also completely useless against the door. So, if you can't hit it and you can't zap it, what's left? Just then, the elf clasped his hands together and began to pray. He murmured, please, grant the light of rectification unto my hand. Leon blinked. Is that a sacred art? You got it, Elsid confirmed. Now this is power you can't just train for like an aura or research like magic. This is the kind of thing you only get through tons of accumulated faith and some seriously good karma. The sword went on to explain. And a core principle is that heretical arts are no match for sacred arts. Finishing his prayer, the elf placed his palm on the wall, and cracks instantly shot across its surface. "It's breaking," Leon yelled, but just as quickly, the cracking came to a dead stop. The bishop grunted, putting more effort into it as his hand began to glow again, pushing hard against the door. "Hey, wait a minute," Leon asked. "Weren't heretical arts supposed to be weaker than sacred ones?" "That's the rule," Elcid confirmed. He then added, "If a bishop's sacred art is struggling this much, it means this door is a whole lot tougher than I figured. In other words," he continued, "this isn't just for some simple trap. Looks like it's up to you to deliver the final punch, kid. I'll give you a boost." "Okay, got it," Leon replied. As he focused his aura, a confused Caesar muttered, "Brother Leon?" With a loud battle cry, Leon lunged at the door and unleashed a massive strike. A brilliant slash of energy sliced right through the door. In the blink of an eye, it crumbled into a dozen pieces. "Whoa, it just vanished," Leon said, amazed. "That happens when something wasn't meant to exist in this world in the first place," Elcid explained. Caesar looked incredibly impressed. "That was a truly splendid attack. It seems I've misjudged your capabilities, Brother Leon." Feeling a bit awkward, the boy laughed. "Ah, you're gonna make me blush. His Excellency here did all the real work." The bishop spoke up. "I don't sense anything behind this door. It seems they only use this space for their rituals and otherwise leave it empty." Leon thought, "Man, it's way too dark to see anything, but I can definitely smell blood in the air." The elf chanted a quick spell, and the area was flooded with light, revealing a sight that made both their stomachs lurch. From the doorway, they could see a giant, pulsating organic mass in the darkness. "What is that?" Leon stammered. Suddenly losing his composure, he yelled, "What the hell is that thing?" The elf looked like he was fighting the urge to be sick himself. Inside, they saw a formless mound of flesh covered in countless eyes and mouths. A small piece sloughed off and started crawling away with a sickening, wet noise. With tears of shock in his eyes, Leon whispered, "There. All of them are still alive." "Now I see," Elcid said grimly. "They carve up intelligent species, drain their blood, and process the leftovers into these chunks of meat, supercharged with vitality essence. And looking at how many are crammed in here, it's pretty obvious what they're planning. This is a heretical art to summon a monster, using a massive pile of sacrifices as bait. It's a creature known to devour an entire city in a single bite. They called this calamity Legion's Suffering." "Called what now?" Leon asked. "The Devourer of Cities," Elcid repeated. "It takes a ton of time and effort to prepare, but once the summoning gets going, it's unstoppable. It's a being from another dimension, something not even a transcendent would dare to face. It will appear, gulp down the city, and then just pop back to its own dimension." Leon's mind raced to the free city of Blaine. "Are you saying Blaine is about to become this thing's dinner?" "A ritual of this scale should have drawn attention," Elcid said. "And besides, they fail 99 out of 100 times. The real problem is that if it does succeed, it's a full-blown catastrophe." Terrified, Leon asked, "Has it ever succeeded before?" The sword's reply was chilling. There wouldn't be any records of it if it hadn't. "The thing about heretical arts," he explained, "is that nobody knows what's going to happen until it's activated. The church only manages to cook up countermeasures after the disaster has already happened." Horrified, Leon shot back. "So what's the countermeasure for the Devourer of Cities? You can't tell me we're supposed to face something like that without a plan, right?" Elcid went quiet, deep in thought, as Leon called out his name. "This facility seems to be just a place to process sacrifices for the summon," he finally said. "But even with all this, it's still not enough. Plus, the security here is way too relaxed." Leon's heart sank. "So you're saying they've already gathered what they need?" "Yes, at least 90%, the sword confirmed. Now, all they have to do is start the ritual. They'll probably kick it off as soon as the citizen evacuation begins." Leon was left completely speechless. "We're going with a direct tactic," Elcid announced. "Direct?" Leon asked. "Gather all the forces in the city," the sword commanded. "We're going to conquer District 25. An art like this needs a huge, open ritual site. I'm sure if we just crush them all beforehand, this whole problem will be solved." "You're talking about all-out war," Leon said. "That's right," his companion confirmed. "When they're cornered, they'll hide and cling to their last resort. And the most terrifying part of heretical arts is their defensive power. It's based on another dimension and completely nullifies any power that isn't sacred. But," he added, "there's one more thing you have, the all-powerful sacred sword. We'll weaken their forces with a total war, and then you'll move in to annihilate them immediately. As long as they have no clue that the sacred sword exists, they'll fall right into a checkmate they can't escape." "Now that sounds like a much better plan," Leon said with a growing smile. "But if they're not total idiots, they'll know their cover is blown and set up an ambush." He sounded excited by the thought. "Guess we'll just have to take that gamble, too." The elf quickly turned to the boy. "Brother Leon, we need to get out of here, fast. I think they've realized we've infiltrated the facility. Leon crouched down to scoop up a piece of the writhing mass. Right then, he said, stuffing it into a pouch while thinking, what could it possibly be like to stay alive in a state like this? The elf gives his flail a good swing, letting the chain go taut before charging straight at the massive beast. He unleashes a flurry of strikes, ripping the monster to shreds as our hero stands his ground, unfazed. Once the coast is clear, they both bolt out of there. Caesar yells at them to pick up the pace, and our hero doesn't need to be told twice. Just then, a bunch of cultists pop up, with one shouting, "The intruders are getting away," while another wails, "Our sacrifices. All that hard work. Ruined." Someone else barks, "Forget them. We've been exposed. Seal this place up, now." The beautiful night sky appears above them. Phew. Looks like they finally gave up the chase. Leon pants, completely wiped. Yep, Caesar agrees. I can't feel them anymore. You know, Caesar says, this whole thing reminds me of the time I poked a beehive as a kid. It's the exact same feeling. He continues, back then, my brilliant escape plan was to dive into the nearest pond. This is a tad more serious, though, seeing as there are no ponds around. Plus, we're dealing with things that make bees look like fluffy kittens. I have a hunch any backup from the church is going to be a long time coming. So, he turns to Leon and asks, what's on your mind, brother Leon? The kid's got that 1,000-yard stare going on, thinking Caesar's original idea is solid, but it needs someone with some serious clout to pull it off. His ace in the hole was whipping out the sacred sword, but he really didn't want to show his hand to anyone else, even if His Excellency seems like a decent guy. He figures Caesar probably got the gist when they were fighting side by side. Well, if you really want my take on it, he trails off, deciding to just roll with it. Actually, he says finally, I've come up with a brilliant plan. A little while later, you find the two of them at the church, sipping tea and hashing things out over a table. Caesar is mulling it all over. There are a few questionable parts, he admits, but it's definitely worth a shot. It's not like we're swimming in other options. Are you for real? Leon asks, almost surprised. I am, Caesar replies. Internally, our hero is just thinking, oh, thank heavens. It's tough to sell a wild story, and honestly, if he were on the receiving end of this pitch, he's pretty sure he would have just laughed it off. The intel on the Dvaro cities is probably top secret, even inside the church, so he'll just play it off like a clever deduction to keep anyone from getting suspicious. As for how to get past their barrier, well, if he can't mention the sacred sword, his only other option is to make up some story about his solar aura being extra effective against their dark magic. Meanwhile, Caesar chimes in, you know, back at the church. Having a solar aura puts you at the top of the recruitment list. It's incredibly rare, in fact, you're the only person I've ever met with it, he explains. But now, I think I'm starting to understand why it's so important. All right, so it's settled, Leon declares. We get the guild and the army on board, lead them to the enemy's front door, and then a small, elite team goes in for the kill. That brings us to two major hurdles, Caesar points out. First, rallying the guild and the army. Second, putting together that infiltration squad. The first part's easy, Leon says. You've got the authority to make that happen. The tricky part, Caesar continues, is finding people who can go toe-to-toe with their top dogs. This team needs to be stacked with A ranks from the guild, at minimum. Leon mulls over the A rank requirement when, suddenly, a light bulb goes off in his head. His eyes light up. Hey, what if we recruited some heavy hitters from the slums? Caesar raises an eyebrow. The slums? Yeah, Leon insists. There's at least one. No, two A-rankers hiding out there. What about the prey and the guardian of the coffin? He suggests. Caesar looks skeptical. Skills aside, what makes you think they'd ever agree to help? Oh, they won't have a choice once you have a little chat with them, the boy says with a grin. Then, a look of realization dawns on his face, his eyes practically sparkling. He says, oh, I get it. So this is like a recruitment drive. Let's just say, our hero replies smoothly, we're giving them an opportunity to perform a great service for the church, and I'm positive they'll cave the second I flash the iron chain seal. Caesar deadpans, I'm positive you get stabbed if those two heard you say that. Leon flashes back to that powerful hit from Khan. This is definitely 100% not about getting payback for that nosebleed, he mutters to himself. The next day, the Adventurers Guild is buzzing with fear. A terrified Rise welcomes Lord Leon, but it looks like she was about to greet someone else right behind him. Sure enough, an imposing figure in full armor walks up behind our hero, their gaze fixed squarely on the guild's receptionist. The guild members are practically shaking in their boots. Is that the Holy Knight of the Iron Chain? What's he doing here? One whispers. We're not here for a rescue mission today, Leon announces. This is official business. The knight removes his helmet, revealing the elf. My name is Caesar, a bishop of the sacred church, he declares. I'm here on behalf of the Sacred Iron Chain to formally request the guild's assistance. Suddenly, a booming voice from just outside the guild hall yells, "What?" A little later, in a much quieter room, a man introduces himself. "Bernard, head of the Blaine branch. We may not have worked together before, but I'll be handling this matter personally." Leon can't help but notice the guy is an absolute unit, even bigger than Khan. He remembers hearing whispers that Bernard was an A rank in his heyday before a leg injury forced him into retirement. "I understand the seriousness of the situation perfectly," Bernard says. "For a holy knight to request a meeting like this, it must be major. Must be his years of experience as a guild master," our hero thinks. The talks went smoothly right up until the topic of the tight deadline came up. That's where things got complicated. The guild master explains that of the 4 A-rank adventurers currently in Blaine, 3 are already out on missions. That leaves only 1 available for them to call on. So, they left finding that 1 adventurer to the guild master, while His Excellency and Leon headed off to the slums to recruit their next target, Khan, the prey. Their little chat with Khan was a lot more hostile than they'd anticipated, probably because Khan thought they were there about him helping Malice. Still, in the end, he didn't really have a choice but to sign on. Caesar basically told him that if he said no, every single person in the slums would be branded a heretic. "You can try to run to the ends of the earth," he'd said, "but we'll find you." Leon figures the threat was what finally made him crack. Meanwhile, Khan is just realizing he's been completely outplayed. His grand plan to take out the cultists and stick it to the guild had completely backfired. And by the way, Caesar adds, "This recommendation isn't just for you. It's for the Guardian of the Coffin, too. So unless you want to go through this alone, I suggest you pass along the message." Khan looks bewildered. "Wait, so it's just me and the Guardian of the Coffin?" The elf pipes up that a 2-person team is enough for the main threat. As for the rest, he says, just getting the civilians clear before the takedown begins should be fine. Khan asks, "So you're just going to send a small elite squad to cut off the snake's head?" To which Caesar replies, "You're pretty sharp for a common street thug." Leon thinks that either way, they can't afford to be picky and leave Khan out. They all have to stand together against the devourer of cities. It beats the alternative, which is everyone dying. Leon muses that for all their talk, an incredible number of people still showed up in just 2 days. From a high perch, our hero surveys the massive crowd alongside Caesar. Rise explains they sent an emergency call to all guild members rank C or higher, and most of them decided to show up. Bernard estimates there are roughly 1,500 people, remarking that this is what you call an all-out war. Our hero mentally pats himself on the back for saving that evidence. It was the only way to get Lord Blaine on board. The city guard has already surrounded District 25. The plan is for the adventurers and mercenaries to handle the close-quarters combat, while the regular troops provide long-range support from the back. Elsa chimes in that it was a smart call, noting that they'd just become fuel for the enemy's dark arts if they charged in recklessly like usual. So, instead of powering up the enemy, it's much better to poke at them from a safe distance. Our hero glances at him, looking quite pleased with himself, and thinks that regardless, at least Lord Blaine sent someone to help, even if it was just a single person. The man introduces himself as Conrad, the senior knight of Count Blaine's house, and formally greets the guardian of the goddess. Caesar humbly insists he's not worthy of such a title and wishes the goddess's protection upon the knight. Leon recognizes the name. The guy is a battlefield legend. Khan grumbles, "Just as I thought. I really don't fit in with this crowd." Our hero replies, "Well, you times are times the king of the slums, after all." Suddenly, a figure slips up quietly behind our hero and asks, "Am I late?" Conrad demands to know who he is, and the man retorts, "You're asking who I am. You're the one who called me here." Khan just says, "Look, we both got roped into this mess, so let's just do the job we were paid for, Coffin Keeper." But the man replies that he'll do things his own way, explaining that as an assassin, he's not much of a team player. Caesar smoothly states that he doesn't care about his methods, as long as he gets the job done. However, he adds, "If you think you can just lurk in the shadows, you'll soon find there's no place to hide from the goddess's radiant light." The assassin just stares at him and says flatly, "So scary." Then he promptly fades into thin air. Our hero is shocked, thinking that he can't sense the man at all, not with his aura or even his own eyes. Elsid notes that it looks like only 1 person is left, and Leon confirms it's the adventurer hired by the guild. Right on cue, a tall woman strolls up, saying, "Hey, sorry I'm late, got a little held up." She explains that the quest details were super vague, so she had to pack for every possibility, then introduces herself as Karen. The other men seem to tense up around her, while Leon just thinks about the wild contrast between her and the spooky assassin. What a crew! A gangster, a couple of other adventurers, a retired holy knight, a count's top guard, and now an assassin. Leon figures it's completely unrealistic to expect teamwork from a group like this, but knows it's unavoidable since they were all hired based on their individual power. The time has finally come, our hero declares. Let's begin. Instantly, a massive fiery explosion erupts in a corner of the district. Catapults launch fireballs into the sky as the district is quickly consumed by flames. Panic screams erupt from within, with men shouting that it's an ambush and to contact headquarters immediately. But then something catches a cultist's eye. Looking up, he sees a shower of glowing objects raining down from the sky. A moment later, that rain of arrows slams down on top of them. Terrified, the man screams for them to release the abomination, and fast. The district continues to burn, utterly destroyed. A monstrous creature smashes its way onto the scene, tearing through everything. Someone yells, "Fire!" and archers let loose a volley of arrows at the bizarre beast. The next instant, the creature raises a massive arm and brings it crashing down, completely obliterating the wall where the archers were stationed. Lying wounded on the ground, one of the survivors gasps that the arrows didn't do a thing. A new group of men rushes in, calling them weaklings and yelling that it's the mercenaries' turn now as they order a charge to the death. The elite team, watching from afar, can see that the battle is quickly devolving into a stalemate. Elsid remarks that their opening strategy was brilliant, but that abomination is one tough monster. He figures the fight will drag on for at least 10 minutes, and if their plan works, the enemy will realize a frontal assault is useless and retreat into their defensive shell. The Lord's Knight says, "Precisely." As if summoned by his words, a tornado suddenly materializes in the middle of the city, and the knight says, "There it is." Elsid adds that no matter how you look at it, that's not a natural storm. Leon asks if it's some kind of forbidden magic. All of a sudden, Caesar just says, "That's our cue," and bolts forward. Our hero tries to keep up but quickly realizes his new companions are insanely fast, or maybe he's just really slow. They arrive in front of the tornado in no time. Our hero stumbles up a moment later, panting. The knight casually says, "Oh, whoops, we kind of forgot to factor you in, sorry." Then, in a serious tone, he declares, "Now then, let's see how durable this magical barrier really is." He unleashes a fiery aura, and flames immediately begin to coil around the tornado. Leon thinks to himself that the firepower is incredible, just as you'd expect from Sir Conrad. A few seconds later, the knight admits that the barrier is extremely strong. Khan sneers, telling the weakling to step aside and let him handle it before charging at the barrier. He winds up and throws a massive punch right at the thing, but as the group watches, absolutely nothing happens. Conrad then takes the perfect opportunity to deadpan. "Wow, that was amazing." Caesar says his sacred arts could probably break through, but he'd rather save his energy since they have no clue what's waiting for them inside. Stretching a sore shoulder, our hero says, "Well, I guess I really showed my pathetic side, huh?" The comment makes the others look over at him curiously. He then asks, "Elsid, have you gathered enough power?" The sword enthusiastically replies, "Of course, more than enough." It boasts that it's overflowing with energy thanks to the goons he just took down, and that absorbing the power of a single heretic is way better than feeding on thousands of monsters. "So don't you dare hold back," the sword says, "go all out." Leon just sighs and says, "Fine, but don't get so worked up that you break the transformation." With his power focused, our hero gets ready to shatter the barrier. The elf's eyes widen with a flash of recognition, while Khan just looks impressed. Leon lets out a roar and unleashes his attack, a powerful strike that obliterates both the barrier and the tornado in one go. Everyone's floored that he actually destroyed the heretical barrier. This is our chance, they think, and the whole team promptly dives through the new opening into some dank, musty corridors. Scissor takes the lead, lighting up the dark hallways. The elf nervously asks if the guardian from the coffin is around. As if on cue, a voice materializes right beside our hero. But of course, the kid nearly jumps out of his skin. Leon takes a quick head count. All 6 of them made it. But something's off. Those 2 are in full chainmail, yet they're moving without a single sound. Elsid murmurs that their fundamental skills are on a whole other level. Our hero can only think, "Man, I still got a long way to go." Karen gets everyone's attention, pointing ahead and saying there's an entrance leading down. The elf eyes it with suspicion, and Conan agrees it has trap written all over it. Conrad argues that even if it is, they can't just stand around. The girl then points out it's probably the only way underground, so they should just go for it, even though it all feels a bit too easy. Scissor calls out, "Miss Karen, can you see any traps from up there?" Leon remembers the guild master mentioning she was a rogue, but the girl says it's not that simple. "The space past these stairs is totally different from up here," she explains. "I won't know a thing until we're actually inside." Scissor declares they're going in anyway, since wasting time will only make things worse and won't solve anything. The knight seconds that, saying they should get a move on. With the decision made, the elite group starts heading down the stairs. As they descend, Leon notices he can't sense the coffin guardian's presence at all, leaving him to wonder if the guy is even following them. Lost in thought, his foot presses down on a step that triggers some sort of magical trap. The floor beneath him vanishes in an instant, and he lets out a startled yelp. Our hero instinctively screws his eyes shut, bracing for the hard landing that never arrives. He realizes he's standing on solid ground again, but he's definitely not on the stairs anymore. He wonders where he could possibly be. Looking around, he sees that everyone else has vanished and he can't pick up on anyone's aura. Elsid's voice explains. It's a labyrinth formation, a classic trick that distorts space to make an area feel much larger. The others are likely scattered around the maze. If we're lucky, we'll find them soon. At that exact moment, Karen appears, calling out, "Junior, hey, looks like we found each other right off the bat." "Luck indeed," Elsid remarks. The girl sighs in relief. "Good, I was worried you'd get scared all alone in a creepy place like this." All he can think is, "Junior?" Leon asks her, "Senior, did you end up by yourself, too?" She tenses up and says, "Nope. I've got some creepy dude attached to me." Our hero thinks, "Creepy dude?" From the deepest shadows, a voice asks, "Who are you calling creepy?" Karen snaps back, "Who else around here fits the description?" She adds that if he has a problem with it, he can get out of her shadow, then asks why he's squirming around in there like some kind of freak. The guy coolly replies, "I can go wherever I want." Leon figures he got lucky grouping up with a rogue. To be frank, he doesn't need to sweat it over any of the others now. He finally speaks up, "In that case, let's get moving." Karen smirks, saying she likes his confidence. With a smile, she asks, "So, can I count on my junior?" He confidently replies, "I won't let you down." While they make their way through the corridors, the rogue's eyes miss nothing. The trio eventually hits a dead end, a hallway lined with countless doors. Karen immediately points to one door. "This way." Our hero feels a knot of tension. He notices she's moving with a speed that defies simple instinct and starts to wonder if just following her is a good idea. Elsid cuts in. "She hasn't been wrong once. Just keep following her. Her tracking skills are even better than a forest elf's." Leon asks if she's really that amazing, and he replies, "It could be that her aura and this darkness are creating the perfect conditions for her." She abruptly holds up her arm, bringing them to a stop. Karen whispers for him to wait, saying she feels an enemy's presence. After assessing the path ahead, she reports that there are 3 of them and no way to get around. With a grin, she asks the boy what he wants to do. Leon can feel their auras, their leagues stronger than the grunts from District 23. His victory isn't a sure thing, even with his sword's holy power. With firm resolve, our hero says, "We eliminate them." Karen raises an eyebrow. "Pretty gutsy for a C rank. You realize how humiliating it'll be to cry for help after talking so tough, right?" He just shoots back. "You're the one who should be saying that." The rogue just says, "All right," as she draws her daggers. Then she adds that they'll make it a competition. Our hero thinks, a green aura. All of a sudden, she leaps from the floor and clings to the ceiling. Our hero asks if that's another aura ability, and Elsid confirms it, adding that she's extremely skilled and has clearly undergone some serious training. He says Leon needs to focus way more on his footwork to ever match that speed, and Leon just says he knows. The 3 cultists are just minding their own business when one of them happens to look up and sees Karen giving them a friendly wave. He immediately screams, "We have an intruder." The 3 men are baffled for a split second, but that's all the time she needs for 2 of them to get tagged by her thrown weapons. Our hero thinks that was incredible and wonders how she can throw them so fast. One of them scrapes the ground with its claws, snarling, "How dare you!" They then transform into monstrous, non-human creatures. One of them bellows, "Do you have any clue what this place is?" But Karen, without batting an eye, just replies, "What about it?" She adds that it looks like nothing more than an ownerless slum as she dives toward them, letting more daggers fly. One of the monsters scoffs that those toys are useless, but it fails to notice a thin wire wrapping around its leg. In a flash, a rope pulls the creature crashing to the floor, and Karen remarks, "That's what happens when you only pay attention to the daggers." The next thing anyone knows, one of the creature's heads is soaring through the air, and the assassin is already there, his weapon completing its deadly swing. Our hero is frozen for a second, thinking this is absolutely terrifying and thanking every god that they're on his side. He turns his focus to his own fight just as something zips right past his face. Whatever it was leaves a cut on his cheek. Elsa dryly comments that he's definitely unlucky, because that one is the strongest of the 3. The massive creature materializes before him, and our hero thinks to himself that Elsid could have shared that little tidbit after the fight was over. He decides to push his vision and aura to their absolute limits, but then pauses as he realizes something. He wonders what exactly the creature threw at him. In response, the monster's chest bristles, revealing a whole mess of spikes. A shiver ran down Leon's spine. Man, this felt familiar. A little too much like his last run-in with those rocky slimes. The creature didn't bother with a formal greeting, just fired a volley of spikes right at him. In return, our hero's blade became a blur, batting away every single one before he sprinted head-on toward the monster. "Impossible," the creature shrieked. "There's no way you cut through all of them." With a single, perfect strike, Leon proved it wrong by slicing the beast clean in two. If it wasn't for his foresight ability, Leon thought he never would have seen that coming. And forget about cutting through that forbidden magic without his trusty sacred sword. Nope, you've got it all wrong. Karen chimed in, correcting him. That power is all you, the result of your hard work. Even if you're still a bit of a work in progress. Karen was practically bouncing with excitement. Wow, you're done already. Sure, you were a few seconds slower than me, but that was amazing. Junior, a C-ranker taking down a heretic of that caliber is insane. Are you one of those types who's all raw talent but no actual field experience? She asked. Seeing as you're a rookie and all. He just glanced at the squid-like remains on the floor. You can believe whatever you want. Just then, something snagged our hero's attention. What was this strange feeling? The slash marks left by the two of them, who should have completely different fighting styles, looked eerily similar. He peered closer at the cleanly cut section of the monster. The depth of each wound was almost identical. A jolt went through him as he wondered. No way. Could it actually be? So, you finally figured it out? Elsid asked from behind him. Yep, your little theory is spot on. The girl casually sheathed her weapon on her belt and shot him a grin. Damn, she said. Looks like you made my job a whole lot easier. Forget that shady guy for a second. I really didn't expect the kid to be able to pull his own weight. Looks like I misjudged you, and I'm glad I did, Karen added. Feeling the tension spike, our hero asked Karen to let him see. He then pulled up her user terminal. The screen lit up. Karen, the assassin guardian of the coffin, along with a ton of other high-level skills. Leon's jaw just about hit the floor. Then, in the sweetest voice you could ever imagine, the girl confirmed. That's me. We should probably get a move on, Junior, she said cheerfully. Overwhelmed, Leon could only manage a squeak. Yes, Senior. His mind was racing. By day, she's the A-ranked adventurer, Karen. But in the shadows, she's the special class assassin known as the Guardian of the Coffin, one of the 3 legendary boogeymen of the slums, and an expert labyrinth explorer. The conclusion was simple. She was incredibly dangerous. Leon couldn't wrap his head around it. The cheerful, pretty adventurer was actually one of the 3 top bosses of the slums. Nobody would ever believe a story like that. It was obvious Khan didn't know, and the guild master definitely would have mentioned something if he had. But all that aside, if he ever double-crossed his excellency, he'd never be able to handle the fallout, which meant he was the only person here who knew Karen's real identity. And even if a few others knew, there was no way she'd let him just walk away knowing what he knew. For an assassin, their identity is their most guarded secret, something they'd silence anyone over, by any means necessary. Leon knew he had to play it cool. He couldn't let his expression betray him for even a second, because he could feel the assassin's eyes on him. She yanked him back to reality, saying, Heads up, we've got another baddie just around the next left. And there it was, a bizarre creature covered in dozens of glowing eyes. The monster let out a low growl, drool dripping from its mouth. The saliva sizzled and smoked as it hit the floor, eating away at the stone. Well, that thing is not cute at all, Karen remarked dryly. It's so gross, I don't even want to fight it. Leon had a feeling her hesitation was about more than just aesthetics. It'll be tough to land a clean hit, Elsid noted. No matter how many daggers Karen throws. And if it's a monster from some forbidden art, it's probably got regeneration. Our hero asked, Can we just go around it? We could, the girl replied, but it would add another 30 minutes to our trip, and I can't promise we won't run into more things like that on the other routes. So, it looks like we're fighting our way through, Leon said with a sigh. He figured they were just trying to stall for time until they could activate the Devourer of Cities. The second that thing was active, it was game over for everyone else. The boy turned to the shadowy figure. In that case, Guardian of the Coffin, are you able to deliver the final blow to that monster? The Shadow Guardian replied, And what if I am? Leon pressed on, Then please, get yourself ready while Karen and I buy you some time. Since we're all in this together, it'd be great if you could cooperate with us, he added. Karen stood by silently, just watching. After a few tense seconds, the assassin finally said, I understand. Our hero took a deep breath. He pretty much recovered the stamina he'd lost running here. Now, there was nothing left to do but go all out. The creature seemed to sense them getting ready. With a battle cry, our hero charged forward, sword raised high. The monster roared and unleashed its own attack. In that split second, he called out for Elsid, and his sacred sword began to glow, letting loose a powerful wave of light. He remembered this ability from his fight with the animated armors. One of the core features of his sacred sword was its power to neutralize anything harmful to living beings. The monster squeezed its eyes shut and roared as our hero leaped into the air to strike. Leon managed to slash the beast, but he knew right away the cut wasn't deep enough. Suddenly, a flurry of attacks came flying at Leon. He expertly twisted and dodged the creature's strikes. A flicker of worry crossed his mind. He knew he wouldn't be able to dodge the next one. He activated his foresight, realizing he had to block at least one of the hits. Now, Junior, Karen shouted from behind him. One more time. As she watched him, he had a split second to decide whether he could really trust her. He made his choice. "Let's do this," he yelled, charging straight at the monster. The creature's tentacles shot out at him again, but this time, Karen's daggers flew in from the side, deflecting the massive beast's attack as our hero pushed forward. Leon landed a flurry of blows on the monster, which howled in pain and fury. But he could tell that even with all those hits, the wounds were still just scratching the surface. He gritted his teeth, thinking he needed to be faster, stronger. The daggers stuck in its tails seemed to have really ticked the monster off. But then, something strange started happening. The creature looked like it was having trouble moving. The monster glanced back, startled, and our hero saw that its movements were becoming sluggish and unnatural. Then, something began to rise from its own shadow. All across the monster's shadow, objects made of pure energy began to materialize. The coffin guardian emerged from the darkness. With a single, chilling command, he said, "Die." Countless spikes erupted from the shadows, piercing the creature from every angle. The monster let out one final, agonizing roar before crashing to the ground, defeated. Leon was speechless. That was unbelievable, he thought. So this is the power of an A-ranker. Elsid observed. The wounds aren't healing. He realized it must have been an attack that completely overwhelmed the monster's ability to regenerate. Whoa, Leon thought. That was basically a one-shot kill move designed to wipe out a single target. The assassin just stood there, reigning in his power, and our impressed hero thought, asterisk. Now that's a genuine killing blow, asterisk. Someone came up to him and said, "We actually work pretty well together for a crew that just met, don't you think?" Glancing at the girl, he replied, "You're right. I never would have guessed you'd aim for the tails with daggers. That totally caught me by surprise." "It was nothing," Karen said, "and barely anything compared to that kill-stealing show-off. I honestly didn't think an assassin could even use a technique like that," she said. "It was good enough to be called the ultimate finishing move." She went on, "Well, I guess they don't call him one of the kings of the slums for nothing. Anyway," she said, pointing ahead, "think we can keep moving? It doesn't look like we have time for a break." Leon agreed they had to press on, thinking that this whole mission was a race against the clock. Everything hinged on whether they could get there before the ritual began. A little while later, farther up the path, Karen spotted something. She started counting under her breath. "There are 8 heretics over there. Did we get here too early?" she wondered aloud. This might get a little complicated. Leon figured that when it came to sizing up enemy strength, no one on the team was sharper than her. And from the look on her face, every single one of those enemies was powerful enough to send a chill down your spine. "Heck, even the last guys were tough to handle more than one at a time," he said. "Now that we're here, we can either wait for the others to regroup, or we can go find them ourselves." "Both of those options suck," Karen replied. "We'll either get there too late or we'll end up completely missing each other." Frustrated, she sighed. "I can't believe we came all this way just to take a gamble." Leon was still trying to figure her out. She just seemed so normal. Then suddenly, a huge explosion erupted nearby. The blast threw him forward a step as he tried to figure out what just happened. The ceiling had hairline cracks spreading across it, and he realized it wasn't far away at all. A voice in his head, "Elsid," explained. That was a shockwave from the clash of two incredible powers. So, someone's fighting, Leon thought, and it looked like Karen had reached the same conclusion. The heretics heard the sound too, and a few of them immediately started moving. Leon saw 4 of them head toward the noise, which opened up their options. They could either rush to help their allies who were in a fight, or they could take down this smaller group first and then go find them. Our hero was tense and unsure, but a moment later, he made a decision. "I think we should find them. If those enemies win, they'll just come right back, and our team's strength will take a massive hit. We need to group up as much as we can," he added. "I agree," Karen said, "but those other 4 don't look like pushovers." She suddenly dropped to the ground, pressing her ear to the floor. So, before that, her ability seemed to reach far enough to pick something up. Pointing down a corridor, she said, "They're that way." She has some kind of inhuman sixth sense, Leon thought. It was a completely different type of skill compared to his own enhanced vision or footwork. An ear-splitting crash echoed from the corridor ahead, and something bizarre suddenly smashed through the wall, startling both our hero and his companion. Down at the end of the hall, it looked like giant spikes were impaling someone. Looking closer, he could see they were holding the nearly lifeless body of the knight. The man coughed weakly while hanging there, defeated. "Sir Conrad," our hero yelled, sprinting towards him. He spotted one enemy, and then immediately saw a second. A heretic suddenly materialized and said, "I'll handle this one." Our hero glanced back and saw he had one to deal with, while Karen was already facing off against 2. It also looked like Sir Conrad had taken down the ones lying on the floor. Elsid's voice chimed in, "You don't need to worry about her. What's important is that your enemy is strong," he explained. "You'll have to focus everything you have on the opponent in front of you." All of a sudden, the heretics started chanting. In the name of love and justice. As he threw his arms open, a strange energy spread through the room. Our hero wondered if it was a blue fog as the heretic told him to feel honored. If this even touches you, you'll turn to dust, he added. The fact that I'm using this wandering fury on someone like you means I'm giving you a generous death. Elcid explained, he's a summoner. This prompted our hero to ask, summoner? Heretics are divided into categories, he said. There are mutants who activate heretical arts from within their own bodies. Then there are those who summon beings or principles from other dimensions, known as summoners. But not a single one of them is sane. Our hero drew his weapon and said, a generous death, you say? That's my damn line, he added, lunging at the heretic. The man just cackled, you fool. A physical sword can't affect an astral body. But in the next instant, the attack connected, slicing right through the blue energy surrounding him and leaving the heretic completely stunned. There are always exceptions, Leon said, thinking that his sacred sword could interfere with astral forms. The opponent started shaking. That's a lie. A Nadim weapon infused with aura could never break my heretical art. Getting ready to use the ability again, he shrieked. I'll never forgive you. He then summoned a gigantic creature from another plane of existence. But Leon didn't even hesitate and charged this new monster, too, backing the frightened summoner into a corner. With one clean strike of his sword, he hit the heretic dead on. The heretic grabbed the blade and asked, did you really think that would work on me? But his tone turned to terror when he saw his wounds weren't regenerating. He then questioned, is this an attack that nullifies heretical arts? The guy stammered, it can't be. You're the butt. He was cut off by our hero's sword before he could finish. The terrified heretic finally met his end. Leon stepped away from the body. Looking over at the girl, he asked, what did I miss? The girl looked back at him and said, what a mess. Our hero realized she fought two opponents, and his was probably the weaker one. He said, the most important thing right now is Sir Conrad. Karen simply pointed. He's over there. They found the man, who told them, I'm sorry you had to see such an ugly side of me. He added, I don't think I can go on like this. Just leave me behind and keep moving. I'll be delayed for a bit, Conrad said, but I'll be back once I recover. But Karen interrupted, Sir Conrad. She asked, how much time do you have left? The man stayed quiet for a beat before sighing. So, you figured it out? She replied, when an aura user of his caliber can't even stop the bleeding, there's only one thing it could mean. The news hit Leon like a ton of bricks. Clamping a hand over the gushing wound, the knight gritted out, I can hang on for about an hour. After that, I can't make any promises. Leon's mind raced, a knot of tension forming in his gut. An hour. That might just be enough time. If they could purge the malice from the city before then, he could get proper treatment. He thought that, normally, he wouldn't even entertain the idea, but things were different now. Now, he had the holy sword. Elcid, he called out, I need you to repeat this chant after me, word for word. We're going to activate his sacred healing art and use its accumulated power to shrink that wound. Karen could only watch, her jaw practically on the floor. Leon, meanwhile, began the incantation. Oh, Goddess Almighty, grant relief to your devoted champions of justice. Let them not tremble before the chilling north wind in the valley of death. A sacred, golden energy began to pour from his hand. Conrad stared in disbelief at what was happening. Karen was just as stunned, thinking, that's at least a bishop-level sacred art. In the next instant, the gaping hole in the knight's stomach sealed shut. Conrad managed to say, I heard you were the one who orchestrated this whole subjugation mission. Now I get it. I see why the bishop puts so much faith in you. Are you a candidate for cardinal? Elcid whistled. Wow. A promotion from paladin to cardinal candidate in one afternoon. The knight coughed. Well, I seem to have lost my cool after you saved my hide. And while I'm not exactly ready for another fight just yet, it won't be long now. But, wait, Leon started, but Conrad cut him off. You clearly didn't want your identity revealed. I, Conrad, swear on my honor to keep my mouth shut until I'm ordered otherwise. Elcid muttered under his breath, great. Another misunderstanding to add to the pile. Leon gave a sheepish, thank you, and Karen announced she'd give the knight a potion before they got moving again. After the knight bid them farewell, Leon noted that they really needed to get a move on. The two of them pressed on through the hallways, senses on high alert. Then, all of a sudden, the girl spun around, her eyes lit up with excitement. She backed Leon right into a wall, which made him feel more than a little flustered. Is it true? What Sir Conrad said? She asked, her voice buzzing. I mean, a cardinal candidate at your age? That would be totally unheard of, right? She kept going. But then again, with a solar-attributed aura and bishop-level sacred arts, I guess it makes sense. Plus, you're a monster with how you use your aura in combat. Seriously, where did you learn to do all that? Leon finally managed to get a word in. Unfortunately, I'm not a cardinal candidate. Oh, are you maybe an apprentice from the Iron Chain Holy Knights? Karen pleaded. Come on, You have to tell me. The curiosity is killing me. Leon thought to himself, you know, if I didn't already know who she really was, that little act might have actually worked on me. He just said, maybe I'll tell you once we get to know each other a little better. He then added, you've got some pretty strong defenses yourself. Is everyone from the church that guarded? She nonchalantly twirled a lock of her hair. Let's just say most men are an open book whenever I ask a question. Yeah, not falling for that one, he thought. All right, enough joking around. We need to figure out our next move. Should we try to find the others, or just push on as a duo? Oh, you don't need to worry about that, Karen said with a sly wink. A little confused, he asked. Why not? She just smiled. You'll see when we get there. With that, the two continued on their way. They rounded a corner just as a body slumped to the floor. The elf stood over it, weapon in hand. Brother Leon, you made it, he said calmly, while Khan just grunted. Took you brats long enough. Leon thought, man, I almost feel sorry for these heretics. Caesar simply smiled. I'm glad to see you're both unharmed. Out of nowhere, the coffin guardian seemed to melt out of the wall. And aren't you happy to see me, Caesar? The bishop replied. I didn't even realize you were with us. The assassin just said, I get that a lot. As they walked, Leon gave them the short version. Sir Conrad's out of commission with his injuries, but he'll be fine. We can't afford to wait for him, though. Caesar nodded grimly. Can't be helped. It'll just have to be the five of us, then. Khan jabbed a thumb at Karen. Hey, you're an adventurer, right? You got any useful gadgets? Better whip 'em out. Unless you want to die while I'm busy saving you. The girl shot back without missing a beat. Why don't you pull out whatever you've got stashed away, you parasite who leeches off the poor? Khan's face turned red. What did you just say to me? Caesar stepped between them, looking exhausted. All right, that's enough, both of you. Let me explain the next phase of the plan. I'll take the lead. Since I have a natural resistance to heretical arts, he began. Khan and Karen, you'll hold the middle. He then pointed at Leon. And you'll bring up the rear. You're our trump card. Khan scoffed. This little adventurer punk is our trump card? Seriously? Leon shrugged. It's fine by me. As for the coffin guardian, just leave him be and he'll do his part. He was surprisingly helpful when we were together. Karen blushed slightly and beamed. That's right. He more than did his part. Leon sighed internally. Wow, she's really laying it on thick. Khan grumbled. Fine. Probably best to just ignore the guy who doesn't listen anyway. The elf then asked, shall we get moving? And so, the group ventured deeper into the shadowy corridors. Khan stared ahead into the gloom. The energy here is just plain nasty. Suddenly, a shimmering ring of dark power materialized on the path ahead. Looks like a pocket dimension created by heretic arts, the elf observed. Caesar immediately began chanting, his hands glowing with sacred power. With a look of pure determination, he marched toward the portal. We're going in. The others wasted no time in following him. The moment they passed through, Leon felt a suffocating darkness. He couldn't see a thing past the glow of his own aura, and every sound was muffled. It felt like he jumped into a vat of thick, sticky mud, a feeling like drowning in a swamp. He pushed forward blindly until his hand broke through into open air. He stumbled out of the dark space, gasping with relief that they had made it through. The elf's voice was tight with tension. Everyone. Looking up, the group saw they were completely surrounded. Well, of course we are. Leon thought wryly. Dozens of glowing red eyes stared at them from the shadows. Well, one of the heretics drawled, I was getting so bored of waiting for you, you know. You guys really made us work for it, he said with a grin. But I didn't think you'd take quite this long. He spread his arms wide in a mock welcome. Thanks for coming. The elf just tensed up, confused by the display. The man's smile widened. Caesar gasped. You're an evangelist. The man chuckled. Oh, you figured it out. Leon turned to Elcid. Wait, malice has ranks? You could say there's a hierarchy. Yes. Elcid explained quickly. The devotees are just grunts using the heretical arts that are passed down to them. Congregants are the ones who start experimenting with the arts themselves and get corrupted by that power. But the ones who actually spread the heretical arts, they're treated like executives. We call them evangelists. In the Holy Church's chain of command, they're pretty high up, at least on par with a bishop. The evangelist interrupted them, his voice booming. It is a magnificent day. The ritual was a resounding success, and the countless lives we sacrificed have finally paid off. With Caesar giving him the stink eye, the evangelist kept on preaching. Best of all, I can finally show a lackey of that silly, narrow-minded goddess what guidance from a real god looks like. The rest of the team just stared, thinking, this guy is completely nuts. What is his deal? Seriously, what a weirdo. Khan muttered, is he for real? He's talking like the ritual actually worked, but nothing's happening. One of the cultists shot back. You're all just a bunch of hopeless idiots, too stupid to see it. The leader declared, the plan is in motion. All that's left is the grand finale, and then they'll see how pointless all their efforts were. Leon stammered. Wait, did he say the ritual succeeded? Is it all over? But Elsid just calmly said, not yet. He broke it down for them. Think of the city devourer ritual like going fishing. The life essence we're feeling, that's just the bait we're using to snag some monster from another dimension. Leon's mind reeled. Fishing. Elsid went on. Which means we still have a little time before that thing actually finds the bait and takes a bite. Leon pieced it together. So, you're saying we have no idea when this thing is going to show up and take the bait? The sword chimed in. You got it in one. But it hit him, then they could have over an hour, or it could pop into existence in the next few seconds. Bottom line, this was a race against the clock. Leon called out to his patron, launching into a sacred spell. Oh, great goddess, bless this place with your warm light, and guide us through the encroaching darkness. A brilliant orb shot into the air, flooding the entire cavern with powerful, holy light. The effect on the creatures was immediate and terrifying. They shrieked in agony, scrambling to shield their eyes from the blinding radiance. Elsid noted, it's a neat trick that blends sacred arts with aura. Not quite as good as the real sun, mind you, but it should be enough to put a damper on their summoning and other nasty spells. Of course, if I used my own light, it would have been way more powerful, he added with a hint of pride. But this will still shut down any of their summoning-style tricks. Karen, wreathed in her aura, unleashed a volley of daggers at the cultists. But the evangelist, without a second thought, snatched one of his own followers and used him as a human shield. At the same time, the elf swung his iron flail into the fray while Khan took on another group of fanatics. Leon jumped into the fight too, but he couldn't help but notice the evangelist was just standing there. He must be guarding the core of the ritual, he realized. That's our chance, he thought. We've got to wreck that altar before they can use their creepy magic again. The evangelist's creepy smile never faltered. You absolute fools, he sneered. Did you really think a little light show like that could stop my enchantments? Just then, a series of profane summoning circles flared to life all around Leon. From within their swirling depths, grotesque creatures began to claw their way through. In the blink of an eye, a whole horde of monsters was standing right in front of Leon. His first thought, with genuine alarm, was, man, these things are seriously ugly. Elsid quickly clarified. The summoning of new heretical arts is blocked. He continued. What he's doing is pulling in chimeras using a flawed, incomplete version of the spell. They'll probably self-destruct eventually, but even so, Leon thought. That's all he needs to buy time. Is the main ritual's activation instant? At that moment, Khan charged headfirst into the mob, yelling, Get out of my way, you damn small fry. He then threw a devastating punch, driving his fist clean through the chest of one of the chimeras. But a second later, he knew something was wrong. He looked down at his arm and saw some kind of foul infection spreading from his knuckles. Nearby, another monster shrieked as one of Karen's daggers found its mark. My poison isn't working, Karen thought, frustrated. Worse, it's like they can't even feel pain. Caesar grimly pointed out. At this rate, this is just going to be a slugfest. The longer we're stuck here, the worse our odds get. He's right, Leon said, his jaw tight. We have to end this, and fast, he thought, but I can't risk revealing the full power of my sword yet. Elsid warned him. If they figure out who you really are, it's going to cause a massive headache for us. They will throw everything they have at you, even die trying to stop you, he continued. Remember, the only way we turn this around is with a surprise attack. I know, Leon replied, his voice firm. All I've got left is one last shot. All the while, the gate pulsed with energy, nearing completion as the evangelist watched on, his grin widening with sick excitement. All at once, a chilling new energy washed over them. Something had changed. From the portal, a colossal wave of pure evil energy erupted. The evangelist was practically in tears with joy. It's here. It's finally here, he cried. The apostle of our God has answered our prayers. As he spoke, the energy pouring from the portal grew exponentially stronger. Leon slapped a hand to his chest, feeling his heart hammer against his ribs. He looked over to where the altar had been, but now there was just a giant, gaping hole. A cold, primal fear, unlike anything he'd ever felt, seized him. This has to be the city devourer, he thought, his blood running cold. Elsid, Leon yelled. His mentor shot back, it's not time for the holy sword yet. We just need to buy ourselves a few seconds. We'll hit it with a sacred art at half power. Will that even work? Leon asked, skeptical. It'll be tough, his master admitted, but that moon, Caesar may just gave me a genius idea. To perfectly create the goddess's symbol, you need both the sun and the moon. And what do you know, he said with a grin. We just so happen to have one person with a lunar aura and another with a solar one right here. On top of that, a bishop who can weave composite sacred arts paired with a hero. That's just a terrible stroke of luck for old Malice. With a flick of his wrist, a golden terminal materialized in the air. Leon read what's on the screen. Now, he started to read aloud, "Let the sun and the moon, the twin eyes of the all-seeing goddess, be praised. For her open eyes are divine love, and her 6 closed eyes are boundless kindness." Caesar's eyes widened in shock. That's the first verse of the goddess's scripture. Meanwhile, Khan pointed upwards, shouting, "Hey, look. Another orb is forming up there," and sure enough, a radiant sun blossomed into existence right next to the glowing moon. "Whoa, it feels so warm," Karen said, a smile spreading across her face. Leon's voice boomed, continuing the verse, "And on the day the sun and moon rise as one, all who look to the heavens shall kneel and offer a heartfelt prayer." A wave of sacred energy then radiated outwards, crashing into the monsters and making them reel in pain. "Behold, the sanctuary," Elsid declared proudly. "The ultimate counterspell for all heretical arts. This entire space now rejects anything from another dimension," Elsid added. "Now, everyone," Caesar roared, and the whole team charged forward, tearing into the weakened monsters. The smile was finally wiped from the evangelist's face. "This is blasphemy," he shrieked. "You are nothing but livestock belonging to your pathetic goddess." He snapped his fingers. "I will slaughter every last one of you." Suddenly, the remaining chimeras began to convulse, and something burst violently from inside their bodies. The bloody masses flew into the evangelist's hands. He then put on a show of weeping. "Oh, the pain. It grieves me so. To think I had to sacrifice the lives of my precious followers just to deal with a herd of cattle like you." He held up what looked like a pulsating heart and began to squeeze. "Watch closely, you imbeciles," he commanded, a twisted grin on his face. "This is the true grace of my God." All of a sudden, the preacher's form began to twist, consumed by a foul energy. His body swelled with power as massive horns erupted from his skull. Our hero and his elven companion felt a knot of dread tighten in their stomachs. When the transformation was complete, the beast sneered. "What do you little insects think now? Allow me to demonstrate the power my God blessed a simple human like me with." Elsid warned, "Leon, the sanctuary's effect at your level is on a timer. If he's this powerful while it's active, you'll be toast the second it wears off." In the next moment, Khan and Caesar shot past our hero, charging straight for the monster. The elf's weapon bounced off the creature's hide, and Khan followed up with a barrage of his strongest punches, but none of their attacks seemed to even leave a scratch. The monster let out a dark chuckle. "Is that really the best you've got? My turn." With that, its grotesque limbs whipped out to strike. Khan took the first hit, stumbling back in pain. Caesar did his best to parry the next attack. Leon saw it clearly. Now the gap in their power was just too massive. The enemy's raw strength was crushing, and its ability to regenerate and tank damage was on another level entirely. He figured the only thing that could possibly work was a full power strike from the sacred sword. But he had to wonder, could he actually kill it in one shot? If he missed, that was it, their one and only chance would be gone. The preacher gloated, "Ah, I am overflowing with power. You really do all look like tiny bugs from up here." Leon risked a look over his shoulder. He saw Caesar lying defeated in a pile of rubble. Nearby, Khan was also down and looked horribly injured. Damn it, he thought. He knew they had to find a way to take him down in a single blow, but he had no idea if that was even possible. Karen, wincing from her own injuries, pushed herself to her feet. Our hero rushed to her. "Senior, are you okay?" She grunted, "Probably. But forget about me, we're in a really tight spot here." "Neither my attacks nor the Coffin Guardians even phased it," she said. That's when something clicked in our hero's mind. He remembered the terminal that displayed the girl's skills, and his thoughts zeroed in on the Coffin Guardian, specifically the Shadow Step ability. He turned to her urgently. "Miss Guardian, please, I need your strength." She looked surprised. "Oh? Did you come up with some brilliant plan?" Leon explained, "I'm going to get behind him and destroy the altar to stop the ritual. Beating him isn't the goal here." But Karen shut him down. "You're going to get behind him. How? You think you're some kind of mage who can just teleport?" Leon replied, "We can just leap through space itself." To which she shot back, "And how are we supposed to do that?" Our hero was visibly tense, the pressure mounting. Flustered, he almost called her senior again, catching himself. Coffin Guardian. I promise I'll keep your secret if you'll just help me this one time." The girl looked like she was about to have a meltdown from the stress. Leon pressed on, "I don't know your circumstances, but if we fail here, everyone dies. Me, you, and everyone else in this place." Suddenly, she leaped back from him, her expression becoming dead serious. Her reaction honestly startled our hero, but finally, Karen sighed. "You're right. Damn it. I'll help you." Blushing, she then asked, "How long have you known? You should have just told me you knew sooner." Covering her face with her hands, she groaned, "I am going to die of embarrassment." But our hero just waved it off with a joke. "Hey, if I'd said anything, you probably would have killed me." That made the girl laugh. In a flash, a dagger was pressed against Leon's throat. She whispered, "Of course. A woman's secret is a precious thing, after all." Nearby, a completely battered Caesar began to stir. Khan limped over and grumbled, "Hey, Bishop, you gonna lay there all day?" He finished by calling him a weakling. That comment really annoyed the elf, who snarled, "I'm going to kill that bastard." While they were bickering, our hero and Karen were already closing in on the monster. "This is as far as I can take you," she whispered. "You're on your own from here," she added. "He'd definitely notice me if I tried to stay hidden any closer." Our hero just told her, "Don't die." That simple phrase seemed to catch Karen a little off guard. She scoffed as her coffin guardian materialized around her. "Ha! Never thought I'd see the day someone from the church was worried about me." Elcid explained in his mind, "Shadow Step is a technique for leaping through space that's difficult even for mages. She'll only be able to get you to the one perfect spot." Leon thought, "That's all I need. It's more than enough to get behind him." A moment later, our hero stepped out of the shadows right behind the creature. As he approached a massive hole in the ground, Leon knew. This must be the heart of the city devourer's ritual. Tense, our hero wondered, "Is this the essence of life?" Elcid's voice confirmed it grimly. "It is. That's the result of sacrificing more than 10,000 lives." Our hero drew his holy sword, his voice shaking with fury. "This is unforgivable." A shocked shout from Caesar, brother Leon, made him realize something was terribly wrong. He never even saw it coming. The creature had pierced him straight through with one of its hideous limbs. He coughed up blood from the severe wound as Elcid desperately screamed, "Leon!" The monster hissed, "Just give up, you dog of the goddess." Lifting him off the ground, it gloated, "You've just lost your last chance. You must accept your inevitable death," it rasped. "Consider it a blessing from my god." Caesar yelled again, "Brother Leon," while Khan charged forward, roaring, "You idiot!" But with a single, casual swipe, the monster easily knocked both of his companions aside. The evangelist chuckled, "No reason to get so irritated. You'll all be ending up just like him soon enough." The monster started laughing. "What? Is he dead already?" Our hero thought, "Death? Am I going to die here without stopping malice or doing anything heroic?" He could hear Elcid shouting something, but the words were muffled, as if underwater. He vaguely thought about their promise to go to the Titan mountain range together. He thought he might not be able to keep that promise after all. As his life faded, the last word on his mind was promise. He recalled someone's voice saying, "I'll believe in your promise because you're the kind of person who will keep any promise he makes, no matter what happens." Our hero's hand shot up and gripped the grotesque limb. With a clean slice of his weapon, he cut himself free. The creature actually looked surprised by the move. Leon fell, rolling away as he hit the ground. With tremendous difficulty, our hero began to get back on his feet. He thought, "There's no chance of winning." But the destiny of a hero is to always look for the path to victory. "That's what my master, who always pushed me forward, taught me," he resolved. "So I will move forward, no matter what." Elcid watched him, tense with anticipation. Leon declared, "I will finish you and save everyone, like a true hero." The creature just laughed. "You cursed brat. I'll give you this. You're tenacious. You're practically a walking corpse, yet you're still holding a sword." The monster sneers. "If that's all you've got, you better brace yourself," before unleashing a whole new barrage of attacks on our hero. All of a sudden, the old master Rodri declares that he can't just watch anymore. Popping up at our hero's side, he tells Leon he fought well, but now it's his turn to step in. He tells his hot-headed disciple to pay close attention, and Leon gives him a satisfied look. As sacred energy erupts from his body, Leon lets out a battle cry. 7-star sword. The celestial sigils blaze to life. Great chariot, Merak, and in the blink of an eye, our hero's blade skewers the monster clean through. The beast looks completely stunned, glancing behind itself and stammering, "When did you?" And before it can finish the thought, its head is sent flying from its body. The dismembered head rolls across the floor, still shouting, "How dare you strike me again? Did you really think cutting off my head would be the end of it? This is just a scratch." But just then, the monster's tirade cuts off as it realizes, with dawning horror, that it's not regenerating at all. Leon cracks a smirk and asks, "Still kicking, even without a head? You're a resilient one. Or was this pathetic state what you were aiming for all along? Hey, you should go join Doan's crew. You fit right in walking around headless." The creature absolutely seethes with rage. "Your insolence is a debt that can't be repaid even with all the blood in your body." Rodri warns him, "Leon, you're injured. Your body might not handle a second attack. Are you sure about this?" Our hero just gives a determined nod, and Rodri sighs, "Very well, but this is going to cost you." The stars light up the sky again, the great chariot, and this time Dubhe as our hero unleashes another ferocious assault on the wicked beast. The monster shrieks, "Why? What is happening? Why am I not healing? Why are my dark arts failing me?" The evangelist roars, "If this is how it ends, then I'm taking you all down with me." He begins to form a massive, swirling vortex of pure evil, screaming, "Die. Everyone just die with me." With a grin, our boy says, "I had a feeling you'd pull a stunt like this, so I held back a little. Now, it's time to really blow you to bits." The creature's expression finally shifts to one of genuine fear. Rodri shouts, "Leon, don't waste a single moment. The true power of the seven-star sword is in combining its forms." He continues, "You're far too inexperienced to wield even one of them properly, but you should be able to manage one final, unique move." Once more, the constellations appear as he activates this sacred cross skill. The holy attack blasts towards the corrupted creature, striking it dead center. Our hero phases right through it, leaving nothing but shattered remnants in his wake. Its very life force begins to crumble. As it claws desperately to avoid being dragged into the abyss, the monster realizes its self-destruction failed because its core was shattered. "Impossible," it howls. Unable to fight the pressure, it screams, "It's sucking me in." In utter despair, it gasps, "It can't end like this." But in the next instant, the city devourer materializes behind it, its massive jaws open, and it gobbles the creature up like a piece of popcorn. The devourer slams violently against the stone floor, but a moment later, the portal snaps shut, and the colossal beast vanishes without a trace. El Cid lets out a low whistle. "Man, that was a close one." Our hero asks, "Is it over?" His master replies, "It seems the devourer was content with a small snack since its main course was destroyed." Rahiro looks completely shell-shocked. "If we'd been just a few seconds slower," he stammers, "we all would have been on that thing's menu, too." The companions start to pull themselves together, and just as El Cid is about to tell Leon he did a great job, Leon suddenly collapses. He sinks to his knees, dropping his weapon and letting out a raw scream of pain. Caesar rushes to his side, calling out, "Brother Leon." Leon manages to gasp, "Your Excellency." But the elf quickly cuts him off. "Don't speak. I'm going to heal you right now." Channeling his sacred magic, he begins to mend our hero's wounds. Despite being seriously injured himself, Caesar manages a weak smile. "That was close," he says. "I'm so glad I wasn't too late." But Leon just tells him, "You should treat your own injuries first." With a cheerful face, Karen jogs up and asks her junior, "So, did we win?" She adds, "I saw this huge flash when I got here, and then poof, it was gone." "Was that you who took it down?" Leon. Khan, looking totally bewildered, chimes in, "What was all that about a ritual? Can someone please explain what in the world just happened?" Leon explains, "We stopped the city devourer from being summoned. The evangelist got eaten by it, so he should be 100% dead." He then turns to the elf and says, "I think I'm about to pass out. Caesar, I'm leaving the rest to you." And in the next moment, he slumps to the ground, completely unconscious, as Karen cries out for her junior. El Cid looks down from above, a satisfied smirk on his face. Seeing our hero passed out on the floor, he thinks, "Good job, Leon." And that's where the video ends for today. If you don't want to miss the next chapter of the story, go ahead and ring that notification bell, and I'll catch you all next time on Tob's channel.